And we are live for week 5. We're over 1 month into the season, everyone. We're starting an hour early this morning because we are on London time for the first time of the season. I'm pumped. It honestly does not feel like morning to me anymore. I've been adjusting to London time throughout the week. We got back to back London time games, weeks 5, 6, and 7 on Sunday morning. So I hope you're going to all get used to this cadence. We're going to have a game going on during most of the live stream today, kicking off in just an hour in London. Shout out to everybody already in this live stream. There's going to be a lot, and I'm telling you, a lot of people not on London time this morning asking start-sit questions about this game after the game's already started, and that is not you. So shout out to you guys for being here when you need to be here and being here, early in the morning. There is a lot of start-sit decisions to get through. The plan today, I'm going to do things a little bit differently today now that we're on London time. I'm really going to be prioritizing the London start-sit questions in the first 60 minutes of the live stream. We're going to talk a lot about this Jets-Vikings game. We're going to prioritize the start-sit questions in that game. I also have a couple free player props I like in this Jets-Vikings game. We're going to get to that in a second as well. And then in the back part of the live stream, once the game starts, then I'm going to go game by game for all of the games we're going to see this week, break down my thoughts, then we'll get back to the comments in the start-sit questions. All right. So I want to make sure I'm prioritizing the Jets start-sit questions and the Vikings start-sit questions. And Connie had a good question here in the chat this morning of Tyreek versus Addison. Before I get to this start-sit comment, and we're going to get to a ton of the start-sits here, especially for the game about to kick off between the Jets and the Vikings in less than an hour now in London. We're on London time this morning. I got the Weatherman Sam hat on today because there's a decent amount of weather to discuss this week, including the game in London. All right. So first of all, the weather in the game in London, there's going to be some rain. There's going to be a decent amount of rain across games today in general. I personally, I'm not scared of the rain. There's no evidence or data suggesting that rain negatively impacts offenses, particularly passing offenses. Absolutely no data suggesting that. These are NFL professional players. They can play in the rain. They can play in the rain. What I'm most scared about is the wind. There's not supposed to be significant wind in this London game. We are going to see rain, most likely, in this game in London. There's a couple other games we're going to see rain in today. I'll get to that later on in the live stream. But this is a really interesting question here on the Vikings side of the ball. Let me start with the Jets, though. We're going to get to the start sit of Tyreek versus Addison. So the New York Jets are underdogs in this game versus Sam Darnold. Revenge game here for Sam Darnold versus the Jets in London. Breece Hall, I think Breece Hall was one of the more obvious buy low candidates in fantasy football heading into this game. I can't tell you how many people were asking comments on the recap live on Tuesday, asking comments in the Discord. By the way, if you haven't joined the Discord yet, don't know what you're waiting for. Link to the Discord in the YouTube description. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. Breece Hall coming off his worst game of the season, 3.8 points last week for Breece. Only 4 rushing yards for Breece Hall. Got stuffed at the goal line, too. He had 2 goal line carries. Didn't convert either of them. One of the storylines I'm watching closely this week for sure is Braelon Allen, the goal line back for the Jets now? Again, I'm going to get to that start-sit comment. Don't worry. Going to get back to that, Connie. But I think there's a good chance we see some more goal line work for Braelon Allen in this game. I still think Breece is a must-start in all situations. Still ranks as a top 10 running back. Not the best matchup for him against the Vikings, but definitely still a must-start. Garrett Wilson, I also think is a must-start. Guys, start Garrett Wilson. This is by far the best matchup of Garrett Wilson's season, and it's honestly not that close. The Vikings have been absolutely torched in the secondary this season. Garrett Wilson has played 2 top 3 secondaries in the Titans and the Broncos, just in terms of fantasy points allowed. The 49ers also ranked in the top half of the league, and the Patriots, they haven't ranked great, but they do have some good high-end secondaries, high-end players in the secondary to match up against the top receiver of opposing teams. Look at how receivers have done versus this Vikings defense. Malik Nabers and Wandale combined over 20 points. Debo had 18 points. Aiyuk and Debo together had over 25 points. Diggs and Collins over 30 points combined. You add in Tank Dell, they were almost at 40 points in that game. Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks both went over 20 points last week. This team has been crushed on the boundary by outside wide receivers. That's going to be Garrett Wilson in this game. So Garrett Wilson's a must start for sure. I think Aaron Rodgers, kind of a sneaky play this week. His prop line in this one is at 225. He's coming off a game where he just threw for that against the Broncos. Aaron Rodgers, this is also the best game of the season for him matchup-wise. He's played 4 top half defenses: 49ers, Titans, Pats, and Broncos. The Vikings, again, their secondary has struggled. I do think Rodgers will continue sort of somewhat of a hot streak he's on over the last couple of games. He's definitely looked better. That's it for the starts, though. It's Brees, it's Garrett Wilson. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a must start. I think he's kind of just a sneaky sleeper in this game. I don't want to start Mike Williams, even in the good matchup, because it's tough to know between him and Allen Lazard who's going to get more targets. I do think one of these guys will probably have a good game, but definitely not a startable really in fantasy. And then Braelon Allen, I'd prefer not to start him. This is not a great matchup. I'm curious to see if he gets the goal line work. But guys, make no mistake about it. Braelon Allen is still just a high-end handcuff who has some standalone value. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, I'm telling you, come to the YouTube live where I can share my screen. I can pull up comments on screen, and you can see all my rankings. Let me pull up the QB rankings here on the YouTube live quick as I get going. Again, we're going to focus really in on this London time game. Make sure I get to as many London start-sit questions as I could possibly get to over the next 50 minutes. Then we'll talk about the rest of the slate after that. I'm sure some of the slate will come up too in these start-sit. All right, so for the Vikings side of the ball, Justin Jefferson, tough matchup for him, still a must-start, obviously. Aaron Jones, not the best matchup for him either, still a must-start, though. Top 10 running back in points per game this season. He's got a floor of about 10 points, a ceiling over 20. The role has been really good, and he's coming off his biggest role of the season in his revenge game against the Packers last week, over 80% snap share for him. He also ran a route in over 70% of the passing plays, 5 targets, and 22 carries. He had 27 opportunities for Aaron Jones last week. Didn't score a touchdown. If he did, he would have been over 25 points. So Aaron Jones, a must start. Sam Darnold is not a guy I want to start this week versus the Jets. Jordan Addison. I think there's going to be a lot of Jordan Addison questions. We got one in the chat already in the YouTube live. I do not think Jordan Addison is a must start in this game. This is not a great matchup for Jordan Addison. I would gladly start Tyreek Hill over Jordan Addison. I've been a big proponent of buying Tyreek Hill really since the Tua injury, really since it became clear that Tua was planning to come back somewhat soon. I've been trying to buy Tyreek Hill in every single league. Obviously, Tua not back this week, but this is not that scary of a matchup for Tyreek. The Patriots have some good players in the secondary, but the pass defense is all types of banged up. Tyreek, his floor, I also think has been a little bit underrated. As bad as Tyreek has been, in comparison to what Tyreek should be, he's been over 6.5 points in every game. It's not like he's scoring 0 points. He's also played 3 top 8 secondaries in the last 3 weeks in terms of fantasy points allowed. The Patriots rank bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed to receivers this season. I think we see several big plays from the Dolphins offense today, whether that be Achane, Tyreek, or both. I don't think Tyreek's a bad start today. I still think he has a really high ceiling, and he still has a pretty good floor. The floor is still around 10 points for Tyreek. He's still going to be a focal point of the offense, and the ceiling is still north of 25 points for Tyreek Hill in his explosiveness. So yeah, I'm gladly starting Tyreek Hill over Addison. Much better matchup and much better player. Better player, better matchup, maybe worse overall offensive, systemic environment, but I'm willing to overlook that in a start sit like this. I'm gladly starting Tyreek over Jordan Addison. Guys, shout out to everyone in this live stream right now. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, let's get to 100 likes before the London time game. We're on London time this morning, which is why I'm live an extra hour early for all of you. We got a question here, Wandale or Wicks? Yeah, it's Wicks for me, pretty easily. Wandale's in line for a massive role, man, for the Giants this week. And I still don't really love starting him. I've definitely been too low on Wandale in the past, but yeah, I'm gladly going to start Wicks. I'm gladly going to start Josh Downs over Wandale. This is a good one of Wicks versus Tyreek. Wicks versus Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I think I do lean Wicks and Downs both over Tyreek Hill today. Wicks and Downs both very strong starts today, guys. Joe Flacco is starting. That's massive. Brees Hall or Braelon. Yeah, definitely going Brees. I'm Garrett Wilson versus Josh Downs. I'm playing Garrett Wilson over Josh Downs. I'm playing Garrett Wilson over pretty much everyone I'm going to see in the start sit comments. Garrett Wilson versus Steph Diggs. That's maybe kind of close. Honestly, I think I'd go Garrett Wilson over Pickens, who we have ranked ahead of. I think I'd go Garrett Wilson over Deontay Johnson. I even would consider Garrett Wilson over Chris Olave. Like, I really consider Garrett Wilson like at the back end of the top 10 receivers this week. I'm going to play Pittman over Garrett Wilson. I'll play Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Debo, Jefferson, Chase, Jaden Reed, Nico Lamb. That's it. End of list. Then it's Garrett Wilson for me. I'm playing Garrett Wilson over Amari, over Diggs, over Pickens, over Deontay personally. They all project really close. But yeah, I'm easily starting Garrett Wilson over DJ Moore, Brian Thomas Jr. I like Dontavian Wicks a lot this week, not starting him over Garrett Wilson. I think I would probably go Achane over Ford. That one's pretty close, though. Let me pull up the wide receiver rankings here on the YouTube Live. Let's go to the wide receiver rankings on the TikTok Live here as well. I got the wide receiver ranks up now, tiered wide receiver rankings up on the TikTok Live. If you're watching live on TikTok, again, come to the YouTube Live. Better viewing experience on the YouTube Live. All right, let me make sure I'm prioritizing these not Thursday night, the Sunday morning start sit questions here, because we're going to have a long live stream today. I'm going to get to every single player in every single game, but we do have a game coming up in 50 minutes. Garrett Wilson, a good play this morning. Yeah, so let's just jump right to it. I got 3 free player props for the live day. We went 0-2 on Thursday night. We missed by half a yard with Bucky Irving because he fumbled. That was pretty rough. But, we're going to have some lucky ones. We're going to have some unlucky ones. That's how it goes. We're still 10-7 this season. I got 2 free player props. 2 of them are both Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson beats both of these lines pretty handedly today. Over 4.5 receptions, over 54.5 receiving yards for Garrett Wilson. Again, this is a very good matchup for a receiver that has not had very many good matchups this season. Garrett Wilson's been publicly complaining about his role. I do think he gets more work this week in a good matchup, in a game where the Jets are underdogs. He's played 2 top 3 defenses against receivers in terms of fantasy points allowed in his last 3 games. The 2 other games, he went over 12 points. He beat this line. He's beat this line in half of his games. And again, this is by far the best matchup of his season. So yeah, I like Garrett Wilson's lines today over 54.5. I actually saw it at 53.5 in some places, and then over 4.5 receptions. The odds on that one aren't great, but that feels borderline lock territory for Garrett Wilson over 4.5 receptions. All right, we got some Sunday morning start sits here. We got Garrett Wilson, Jaden Reed, Brian Thomas Jr., DJ Moore, Amari Cooper. Yes, you're benching Brian Thomas Jr. and DJ Moore here. You definitely have to start Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is a locked-in must start, as Jaden Reed is wide receiver 3 this week. It goes Lamb, Nico, Reed. He's ahead of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in projections this week. Jaden Reed is an absolute smash. Has to be started. And that's, similar reasons why I like Wicks this week. Like, it's not that crazy to think Wicks could outscore Jaden Reed. I think Reed's floor is much better, though. But yeah, I'm going Garrett Wilson, Jaden Reed, and I think Amari here. Let's do Amari versus Brian Thomas Jr. and versus DJ Moore. I think the answer here is Amari. Yeah, Amari does have a really good matchup versus the Commander secondary, who played a little bit better last week. But all right, let me get to this one here from the Discord. And by the way, if you're not in the Discord yet, you got to join the Discord. Link is in the YouTube description. If you're watching live on TikTok, the link to the YouTube's in the TikTok bio. The link to the Discord's in the YouTube description. If you are a WalterPicks App subscriber, I'm going to get to all of your start-sit questions every single week in the Discord. And I'll also prioritize those on the live stream. Again, we're about to get to this game, Vikings-Jets. I'll talk through what I think is going to happen in this game. But I gave my high-level opinions here of the must-starts, and I really like the Garrett Wilson props in this game. Wan'Dale or Zay Flowers in a full PPR league. I think that one leans Wan'Dale in PPR. All right, so we got Sermon, Ferguson, Tracy, and Madison. Ferguson versus Sermon. I don't like starting 2 tight ends, but Ferguson does project as tight end 2 this week. He's had a really high floor. Tracy is going to be in a lot of start-sit questions today. Understandably, same thing with Trey Sermon. The difference between those 2 guys is pretty close. Yeah, the answer here is Ferguson. The answer here is Ferg. Play Ferg. I think Ferguson's the answer to this one. And I wouldn't start Jordan Whittington over Ferguson, who's probably on the waiver wire too. I expect to see him in some start sits today. Good morning, everyone who's tuned in. Guys, we are in London time this morning. We are in London time. Burrow or Darnold, thanks. Yeah, don't start Sam Darnold. Don't start Sam Darnold today. Let me go to the QBs here on the TikTok Live. Let's talk through the quarterbacks just briefly here. I really don't think either of the quarterbacks about to be playing are must starts. I don't think either of the quarterbacks playing today are must starts this morning. Excuse me. Aaron Rodgers, I would prefer, I think, over Sam Darnold in this one, though. I don't know if that's where the projections landed. Yeah, we got Darnold ahead of Rodgers. I don't like Darnold that much against this Jets secondary. He's been good in every single game. He's been a top 14 quarterback in every game. This is definitely the toughest matchup he's had yet, though. I think I honestly prefer Rodgers in this matchup over Darnold, but really all to say, you shouldn't be starting either of them because I prefer Joe Flacco over both guys. Guys, Joe Flacco's a good start this week. He's a good start this week. I actually have Flacco higher in my ranks than in the WalterPicks app. Like, I'm fine starting Flacco over Deshaun, over Caleb Williams, both who are in pretty good matchups. I don't think it's even that crazy to go with Flacco over Trevor Lawrence, who has struggled this season. Both those guys playing against each other in that game. Both are pretty decent back-end starts. I'm playing Flacco over Mahomes this week. I don't think you can start Patrick Mahomes this week. I would probably play Dak over Flacco, Geno over Flacco, Stroud over Flacco. But yeah, I prefer all of these guys to Sam Darnold and to Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I really don't think those guys are must starts in this game. Again, I think Flacco, Rodgers has a pretty good chance to beat that 225 line that they set. But yeah, I'm playing Garrett Wilson over Christian Kirk. Guys, start Garrett Wilson. Start Garrett Wilson in this game due to injury. I have Moss. Would you flex Chase Brown or Leggett? Yeah, I think this one is probably Leggett. Let's see here. Not a great matchup for the Panthers receivers today. Definitely a little bit nervous for Deontay Johnson in this one, but the volume should be there. But yeah, it's Xavier Leggett over Chase Brown. You're playing Jordan Love over Sam Darnold like so easily. So easily. You got to make your layups. This one is a layup. Jordan Love gets a great matchup versus the Rams. Jordan Love looked fantastic last week. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to take away from what Sam Darnold's done this season. He's looked good, but this is not a good matchup for quarterbacks against the Jets. They've actually been the stone cold worst matchup for quarterbacks. Granted, they haven't played the best quarterbacks. They played Will Levis, Jacoby Brissett, and Bo Nix in their last 3 games. Brock Purdy did nothing in week 1, but not a single quarterback has gone over 12.5 points against the Jets defense this season, guys. Against the Jets defense. I'm playing Garrett Wilson over Amari Cooper. I'm playing Pittman over Aiyuk for sure. I think I'd go Mahomes over Darnold. I don't really love Mahomes this week, but I don't think you can really start Darnold in this matchup. Daniels or Love. I have Reed, so I kind of want to stack and B-Rob or Ford. Yeah, I'm fine going Love for the stack, Landon. I'm fine going for that upside. I do think Daniels projects a bit better, but there's definitely a little of uncertainty with Daniels. This is definitely going to be his toughest matchup to date. So I think Love is a fine play. I mean, they project really close together. I personally would start Daniels, but if you got the stack, I'm fine with going Love. Reed stack is a really good one today. My biggest fear with the Packers passing attack today is just, can the Rams keep pace? Can the Rams offense keep pace? Because if the Rams offense can keep pace, at least somewhat for most of the game, Love is going to smash. Reed is going to smash. Dontavian Wicks is probably going to smash. Tucker Kraft probably going to smash. Like at least 2 of those 3 receivers I just mentioned probably going to smash, as long as the Packers need to throw the ball in this game. If not, it's going to be a huge Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson day. The Rams defense is not good. Is not good. All right, let's go back to this game really quickly. Again, I do like Garrett Wilson as a start today. Love or Allen. You can't really bench Josh Allen this week. You can't. The Bills are slight underdogs versus the Texans. The Texans ranked 20th versus quarterbacks this season. We've already seen Anthony Richardson and Sam Darnold go over 20 points. I mean, Allen's just locked in for over 20 points this week. Easily could be the QB1 on the week. Would not be shocking at all. We are on London time this morning. Let's go, man. Facing Jay Jettas, benching Kyler versus San Francisco, Darnold or Geno. Yeah, so if you're going to bench Kyler, which I'm not sure you should, I'm playing Kyler over Darnold like pretty easily. Then I'm going to go Geno over Darnold. Definitely Geno over Darnold. PPR bench 1, Cooper, Pickens, Deontay, Wicks. As always, thanks, Manny. I got you. Amari Cooper, Pickens, Deontay, Wicks. Oh, man, yeah, this is a tough one. Here, I think all of these guys project ahead of Wicks. I almost want to go Wicks over Deontay, who ranks a little bit better than him, probably a little bit better of a floor. I would argue the ceiling, though, is even better for Wicks than Deontay in this one. The Bears rank 8th best versus receivers. The Rams ranked 25th against receivers. I think Amari Cooper's in a great spot. I also think Pickens is an underrated spot. There's some weather expected that game. Let's jump to the weather here, because I know some of you are probably overreacting to what some of the weather reports are getting. Yeah, honestly, I think I'd bench Deontay here. I'm playing Wicks over Deontay. I'm fine with that. I got Deontay ahead in my ranks. I think Deontay is more of a floor play, though. Let me go to the high-level takes here. Let's actually jump to We'll go to the running backs here. I'll pull the running back ranks here as well. Really some tough running back decisions this week. Let's talk through this. I think in this game, both running backs need to be started for sure. Aaron Jones and Breece Hall, especially when you look at the running back decisions across the league this week. Najee Harris is in a good spot. I think he's a must-start player. He ranks as a top 10 running back this week. Chuba Hubbard and Jerome Ford, both sneaky back-end running back ones this week. Both locked into massive roles against pretty bad run defenses. Chuba Hubbard and Jerome Ford, I do think, are pretty sneaky sleepers this week. Travis Etienne, I think you got to trust. Etienne, in most start sits, I think you got to start Etienne. Kenneth Walker is going to be a smash. He gets the Giants. Kenneth Walker could easily be running back one this week. Derrick Henry gets a good matchup again against the Bengals. See if he can keep his touchdown streak going. He probably will. Kyron Williams is arguably the best role of any player in the entire NFL for fantasy. Maybe only after Alvin Kamara, who has the toughest possible running back matchup this week against the Chiefs. He still ranks as running back 3. Still got to be started. Aaron Jones ranks as running back 6. Has to be started. Breece Hall has to be started. Running back 8 this week. Then you get a little bit farther down, Devon Achane. I still think he's a decent start against the Pats defense this week. Mostert's going to be back. Obviously, this offense has struggled. I do think they likely win this game, the Miami Dolphins. Javonte Williams is sort of a non-exciting floor play, but you could do much worse. James Conner still startable. Brian Robinson, I'm a little bit scared about this week. He picked up a knee injury. Brown's not the best matchup. Eckler's back too, but he still projects decently, still can be started. Alexander Mattison, Zamir White's out this week. Zamir White should be on the waiver wire in every single fantasy league. Madison also projects for decent volume. I'm fine starting Madison over a guy like Kareem Hunt. And then you get into this really sketchy territory. Really, this territory of running back 20 to running back 25. There's going to be so many starts about these guys. Kareem Hunt, Tyrone Tracy, Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Sermon, Cam Akers, Zach Moss. I'm starting all of these guys over Zach Moss. I'm not very interested in Zach Moss this week. Tough matchup versus the Ravens. Chase Brown looked better than him last week. I don't think there's a huge ceiling for Zach Moss this week. I prefer Cam Akers, Trey Sermon, Mondre, Tyrone Tracy, and Hunt over him. And then when it comes to, there was a start-sit question in the Discord that is extremely tough. Again, if you want to join the Discord, link is in the YouTube description. It's a free Discord, but also there's some premium channels for everyone that's a WalterPicks App subscriber. Sermon or Eckler? Yeah, I'd lead Sermon over Eckler. Sermon is startable. He's not a must start, but he's startable. And the more I looked into the matchup for Trey Sermon, the more I liked him. The Jaguars are a really bad matchup. I mean, a really bad defense against running backs. Tyrone Tracy, though, is actually the guy I think I'd prefer to start over everyone here. I think Tracy is the safest floor because he's going to have the best receiving role of these three guys, Tracy, Sermon, and Akers. I think Sermon arguably has the highest touchdown ceiling. And Akers, honestly, is the one I'd bench out of these three if I had to choose. Akers already has been struggling. We've already seen Akers in this role. He hasn't beat 10 points yet. And this game environment should be good. This Texans-Bills game, I think, will be the highest scoring game left of the week. By the way, if you listen to the Thursday Night Live, you were not surprised that Bucs-Falcons game was extremely high scoring. We talked about how those defenses had struggled heading into that game. But yeah, this Texans-Bills game should be massively high scoring. I still am pretty scared to start Cam Akers, who's not been efficient. He's averaging 3.7 yards per carry this season. He has not scored a rushing touchdown yet. Agumba Wale stealing a lot of the receiving work. J.J. Taylor got involved last week for the Texans too. He might steal goal line touches. See, I prefer Tracy and Sermon over Akers. And I think I would play it safe. In PPR, I'm going Tracy over Sermon. In half PPR, it's Sermon over Tracy. Sermon has a better chance to score a touchdown. Tracy has a better chance to catch a bunch of passes. Tracy is a good pass-catching running back. He's also been pretty inefficient, and this Giants offense might be the least talented offensive roster in the history of offensive rosters in week 5 of the NFL season. All right, let's get back to some of these start-sits. Moore or Wicks? Yeah, I think I lean Wicks over Moore. Go to wide receivers. I got you with the receivers. I'm even willing to get more aggressive with Wicks. Like, I'm fine starting Wicks over Moore. I got Moore just ahead of him. This is actually a revenge game for DJ Moore against the Panthers. Just realizing that. I got them in the same tier, though. I think it's really close. Fine going either way. This one, Sermon versus Achane. It's got to be Achane. It's got to be Achane over Sermon. Has to be. Again, if you're just joining, we got a game starting, guys, in 30 minutes. We're on London time this morning. I love this time of year. By the way, this is my favorite part of the season that we're getting into. We got the bye weeks going on now, so we're thinking about Trey Sermon in our starting lineups. It does not get better than this. It does not get more advantageous than this, too. This is the time of year you're up against the worst, much worse lineups Like, this is really where the better managers thrive. This is where the better fantasy managers thrive. This part of the season is really when you start to separate yourself and start to set yourself up to win your fantasy league. When your league mates are complaining about all their injuries, and you're grinding the waiver wire, and you're adding Trey Sermon, and you're adding Josh Downs, and Joe Flacco as a sneaky start this week. You're getting Tucker Kraft and Colby Parkinson. Like, there's some real top 5 options off the waivers this week that the better managers are going to have. And then you got to also sweat some of these tougher start sit decisions. This one's not that tough. You got to start Achane over Sermon. I mean, if there's 2 polar opposite players in the NFL, it's these 2. And Sermon arguably is a better matchup this week. And I know Achane struggled and the Dolphins have struggled, but yeah, this has got to be Achane, man, over Sermon. Absolutely not starting Sermon over Achane. Achane's not down that bad. And then Sermon versus Najee Harris. These are not polar opposite players. But guys, Najee Harris is an absolute must start this week. Akers or Sermon? Yeah, I'm going Sermon over Akers. We were just talking about that one. Let me go back to the receiver ranks here on the YouTube live. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. We are on London time this morning. We are just getting started. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, hit the follow button. Also consider coming to the YouTube live, because on the YouTube live, you see all the same ranks, but it's actually a better viewing experience. I can pull up comments on screen. I can share screen to the game logs we're discussing. Like, I get it. I get not wanting to start Najee Harris. I got Najee Harris, unfortunately, on a couple of my fantasy teams too, but this is a smash spot for Najee Harris. And to be fair to Najee Harris, he has played 3 defenses that rank top 12 against running backs this season to open the season. The Falcons ranked 8th best, Broncos ranked 11th, Chargers ranked 10th, Colts ranked 16th. So he's played 4 defenses that rank in the top half of the league against running backs. And now he gets the Dallas Cowboys, who have been absolutely smoked on the ground this season. Jerome Ford was a top 12 running back. Kamara was a top running back. Henry and Kamara combined for 74 points against the Cowboys. And last week, the running back struggled, but that was the Giants, the Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy. Najee's locked in for at least 15 carries in this game. There's no Jalen Warren again. There's no Cordero Patterson in this one either. And it's supposed to rain in that one. Let's actually jump to the weather report quick. Jerome Ford will get, yeah, I like Ford this week. I'd go Ford. And I'm playing Wicks over Christian Kirk like pretty easy. Let me go to my must starts, must benches here on the YouTube live or the TikTok live. And let me also pull up the Weatherman Sam report here, because I got the Weatherman Sam hat on for a reason to start the live today. I think there's going to be a lot of over panicking about weather today. Let's talk through it really quick. So first of all, there's going to be rain in this Vikings-Jets game in London. It rains all the time in London. It's going to rain today. I don't think you should really care about that at all. The Cowboys-Steelers game tonight, going to have potentially a decent amount of rain. The Colts-Jaguars game, going to have some rain. I actually think the Colts-Jaguars game is potential to have the most rain, followed by the Cowboys-Steelers, followed by the Vikings-Jets. But there's no wind of concern here. Do not panic about these games. Do not panic about the rain in the Vikings-Jets game, the Cowboys-Steelers game, the Colts-Jaguars game. Be prepared to see rain. Don't be surprised by the rain, but don't panic. There is a little bit of moderate concern for this Bears-Panthers game. I feel like this Bears-Panthers game is really shaping up to be one of the ugliest games of the week. There's not rain in that game, but there's sustained winds around 20 miles an hour with 28-mile-an-hour wind gusts. The threshold of concern for me, based on all the research I have done and all the data I have seen, is 25-mile-an-hour wind. So getting wind gusts over that threshold, kind of scary. The sustained winds under that threshold makes it just a moderate concern. There's not going to be wind gusts, constantly. But this is already a Caleb Williams-led Bears offense that has struggled throwing the ball, a Panthers team that's going to run through the running backs. I think the Bears could lean pretty run-heavy today. I think Swift is a decent start. I also think Roschon Johnson might get more work like we expected last week. I think he could have a pretty good game here against the Panthers. I still think Roschon might be the goal line back for the Bears. So decent shot, I think, for him to score a touchdown today. But yeah, the only game I'm moderately concerned about weather-wise today, despite all of the rain across a bunch of games, it's the Bears-Panthers game. That's it. Brian Thomas or Stephon Diggs. Yeah, I like Brian Thomas, guys. Brian Thomas he's looked great. I also really like Steph Diggs this week. I think that I'd go Diggs. This is a true revenge game here for Diggs. Like, we talk about revenge games all the time. Like technically, we got a revenge game for Sam Darnold versus the Jets. But that's kind of like just a narrative revenge game. Like, this is a real revenge game for Diggs. Like, the Bills moved on from Stephon Diggs. There was some real tension there. I think Stephon Diggs has a big game today and a lot of work. The Bills defense is pretty banged up in this game. Texans are favored in this game. Obviously, the Bills offense is going to be able to keep pace, though, which they weren't able to do last week. Brian Thomas Jr., though, he's in a great matchup. Great matchup. Like, I want to start Brian Thomas Jr. as well. Prop of the week. Yeah, so I am going to jump to the prop because I have two props that I like in this game that's about to start, and both of them are for the same player. I did take these ones myself. I do take all the player props I recommend myself on these lives. Garrett Wilson over 4.5 receptions. Garrett Wilson over 54.5 receiving yards. Guys, lock these ones in. This is by far the best matchup of Garrett Wilson's season. The Jets are underdogs in this game, 2.5-point underdogs in London. They're likely to be behind at points in this game. The Vikings' run defense has been good. Their pass defense has been bad. One of the past funnel defenses of the league right now. I think Aaron Rodgers' pass yards is pretty interesting too at 225. He had that last week against the Broncos. This is a much better matchup than that, obviously. Garrett Wilson, guys, he's been a buy for me pretty much since the season started. If Devontae Adams gets traded here, that's going to blow up in my face for sure. But I think underratedly, the matchup has dictated some of this Garrett Wilson stuff. He played the Titans and Broncos, both ranked top 3 against receivers and points per game allowed. In his one good matchup against the Pats, who like arguably are not the best matchup for top receivers because they have some good high-end corners, he scored a touchdown, went for 14 points. Only 33 yards in that game, but 5 catches. And that was a game against the Pats where they were leading the whole time. This game, they are unlikely to lead the whole time. So the 4.5 receptions line, I mean, the odds aren't great, but that feels like a smash. I think he's going to have at least 6 catches in this game. I think he goes for his most yards of the season today. Could easily crack 100 yards. So yeah, I like this Garrett Wilson prop a lot. And then the other prop I do like, which is tonight, is Najee Harris over rushing yards, over 70 rushing yards. For Najee, I think Najee cracked 100 rushing yards tonight against the Cowboys, who have really struggled against the run. There's going to be some rain in that game. I think they will take the ball out of Fields' hands a little bit more passing-wise because of that. No Jalen Warren, no Cordero Patterson. Najee's locked into at least 15 carries. Wouldn't shock me to see him get over 20 carries. Najee's a must start, and I like his rushing prop a lot this week too. That's the prop of the week. All right, let's get to some tight end questions here. I haven't pulled up the tight end ranks here. I saw some tight end questions. I will be trying to do my best to prioritize the Sunday morning start sit question. We got a game starting in 25 minutes. 25 minutes. We got the Vikings Jets kicking off. I'm pumped for it, man. I do have it on in front of me, so I'll be following along with the game, but of course I'll be locked in. I'll be locked in for the slate of games this week and talking through all the start sits. Let's find a tight end question here to pull up. Kraft or Bowers? I saw Bowers or Ferguson. Yeah, so Ferguson, the rankings, I think the tiers are pretty clear. Kelce, Ferg. Tier 1 and they're both tier 1. I honestly think Kelce might just be the only tier 1 guy. One of the storylines I'm watching closely this week, and I'll get to this Kraft Bowers question. Let me just pull it up so I don't forget here in the WalterPicks app. I think, this is a reasonable question. I know what I think. I think I know what Walter thinks too. We'll get to this in a second. But one of the storylines I'm following, pretty closely this week, and we won't see this till tomorrow night, but is Travis Kelce, is he already going to separate as the clear tight end 1? Because in my mind, he's already the clear tight end 1. Price goes down. We saw him break out last week for his best game of the season. And he's just the top receiver now for Pat Mahomes. It sounds like they're going to try to trade for a receiver, but Kelce's locked in, guys, every single week to a 20+% target share with Pat Mahomes, with no receivers. There's just not many tight ends in an environment like that with a quarterback like that. In the history of Kelce, he's the clear tight end 1 rest of the season to me right now. But is he going to separate himself clearly this week? And not the easiest matchup. And how well will Kelce be able to perform when the defense knows he's the clear top receiver? That I'm curious about too. He is 35 years old. He's the same age as Rob Gronkowski, by the way. Let that sink in for a second. Is Kyle Pitts reliable after this last game? Reliable is not the word I'd use for Kyle Pitts, but man, it was nice to see some life from Kyle Pitts. Wandale or Moss, it's got to be Wandale in PPR. All right, so going to this question. I like Tucker Kraft this week. We got his running mate, Luke Musgrave, who he's firmly ahead of, by the way, dealing with an injury. He's questionable. He's likely to play, but to be limited, he was already limited. He was already barely playing. So Kraft is in basically an every down role this week against a Rams defense that has not been great, with no Romeo Doubs, with no Christian Watson. Romeo Doubs situation, by the way, very, very strange. Feels like we're only getting half the story with Romeo Doubs situation. But obviously not good for him. He's not going to play this week. He's suspended, I guess, for a game that they said, but it really seemed like he started it and the Packers got salty and suspended him. Anyways, Tucker Kraft, McBride was a top 5 tight end. Laporta was a top 10 tight end. We saw Kmet have 7 points last week. Elijah Higgins also had a touchdown, I think, against this Rams team. Again, if the Rams can keep this game close, a lot of these receivers are going to smash. Tucker Kraft being one of them, but Brock Bowers needs to be started, guys. Brock Bowers, unless you have Kelce or Ferguson, you kind of have to start Brock Bowers. Like, there's no way around it. You got to start Brock Bowers. For a similar reason to like Kelce, honestly. There's no Davante Adams on this team. And I think Davante Adams not being on the Raiders anymore for the rest of the season, most likely he's technically injured right now, but it seems very likely he's going to get traded. We're projecting Adams not on the Raiders rest of season right now. Brock Bowers, guys, top 3 tight end in fantasy. And I think it's getting underrated on this Raiders team in general. And this might continue to get underrated because they have a tough matchup this week versus the Broncos. The Broncos are really good against receivers. They've only been okay against tight ends. They haven't been great against tight ends. It's not like this is like a super scary matchup for Bowers, who should avoid Surtain in this one, operating, from the tight end position. Cade Otton had 7 catches for 47 yards. Frymouth had a game at 8 points. Darnell Washington also was over 7 points. So we've seen 3 different tight ends go over 7 points. No tight end has scored other than Darnell Washington, though. Conklin had 5.5 points last week. Ruckert also had 3. So no massive tight end performances, but again, similar to Kelce, the target share projection here is north of 20%. It could arguably be 25%. Wouldn't be shocking to see him get 30% of the target share without Davante Adams. I think Brock Bowers is the best receiver on the Raiders now, and that's huge for him in fantasy. So yeah, I think the floor is there for Bowers. I think the ceiling is also there for Bowers against a defense that's going to lock down the receivers on a team without Davante Adams. I think Bowers needs to be started over everyone but Ferguson and Kelce this week. Moving down the list, we got Colby Parkinson and Kraft actually projected really close. Parkinson actually projects better than Kraft, which is a little bit surprising to me. But Parkinson, he's been in a really good role this season. He's got at least 3 catches in all 4 of his games. He's not coming off the field. He had 7 targets last week. Honestly, looking a little bit deeper at this, though, I think I would go Kraft over Parkinson. But I think Parkinson over a guy like McBride, a guy like Kincaid, like that can be considered in a good matchup for him. McBride is not a horrible start this week, though. He is going to play. Not the best matchup for him. Let's do McBride, Kincaid. Kincaid also, there's no Khalil Shakir this week, which is pretty big for the Bills too. Let's go Parkinson here. I think Parkinson projects the best. Let's just keep Kraft in here. Kraft projects the best here. I honestly think this is a really close one. Tough matchups for both McBride and Kincaid. Both these teams have been pretty good against tight ends. Let's just see the tight ends that they played against, though. Let me switch back to the high-level takes here on the TikTok Live. And then we'll get back to some of these start sits. We got a game kicking off in 20 minutes. We're on London time this morning. McBride is going to play this week through his rib injury. It was a rib injury reported late in the week. This was also a really weird one. Like, what's going on here? Did he hurt his ribs in practice? Or did you just not report the rib injury when you should have, when it happened last game? I mean, pretty weird stuff. Some sketchy stuff there with the injury reporting with McBride, but he's going to play. Not very many tight ends have done well versus the 49ers, but they've also played Tyler Conklin, Johnny Munt, Colby Parkinson, and Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry. None of those guys compare to Trey McBride. So he's startable for sure. I do think I'd play Kincaid over him. I do think I'd play Kraft over him as well. Kincaid, I think, is a pretty sneaky option this week. The Texans have also been good against tight ends. But again, look at the tight ends they played. They played Alec Ogletree. I mean, the Colts had 0 points at tight end in week 1. The Colts tight ends are maybe the worst in the league. They played Cole Kmet. He had 7 points. They played Johnny Munt. He had 7 points. And then Brenton Strange had 5. Again, none of these tight ends compared to Kincaid. And then you also consider Khalil Shakir is out. You also consider this game is going to be in a super high-scoring game environment versus the Texans, where the Bills are underdogs in this one. And yeah, I like Kincaid a lot this week. I think Kincaid's a top 5 tight end option this week for sure. I think, where do we have him ranked tight end-wise? Yeah, we got him at tight end 6. I'd probably start Kincaid over Parkinson. I'd probably rank this, if I adjust, let me adjust on the YouTube Live here, the tight end ranks here for a second. I think I would adjust this down to have Kincaid above of Kraft, and I put Parkinson below Kraft as well. Not afraid to adjust the ranks on the fly here as we get more information, look deeper into stuff. But yeah, definitely curious to see if Travis Kelce can separate himself as tight end 1. Guys, if you're just tuning in, smash the like button. Let's get over 100 likes. We're on London time this morning. Let's hit over 100 likes before the London time game. I don't think we're even at 50 yet. Smash the like button, guys. Hit the like button. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube Live. I'm telling you, it is a better viewing experience. I've seen someone ask for the defense ranks. I do have defense ranks. I'll pull those up on the YouTube live as well. Once this game starts, by the way, we're going to go game by game, every game in the slate like we usually do at the beginning of the live. But because we have a Sunday morning game today, I want to prioritize. We're going to go rapid fire for the next 18 minutes, focusing specifically on start sits for the game with players about to play. Wilson or Josh Downs. Yes, start Garrett Wilson. Start Garrett Wilson. The players that are must starts in this game, these are the players that I should see in the start sit questions in this game. I should see Garrett Wilson questions. Start Garrett Wilson. I should see Breece Hall questions. Probably not, but start Breece Hall. Those are the only two Jets players you need to start. I don't think Braelon Allen's a solid start today. The Vikings defense has been good against running backs. I am curious to see if Braelon Allen gets the goal line roll, but I don't think he's a must start. I think he's a very high upside, league-winning handcuff with some standalone value. Not a guy that I feel great starting. Addison or Eckler. Yeah, so on the Viking side of the ball, Addison's going to be one of the guys, I think, tougher decisions here. I think that Addison is a decent start over Austin Eckler. Yeah, I would do that. Not a great matchup for Addison versus the Jets secondary, but he still can be started over a guy like Austin Eckler. I don't think Austin Eckler is a good start this week coming off the injury. He's not the goal line back. He's not playing enough. Eckler's just not playing enough to really be a great start for fantasy. Justin Jefferson obviously needs to be started. Aaron Jones needs to be started. I shouldn't see any really start-sit questions with those guys. Let me go back to the high-level takeaways here. Achane or Javonte. I'm going Achane. Again, Joe Flacco or Sam Darnold since Hurts is on a bye. It's Flacco, man. Rocco, it's Flacco. It's Flacco over Darnold. It's Lawrence over Darnold. Guys, don't start Sam Darnold. I really don't think he's a great start. He's been a decent start every single week, and I don't think you should drop Sam Darnold, to be clear. This is Sam Darnold's arguably his toughest match of the season. The Jets have stopped everybody. To be fair, look who the Jets have played. They played Will Levis, they played Jacoby Brissett, and they played Bo Nix in their last 3 games. So they did shut down Brock Purdy in week 1 too. I don't think this is all matchup related for the Jets defense. I do think the Jets defense is good and they've had good matchups. It's both. So yeah, I don't love Sam Darnold this week. I do prefer Flacco over him for sure. I'm playing Kelce over everybody. I'm not playing Lazard over Eckler. I don't like Lazard in this game. Let me go to the wide receiver ranks here again. I'll pull up the wide receiver ranks here on the YouTube live again as well as we go rapid fire for some of these early morning questions. Lazard's not a good start, guys. He's not a good start. This is a good matchup for Lazard, but let's pull up the numbers for Lazard. He's definitely outperformed expectations. Over 10 points in 3 of his 4 games. Had 5 catches again last week for 58 yards. He's playing almost every single snap compared to Mike Williams. Mike Williams' role is kind of growing week over week. Mike Williams, by the way, in this Devontae Adams trade discussions, was rumored to be involved, which is kind of interesting to see. I guess the GM of the Raiders drafted Mike Williams and extended Mike Williams on the Chargers. So there might actually be some real smoke there. But the role for Mike Williams is growing week over week. He's at 58% season high, or I guess tied a little bit below week 2, his snap percentage. But he had the most targets of the season last week. He had 25% of the air yards for the Jets. Mike Williams and Allen Lazard, they're kind of splitting that wide receiver 2 role. One of these guys is likely to have a decent game, but again, I think Garrett Wilson's a smash, and these other 2 guys are pretty risky. We got Mike Williams projected ahead of Allen Lazard this week, so I don't like Lazard really at all. Vikings defense, sit Breece, don't sit Breece. You can't sit Breece Hall. Don't panic on Breece Hall. It is a tough Vikings defense, to be fair, but don't panic on Breece Hall. 2-2, Juwan, Tyrone Tracy, full PPR. Should I bench Breece over any of these guys? No, Luke, don't bench Breece Hall for 2-2 Atwell, Juwan Jennings, or Tyrone Tracy. Do not do that. Start Breece Hall. Why so high on Jerome Ford? Let me get to that in a second. I've been torn which 3 I should pick this week. James Conner, Deontay, Garrett Wilson, James Cook. Yeah. So first of all, start Garrett Wilson, Logan. This is the best matchup of the season by far for Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is one of the more underrated players in fantasy right now, just in general. I think I'd start Garrett Wilson over James Cook and James Conner. Deontay is close, but I don't think it's crazy to start him over Deontay either. Let's compare the other 3. So you're starting Garrett Wilson. Let's go James Cook, James Conner, and Deontay. I'm pretty scared about Deontay. He projects really well because the target share has been there. I mean, the targets have been massive for Deontay Johnson. He has 15 catches last 2 games. The Bears are just a little bit of a scary matchup to me. I think this game's going to be ugly. This game also has wind gusts over 25 miles an hour. I don't think it's the worst tiebreaker. We've seen one wide receiver do well against the Bears, and that was Nico Collins, who's a top 2 receiver in the NFL right now. So yeah, honestly, I think it's okay to bench Deontay in this one. I know he projects the best. I think go Conner and Cook. And it's really between Connor and Deontay, though. I think James Cook in that game environment is pretty solid. The Texans have been good against running backs. James Conner against the 49ers. The role for Conner has been good. He's been over 18 points in 3 of his games. Every game he scored a touchdown. Snap percentage was down a little bit last week, but that was because they got blown out. I'm okay going Conner and Cook over Deontay this week. I am a little bit skittish on Deontay, even though he projects as a top 12 receiver because of Pittman or Addison. Got to be Pittman. Guys, start Pittman and Downs this week. Start Pittman and Downs. Over Addison, like easily. Don't start Addison unless you really need to. Like Addison versus Eckler, sure, I'm fine going Addison there. Is Pollard droppable for a second quarterback? No, do not drop Pollard for a second quarterback. Absolutely not. Mahomes is droppable for a different quarterback. Like just drop Mahomes, pick up Fields. Fields is clearly a better fantasy quarterback right now than Mahomes without any receivers. Wicks or Stafford? Oh man, yeah. I mean, in the Superflex leagues, I do like to go with the quarterbacks. I think this one's probably going to be Stafford. Yeah, it's actually pretty close, but yeah, it's Stafford over Wicks. All right, any other Sermon or Worthy of the flex PPR? Yeah, this is a floor ceiling thing. I think I'd probably lean Worthy over Sermon. Happy Football Sunday. Whittington, Leggett, or Jennings, full PPR. Can you rank all 3 in order? Yeah, all 3 of these guys I expect to see some start-sit questions about. I think I like Whittington a little bit more than Leggett, just based on matchup and game environment here. The Packers offense is extremely unlikely to be stopped by the Rams, whether it's the run or the pass. Like the Packers are going to run through the Rams defense. And Leggett's got a kind of scary matchup versus the Bears. I was just talking about why I'm a little skittish on Deontay this week, even though he projects really well. And then Jennings has been, I mean, he's as hot as receivers get right now. Yeah, it's Whittington, then Jennings, then Leggett. I think I agree with these rankings. Jennings is not a must start still, by the way. I was not calling him a must start last week. He ended up with a little under 12 points. He had 88 yards, only 3 catches. He only played 57% of the snaps, as he's clearly behind Debo and Aiyuk, who are both back. Also, the Rams, sorry, the 49ers, they're going to skew very run heavy in this matchup versus the Cardinals. I think at best, Juwan Jennings, he's the number 4 option. Kittle's questionable. I think he's likely to play. So arguably Jennings is the 5th option in the offense. I think Whittington's was a real sleeper this week for sure. His usage jumped massively last week. He played almost every single snap. He ran around every single drop back, and he saw 28% target share. Like this is real usage here for Whittington, and he wasn't just in this sort of gimmicky slot role either. He was playing on the outside, inside. He was getting moved around all over, and this is a much better match for him too. This was against the same Bears defense I'm scared about Deontay for. He had 6 catches, 62 yards against. Maybe that also bodes kind of well for Deontay looking at this. Conklin or Parkinson? Yeah, Parkinson easily Parkinson over Conklin. Don't start Conklin. I don't like Conklin or Munt in this game that's about to start. Guys, if we're watching live on TikTok, smash the follow button. If we're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button. Just renewed my yearly sub yesterday. Man, thanks. I appreciate that so much. Guys, the number one way you could possibly support me is downloading the WalterPicks app. First of all, if you haven't done that, do not know what you're waiting for. Link to that's in the TikTok bio, YouTube description. But also do one of the subscriptions in the WalterPicks app. It is so worth it for the price that we are charging in the WalterPicks app. It's the best way you could possibly support the entire brand. So thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to the WalterPicks app. And an additional value we added to the subscription this year is the Discord. I'm constantly responding in the Discord to all of the WalterPicks subscribers. Link to the Discord is in the YouTube description. All right, let's get to, I pulled the running back ranks. I'll pull up the running back ranks here on the TikTok live too. I see some people asking for those. All right, let's get to the start today. We got Moss, Higgins, Kincaid. Moss or Higgins? Yeah, it's Higgins over Moss easily. Easily Higgins over Moss in this game. This should be a pretty high-scoring game. Good matchup for Higgins too. I think one of the storylines I'm watching pretty closely this week, T. Higgins, Brandon Aiyuk. Are these guys still high-end wide receiver 2s like we kind of expected? I think they both probably are. And Moss is really like not a very exciting play this week against the Ravens defense that ranks number 3 best against running backs this season. He's splitting the backfield with Chase Brown, who looked better than him last week. I still think Moss has the goal line role, but I prefer Higgins like by a decent margin. Then Kincaid versus Bowers. Yeah, I like both these guys. It's Bowers though. It's Bowers over Kincaid with no Adams against the Broncos, who were really good against receivers, only okay against tight ends. All right, let's get to this early morning question here. Ford, Diggs, Lamb. This is not an early game question. This is just fake advertising here, Lauren. Ford, Diggs, and Lamb. Yeah, so obviously you're starting Lamb. And then it's Diggs over Ford. It's Diggs over Ford. What about a Dunze or Leggett at flex? You're the GOAT. Appreciate you, Rocco. Shout out to everyone in this live. I appreciate everyone in this live, guys, so much. I don't think people even realize how much I appreciate all the viewers. The fact that I get to consider this part of my job every single week. I love the Sunday morning lives. I look forward to this all week. I've been preparing all week for this live stream and all morning, too. I've been up since 5 this morning on London time. This morning, all right, we got a Dunze versus Leggett. I don't think a Dunze can be started. I don't want to start Dunze at all, at all in this game. I mean, both guys, these are the same game. Better matchup for a Dunze. I still think a Dunze's talent profile a little underrated, but how do you start a guy that's been under 6 points in 3 of his 4 games? The floor is so low. And I think we saw the ceiling in week 3 against the Colts. But, man, I think Leggett's a better play. Leggett's coming off a much better game. Really good usage for Leggett. Seems like he's going to be the clear wide receiver 2 in this offense ahead of Mingo. B. Robert, Deontay. I'd go Deontay in this one. Josh Downs or T. Higgins. Yeah, I'm going Downs. Already starting Pittman. Yeah, start Pittman and Downs. I think that's a great play. If you get Pittman and Downs against the Jags, guys, the Jags defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. It's part of the reason Sermon is startable this week. Not a must start, but startable. But yeah, Downs and Pittman are smashes this week. Absolute smashes. With Flacco starting, no Jonathan Taylor too. The offense is going to run through Josh Downs and Michael Pittman today. So yeah, I like starting both of them. I think it's a really high floor and ceiling play. I'm playing Stroud over Darnold easily. Guys, do not start Sam Darnold. Garrett Wilson over Deontay Johnson for sure. I'm starting Garrett Wilson over Deontay. I don't even think my ranks have it like that, but in my mind, I think that's actually a pretty straightforward one with Deontay's matchup versus Garrett Wilson's matchup. Why so high in Jerome Ford? Yes, let me get to Ford here. Jerome Ford's usage has been really good, really underrated usage for Jerome Ford this season. Let me just go to the high level summary. He ranks top 10 in running back target share. He has the 4th most receptions in the NFL at running back. He had 7 catches last week, guys, Jerome Ford. He's seen 66% of the opportunities for the Browns. So 2/3 of the touches in the backfield of the Browns going to Jerome Ford. Again, 7 catches last week. He hasn't seen massive rushing volume, but he's now been at 75% or larger of the snap percentage for 3 of the 4 games. Week 2 was just kind of a weird fluke. Still kind of confused what happened there. But then he's also been a good matchup versus the Commanders. Commanders have been a bad secondary, but they almost have to overcompensate for their secondary, and that allows some big plays in the running game into the running backs. Ford now has at least 4 targets in 3 of his 4 games. Again, good matchup here too against the Commanders. So yeah, I like Ford a lot. I think Ford is a sneaky floor ceiling option this week. Yeah, so Curtis Samuel is an interesting sleeper with Shakir out. They almost have to get Samuel more involved, and there's been a lot of talk about that. I still don't think he's a great start, Alana. I still don't think he's a great start. I kind of just need to see the usage for Samuel before being able to recommend him as a start. I mean, he doesn't even rank in the top 50 receivers. Akers at least is the starting running back in this game against the Bills, who have not been great against running backs. I think I'd go Akers over Samuel pretty easily. I think Samuel is just a very deep sleeper this week. Madison versus Akers is close. This game's about to start in London. I'm going to run through the final must starts, must benches in this game. Yeah, it's Madison over Akers. I think Madison's a pretty solid option this week, honestly. Probably going to get at least 15 touches with Samir out. Also, Dylan Lobb, man. Get Dylan Lobb activated. We got to see Dylan Lobb today, right? With Zamir White out, with Devontae out. The Raiders are desperate for playmakers. They drafted arguably the best receiving back in this class. He played wide receiver in college, granted at a bad football school, but still, Dylan Lobb's got to get involved, at least to some extent. Let's see Dylan Lobb today, man. I'm excited to see that. All right, let's just run through this game one more time for everyone that's just tuning in. A quick high-level thoughts on this game. First of all, take the Garrett Wilson props. Over 54.5 receiving yards, over 4.5 receptions. I took both those. Those are 2 of the 3 free player props today is in this game, Garrett Wilson's receiving props. And then on the Vikings side of the ball, you're obviously starting Jay Jettas. You're starting Aaron Jones. No discussion needed there. Don't start Sam Darnold. The Jets rank as the best defense versus quarterbacks. Granted, they played 3 horrible quarterbacks in Will Levis, Bo Nix, and Jacoby Brissett, but they're also a good secondary. This is one of the toughest matchups of the season for Sam Darnold. Not super interested in him. I'd prefer Flacco, for example, over Sam Darnold. Jordan Addison, he's an okay flex. Not a great matchup for Addison versus Jets secondary either. For example, one of the starts that I said to start Jordan Addison, I would start him over Austin Eckler. I think that one's pretty close. All right, and then on the Jets side of the ball, there's really only 2 must starts: Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. Aaron Rodgers, I think, probably beats his 225 passing yard line, but I mean, Darnold versus Rodgers. Honestly, I think I'd lean Rodgers over Darnold if I had to choose. They project pretty closely together. I don't really want to start Mike Williams, Alan Lazard, or Braelon now. All right, so that's pretty much everything about this game. again, hopefully you guys are riding Garrett Wilson props with me in this game. WalterPicks says Zay Flowers, but his targets have stunk lately. Yeah, Zay Flowers has been kind of phased out as the Ravens have been able to really lean on the run. Honestly, like Ravens and Bills got kind of similar environment a little bit, where these teams want to be run first. And so if they get big leads, the receivers can really suffer from that. Only 2 points for Zay Flowers last week, 1 catch, 10 yards. I mean, brutal stuff. He didn't even play over 70% of the snaps. He's still the clear wide receiver 1 on this team, though. This game should be higher scoring. I do think I'm playing Flowers over Jacoby pretty easily this week, with Jacoby is arguably the worst possible matchup. He's the wide receiver 1 versus the Broncos. He's probably going to get a lot of Pat Surtain. Him and Trey Tucker are the 2 receivers really for the Raiders, but I think it's more likely Surtain is on Myers than on Tucker. So yeah, Myers is like a really low floor because of that, even though the target share should be decent. ETN or Hunt? Yeah, I'm going ETN over Hunt. I'm playing Amari Cooper over Addison and Zay over Addison too. I'm playing Zay Flowers over Addison. Shout out to everyone on Diggs is getting locked up today. I mean, there are a lot of injuries for the Bills secondary. This is a true revenge game too. I'm playing HN over B-Rob. I think that Diggs has a good game this week personally. Tyreek, Addison, Kirk, Debo. Yeah, so bench Addison, William, in this one. Play Debo and Tyreek over him for sure. And I'm playing Christian Kirk over him too. Evan Ingram's out again this week. Kirk is averaging, I think, around 9 targets a game in the last couple of games without Evan Ingram. Yeah, he's got 15 catches the last 2 games. He's averaging 11 targets a game his last 2. Christian Kirk is a good start. Him and B-Rob are good starts against the Colts this week. Darnold's a bench. I wouldn't go as far as must bench, but like in most leagues, I would start Joe Flacco over him. So yeah, I'd bench it. I wouldn't drop Darnold for Flacco though. So it depends who you can drop on your bench. Like if I was in a spot where I had to drop Darnold for Flacco, I wouldn't do that. I'd just start Darnold. But yeah, I prefer Flacco over Darnold this week. I think even a guy like Deshaun could be started over Darnold this week. Sutton or Myers? Yeah, I think it's Sutton over Myers. Let's go, Sam. We are in London time part of the season. Fields or Burrow? Also, what's the prop? Yeah, so Kyle, the game's about to start. Garrett Wilson's props, receiving props. And then I also like Najee's rushing prop. Those are the 3 props. And then Fields or Burrow? Yeah, so I like both these guys this week. I'm in on Fields this week. I'm a little scared about the rain, specifically for Justin Fields. But yeah, I'm going Fields over Burrow. I am. I think Fields is a really good start. I would start the only quarterbacks I'm starting over Justin Fields with a lot of confidence this week are Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Allen, and Jordan Love. I would start Love over Fields. I'm playing Kyler over Darnold easily. And Kyler versus Fields, I think, is actually pretty close. I think people are sleeping on Kyler a little bit, coming off a really disappointing back-to-back games, really in good game environments, under 16 points against the Lions, under 15 points against the Commanders. Now he gets a tougher matchup against the 49ers. But I still think Kyler's a decent fantasy option with a decent floor because of the rushing. Madison and Javonte Williams. All right, we're moving on now from the Sunday morning early game. Obviously, going to watch that as it plays out. Hope you guys are riding the Garrett props. I'm running with Darnold. Pray for me. Yeah, I don't love it. I will be praying for you. It's not the worst. Like, Darnold's played well. It's just a really tough matchup for him. Leggett versus Keenan. Oh man, yeah, Keenan's just so sketchy, man. I don't like Keenan really at all this week. I think it's a close one. Keenan probably going to project better than Leggett. Yeah, this one's Keenan. We've not seen a good game from Keenan yet this whole season. Under 7 fantasy points in every game. He's only played 2 games. The targets were there in week 1. What was it? His snap percentage was 68% last week. Man, what an easy schedule the Bears have. They don't have a single tough matchup this whole season until week 17. I mean, crazy stuff here. I do think Caleb Williams will continue to get better. Yeah, these 2 guys. I would play Leggett over Adunze, but I think I'd go Keenan over Leggett. Keenan, Leggett, then Adunze is how I would rank it. I don't feel great about the Bears receivers in general. Najee and Achane, yeah, it's Najee over Achane this week for sure. All right, let's go game by game now. We're going to go game by game here. And let's start with this Bengals-Ravens game. All right, so the Cincinnati Bengals, I think are they only there were like slight underdogs in this one, which was surprising to me. Let me pull up the spreads here real quick. Yeah, so the Bengals are only 2.5 point underdogs in this game, which is a bit surprising to me. They're at home. Lamar has been cooking. He's a must start. Obviously, the greatest rushing quarterback of all time, Lamar Jackson. I feel like I've been saying that now for close to 3 years. It was like kind of a hot take-ish, at least for the older crowd, with the Mike Vick crowd. but it's really not a hot take. It wasn't a hot take then, to be clear, but it's definitely not a hot take now. Lamar Jackson is the greatest rushing quarterback of all time. His prop lines are in the 50 rushing yards, by the way, this week. That would not have been the case for Vic back in the day in this one. But anyways, not to bash on Vic too much. I'm more so just talking up Lamar here. But yeah, Lamar's a smash start. He ranks as QB1 this week. The Ravens have QB1 and RB1. The Ravens have been their best rushing offense in the NFL this season. Derrick Henry is the running back 1 this week in our projections. He's a clear top 5 option. Zay Flowers still ranks top 25 at receiver. I do think he's a decent start in this game. Justice Hill is not the worst PPR dart throw. And then I likely in Andrews, I mean, you kind of have to bench both these guys. I think one of them might end up doing something. I prefer likely over Andrews. It would be interesting to see if they try to get Andrews more involved in a game that should be close and they maybe will have to throw. I am kind of skeptical, though, that this game will necessarily be that close. I think Lamar and the Ravens offense will play well. But yeah, likely and Andrews kind of off the must-start radar. Let's go to the wide receiver ranks here on the TikTok live while I talk through this. I'll pull up the wide receiver ranks here on the YouTube live as well. So on the Ravens side of the ball, I do think the Ravens win this game. Lamar's a smash start. Henry's a smash start. Flowers, I think, is a decent start still in PPR. I know he's been bad the last couple of games, only 2 points last week. But this game environment should be better for him. He's still the clear top receiver on this team. And then on the Bengals side of the ball, Joe Burrow is a decent option this week. Top 7 quarterback play this week. Joe Burrow really has been pretty good for fantasy multiple weeks in a row now. He's been a top 12 fantasy quarterback 3 weeks in a row. He's got 7 passing touchdowns in the last few weeks. Jamar Chase, top 5 receiver. And then T. Higgins, one of the storylines I'm watching really close this week. Both T. Higgins and Brandon Aiyuk, I feel like they're in similar spots where they both started the season out and started the season slow. Both had the preseason. I guess Aiyuk didn't miss a game week 1. He kind of technically wasn't really a part of that first game, but both these guys had weird preseason stuff going on. I think both these guys are going to end up being high-end wide receiver 2s. Sermon or Moss? Yeah, I think I'd lean towards Sermon over Moss. I'm really out on Moss this week. I put Moss in the must bench territory. Looks like back-to-back plays, back-to-back targets for Garrett Wilson. We love that start. So yeah, I like starting T. Higgins in this matchup. The Ravens secondary has definitely been much worse in their run defense. I do not think Zach Moss is a must start this week. I'd prefer to find another option. I prefer Akers and Sermon and Tracy over Zach Moss this week. Him and Chase Brown are splitting a role in a tough matchup. And the Jets punting on 4th and 1, very soft. I guess they're inside their own 40. I mean, very soft here from the Jets. This is the type of game the Jets like to play, though. All right, that's the Ravens-Bengals game. Definitely one of the more exciting games of the week. Let's jump to this Commanders-Browns game now. Let's look at this one. We got the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, very intrigued to see how he does against a better defense this week. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button, too. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. Come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. But Jaden Daniels has to be started in all leagues. Brian Robinson ranks well. I'm a little scared about him with the knee injury. He's good to go for week 5, though, so he's startable in a lot of spots. I would start him over Sermon, over Akers. I would start him over Tracy, guys like that. I'm starting him over Eckler, too. I do not like Eckler as a start this week. I'm looking to bench Eckler if I can. Definitely would want to bench Austin Eckler if I can. He's not getting enough work, really, to be a super exciting fantasy option. Terry McLaurin is startable this week. Kind of a scary matchup for him. He's really popped off the last couple of games, though. Definitely a decent start, not a must start. Terry McLaurin. I think he arguably is a top 30 receiver this week, even in kind of a scary matchup versus the Browns. Zach Ertz ranks as tight end 12. I really don't want to start him. I'd much rather start Parkinson and Kraft off the waiver wire than Zach Ertz. So I'm seeing some Sam Darnold questions in the chat. Guys, we're on London time this morning. So you missed it. You missed the opportunity for your start-sit decisions in this Vikings-Jets game. The game started. Sam Darnold already has -1 passing yards. So you can't start or sit him now. You either started him or you sat him. All right, let's go to the other side of this game, the Browns. Another week I'm watching closely. Is Deshaun going to continue to struggle? Because this is another good matchup for Deshaun. He's really only had good matchups this season. He's had all good matchups, basically, this entire season. He's not cracked 20 points yet. This has got to be the one for Deshaun against the Commanders. Really bad secondary. I know they played well versus Kyler last week, but I still think this is one of the bottom secondaries in the NFL. And Njoku's going to be back in this game, but he's going to be limited. I don't like starting Njoku this week. I think you got to look to bench David Njoku if you can. I would prefer Kraft, Parkinson to Njoku for sure. And then Judy, Amari Cooper's a good start this week. Amari Cooper should be started in must-start territory for sure. He's a top 15 wide receiver option versus the Commanders. Targets have been there for Amari. He should have had an 80-yard touchdown that was called back by kind of a phantom holding call. 2, he's had at least 8 targets in every single game. Really strong usage for Amari Cooper so far this season. He is in must-start territory. I think I would probably go Javonte Williams over Madison in PPR. It's close, though. And then Judy's actually a pretty intriguing sleeper this week for sure. Judy's also, I think, been pretty underrated this season. He's over 11 PPR points in almost every game this season, except for one in week 3 where he still had almost 9 points. Like, decent floor for Judy. He's had at least 6 targets in every game. He's the clear wide receiver 2. And again, he's got a good matchup this week too versus the Commander secondary. At least one of these 2 guys, Judy versus Amari, is going to have a big game. And it could be both. They also get one of their starting tackles back in this game. That's good. Jerome Ford is a must start this week, guys. Jerome Ford is a must start this week. He's getting 2/3, 66% of the backfield opportunities for the Browns. He had 7 catches last week. Jerome Ford is the 4th most receptions among running backs in the NFL this season. PPR must start Jerome Ford. All right, let's go to the next game here. Let's talk through the Bills-Texans game. Another very exciting one. Josh Allen is going to smash in this game. I mean, I feel like his floor in this game is 20 points versus the Texans. They are underdogs. The Bills are slight underdogs, I believe, in this game. Let me pull this up. Yeah, they're 1-point underdogs in Houston. So Josh Allen playing from behind is definitely a QB you're going to want. Khalil Shakir is out this week, though. I think that's good news for James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, and Curtis Samuel. Keon Coleman is startable this week for sure. Keon Coleman is startable. Kincaid is in must-start territory. The only tight ends I'm really starting over Kincaid, Kelce, Ferguson. I think I had the tight end ranks up earlier. Yeah, I got Kelce, Ferguson, Bowers. That's it. Those are the only tight ends I'm starting over Kincaid this week. That's it. Olave versus Deontay is close. I honestly think I'd go Deontay in that one. I am scared for Olave versus the Chiefs as well. That one's close, though. I can pull that one up in a second. Keon Coleman, definitely an interesting sleeper this week. Almost has to get more involved. Same thing with Curtis Samuel, but Curtis Samuel to me is just a deep sleeper. And James Cook, I think, is still a good option after a bad game last week, under 6 points. James Cook is still one of these guys that kind of can't be game scripted out of games. Looks like Justin Jefferson's off to a good start versus Jets secondary. We're on London time this morning. I'm locked in on the live stream, though, guys. I'm really just barely monitoring what's going on in the game. I'm locked in for the start sits in the analysis for the rest of the games this week. Diggs or McLaurin? Yeah, I'd go Diggs over McLaurin for sure. Revenge game this week for Diggs. I do like Diggs this week. All right, on the other side of that Bills game, we got the Texans. So let's jump to that one because I've seen a bunch of Steph Diggs questions. Nico's locked in as a must start. He's ranks as wide receiver 2, could be wide receiver 1. I would start Love over Stroud, but I do like Stroud in this game too. This game should be high scoring. The Bills do have a lot of injuries on defense, which is why Steph Diggs is also a must start. Guys, Steph Diggs is a must start in this revenge game. This is a true revenge game here for Steph Diggs. Tank Dell, I do not feel good starting. I don't know how you could feel good starting Tank Dell. I don't think he's cracked 10 points in a game yet. One game, he had over 10 points. He had 5 catches in his last game versus the Vikings. Didn't play last week. Coming off some injuries. Clear wide receiver 3 on this team right now. And the Bills have been pretty good against receivers too. Like, I like Diggs and Nico a lot more than Tank this week. And then Cam Akers, he's startable, but not a must start. We haven't seen him crack 10 points yet in a game. And this is not a horrible matchup for him. Again, should be a high scoring game, but he's really in a 3-way committee. Him, Agumba Wale, JJ Taylor got involved last week too. He only played 40% of snaps last week. That was down from week 3. So he's not this like workhorse role stepping in for Joe Mixon, who was in a workhorse role. So yeah, I'm not starting Cam Akers if I don't need to. And I would start Trey Sermon over Akers. I would start Tyrone Tracy over Akers. Dalton Schultz is startable, but not a must start. We got him right behind Zach Ertz. All right, let's get to the next game here, and then we're going to get back to the start-sit comments here momentarily. If you're watching live on TikTok or YouTube, guys, let me know which rankings you want to see next, by the way. I got the quarterback rankings up. Let me pull the QB rankings up on the YouTube live. I'll switch this to tight end rankings on the TikTok live. I know a lot of tight end questions this week. I think pretty clear tight end tiers for me this week. All right, let's go to this Panthers game, this Panthers-Bears game. A lot of start-sit questions in this game for sure. A lot of potential fantasy pieces. Chuba Hubbard is really the only must start on the Panthers side of the ball. I do think Deontay is a good start, not a must start this week against the Bears. He's a good start, though. I would prefer Wicks over Deontay this week, Dontavian Wicks. I think Josh Downs over Deontay is like reasonable as well. Olave versus Deontay, I think that one's pretty close. Leggett is a good sleeper this week, but this matchup is not the best here for the receivers for the Panthers. This game's going to be pretty gross. This game also is the most concerning weather-wise. This game is going to have wind gusts around 28 miles an hour and sustained winds around 20 miles an hour. I do think that's a good tiebreaker for some of these start-sit decisions with the Panthers receivers. I would start Leggett over Odunze, though, in a start-sit like that. I don't feel good about Odunze at all on the other side of this game. Andy Dalton not startable this week. Chuba Hubbard is really a smash start, guys. He's seeing a ton of work. Back-to-back games over 22 points. He's not coming off the field. Season high 74% of snap percentage last week. He's seen over 60% of the carries back-to-back games. He's also seeing targets, 4 targets at least in 3 straight games. Route participation was really high last week. He's looked good. And that has me bullish on Jonathan Brooks, too, when he comes back. And then the other side of this game, the Bears. I mean, there's really no guys you need to start. DeAndre Swift is definitely a decent start in this game. I think Roschon Johnson's also an interesting sleeper, potentially the goal line back against the Panthers this week. I think he's getting slept on a little bit in this game. Caleb Williams, I'd prefer not to start in this one, though I do think Caleb's going to continue to improve. Caleb Williams is coming off a game where he only threw 157 pass yards versus the Rams. He did throw 363 against the Colts. I mean, we've seen some big pass volume games, only 23 passing attempts from last week. Might not see a ton of pass volume in this one either. DJ Moore is the receiver you want, then Keenan, then Odunze. I think DJ Moore is a solid start. Keenan's an okay flex, and Odunze is really not startable. Don't want to start Odunze at all. Much prefer Wicks and Downs, for example, over Odunze. I'd much prefer Wicks and Downs over Keenan as well. Wicks or Higgins, that one's pretty close. Let me compare those two guys really quick, Wicks versus Higgins. Yeah, it's Wicks. It's Wicks over Higgins. All right, let's get to the next game here. We talked through the Ravens, Bengals. We talked through the Browns, Commanders. We talked through the Bills and Texans. Let's go to this Packers-Rams game. This is definitely a really fun one. And I've been mentioning Wicks a lot in the start-sit analysis. You got to start Dontavian Wicks this week, guys. No way around it. But you really need to start Jayden Reed. If you have Jayden Reed, you are in a really, really good spot. Very, very good spot if you have Jayden Reed. He ranks as wide receiver 3 this week. There's no Romeo Doubs. There's no Christian Watson. Luke Musgrave's banged up too. Not that matters much because he was barely playing. But yeah, Jayden Reed's a must start. Josh Jacobs is a must start. I know Josh Jacobs is disappointed. This is likely going to be the first week where Josh Jacobs gets a touchdown. If you're taking touchdown props this week, I like Josh Jacobs to score against the Rams. The Rams have not been good. This is the best matchup of the season for Josh Jacobs by like a decent margin. I think Jacobs is one of the more underrated running backs in fantasy right now. Dontavian Wicks, top 20 wide receiver. Start Dontavian Wicks. I start him over Keenan Allen pretty easily. Him versus DJ Moore, that's a little closer. I think it's pretty close. DJ Moore revenge game versus the Panthers. I think it's DJ Moore in that one, but I think it's reasonable to start Wicks too if you want to start Wicks. Continue with the Packers. Tucker Kraft's a really good start this week. Really good start. Top 6 tight end option this week, Tucker Kraft. I would start him over Parkinson, by the way. I adjusted those ranks a little bit. Let's go to the receiver ranks here in the TikTok live. I'll go to the receiver ranks here in the YouTube live as well. Emmanuel Wilson, also an interesting sleeper this week. He ranks top 32 at running back. He's sneakily been pretty involved. He's playing around 40% of the snaps. He's getting around a third of the carries in his backfield. He's been decently efficient. And this is the best matchup of his season as well, just like Josh Jacobs. This game also might not be close. There's a chance that the Rams just get crushed in this game. Guys, if you're just joining the YouTube live, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds. Let's get over 100 likes on this YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Better viewing experience. Link is in the TikTok bio. If you're just tuning in to the YouTube live, guys, we're on London time this morning. So no Jets Vikings start sits anymore. We already ran through that. We've been live an hour early today. We went live, and I told everyone, take the Garrett Wilson props over receptions, over receiving yards. He's already got 2 catches, 3 targets. From what I've seen, I haven't even been seeing every play because I'm locked into the live. But you missed those if you didn't tune in earlier. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you're notified when we go live in the future, because we got London games next week and the week after, back London time games this week, next week, in the following week. So we got to be on London time moving forward. But yeah, all these guys are really good starts for the Packers. On the Rams side of the ball, definitely some really good options as well. Tyron Williams is a must start. Obviously, he's arguably got the best role in the entire NFL. Maybe only after Alvin Kamara. Stafford, not really a guy I want to start. Colby Parkinson, though, is a pretty good tight end option this week. I got Colby Parkinson after McBride, Kraft, Kincaid, Bowers, Ferguson, Kelce. So if you don't have one of those guys, look for Colby Parkinson. I'd start him over Kittle coming off the injury. I'd start him over Freiermuth, over Njoku coming off the injury, Cole Kmet, Ertz, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. I'd prefer Colby Parkinson over all those guys. Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington, both startable this week. Jordan Whittington's role really was an every down role last week. He ran around every single passing play last week, Jordan Whittington. Decent sleeper this week for sure. Looks like the second incompletion to Garrett Wilson. He's been getting peppered with targets, though, so far this game. Someone in the chat, YouTube chat, what's the stat line for Wilson so far? Oh, man, he's got to catch that. Yeah, Jordan Whittington's a good sleeper this week for sure. And Tutu Atwell, though, he's also a decent sleeper this week. He's also playing pretty much every single snap. He's seeing a little bit more air yards, too, than Whittington. I think I would go Tutu over Whittington. But, yeah, in deeper leagues, PPR-wise, not the worst. Should I start Flacco or Stafford? Yeah, it's Flacco over Stafford easily. Let's get to that Colts game, because I'm very excited for this Colts-Jaguars game. I think Flacco is a start for sure. He ranks as QB 16 in the WalterPicks app. I got him ranked higher than that. Let me do the QB ranks here on the TikTok Live. And I'll pull up, oops, sorry about that. I'll pull up the QB ranks here on the YouTube Live as well. Flacco, I'm starting Flacco over Pat Mahomes. I'm starting Flacco over Trevor Lawrence. I'm starting him over Caleb Williams, over Deshaun, or I started him over Sam Darnold for people that were in the live earlier. I would have started him over Rodgers too for people on London time with me like an hour ago. We're over an hour into this stream, guys. We're just getting started. But yeah, Flacco's a good start for sure. The Jaguars defense has been horrible, guys. Horrible. This is one of the worst defenses in the NFL, the Jaguars. Like as much heat as the offense has been getting, this defense has been crushed. They've allowed 4 straight top 12 quarterback performances. Flacco's going to be a top 12 QB this week. Flacco looked good last week against a good Steelers defense. He had 15 fantasy points against a really good Steelers defense. Now he gets a Jaguars defense that ranks dead last against quarterbacks. That's also why Pittman and Downs are smash plays this week, guys. Start Michael Pittman, start Josh Downs. Both these guys have a really high floor, really high ceiling. I think underratedly, these guys are actually pretty comparable. Like, I don't think it's that crazy if Downs out targets Pittman rest of the season. Look at this. Downs, higher target share than Pittman this season. Both over 30%, though. He's got more receptions per game. His yards per reception is a little lower, but his yards per run is even better. And he's definitely seeing less air yards. He's seeing more underneath stuff. But like Downs could easily out target Pittman in this game. Wouldn't be that crazy. But both these guys are really, really good starts. Definitely start both these guys if you can. Wicks versus Downs. That's like the question of the week. I think I lean Wicks just slightly, but man, it's close. And I think Wicks' ceiling is a little higher. He's got a little bit more of a deep passing role than Downs does. But both guys in really good matchups, both guys in really good roles. Guys, there's no Jonathan Taylor in this game, which is why there's going to be a lot of Trey Sermon questions. This week. And he's startable. This is a good matchup for Sermon, too. The whole Jaguars defense has been bad, not just against the passing game, but against the running game, too. And Sermon is likely to have the goal line role. I do think Sermon is potentially trapped, though. He's a potential trap because he's not going to be in the Jonathan Taylor role fully. He's going to split that role with Tyler Goodson. And I think we're going to see a third running back potentially mix in as well. So I think Sermon's the most likely goal line back, which is good. He has a decent chance at a touchdown. I don't think we're going to see him get over 15 touches, though, in this game. So a little bit of a scary start. I think him versus Tyrone Tracy is super close. I like lean Tracy because I think his receiving role will be better. But in half PPR, I think I'd lean Sermon because I think his touchdown upside is higher. None of the other guys in this offense are startable. Probably Pierce or Mitchell. One of these guys will make a play in this game. But yeah, it's really Pittman, Downs, Flacco, Sermon. These are the guys you want to start. And then on the Jaguar side of the ball, also tons of good fantasy options. Lawrence can be started this week. Like, I prefer Flacco over Lawrence personally with how Lawrence has played and how bad the Jags defense has been. But the Colts defense has also been bad. We got the two worst defenses versus quarterbacks this season in this game. The Jaguars ranked last and the Colts ranked second to last. This game should be pretty high scoring. This is going to be a high scoring game, fun game between the Jags and the Colts. So Trevor Lawrence is startable. Fields was QB1 last week versus the Colts. Granted, a lot of that game on the ground. He had 55 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Stroud only had 19 points. Caleb Williams had 19. We'll probably see Lawrence finish right around that. 15 to 19 points would be my guess. So not a great start, but he's startable. I'm playing Downs over Sutton easily. I'm playing Deontay over Wan'Dale too. We'll get to the Giants game in a second. Travis Etienne should be started, guys, in pretty much every single league. I get that he's been disappointing. Despite scoring 2 touchdowns, he's still only averaging 11.6 fantasy points per game. That is not great. Tank Bigsby's looked better than him at times too, but you kind of have to start Etienne still in a good matchup. He still is the starting running back for the Jags. He still should get more involved in the receiving game. He does have at least 2 targets in every game. I do think Etienne needs to be started in most spots still. Like, I'm starting Etienne over Sermon. I saw someone ask about that. Like, easily Etienne over Sermon. Brian Thomas Jr. and Christian Kirk, both very good starts this week. What was the latest on Gabe Davis? Expected to play this week, I think. He was dealing with an injury last week and this week. Brian Thomas Jr., I do prefer slightly over Kirk. Slightly lower target volume for Brian Thomas Jr. Actually, he's 18 targets in his last 2 games. I still think that's actually under Kirk, who has over 20 targets in his last 2 games. He's averaging 11 targets per game. Christian Kirk his last 2 games. But Brian Thomas Jr.'s targets are more valuable. He's seeing them deeper down the field. So yeah, I do like Brian Thomas Jr. a lot this week in a good matchup versus the Colts. But both these guys, both receivers, all 4 starting receivers in this game, Pittman, Downs, Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, all good starts. All good starts. Love versus Daniels. Yeah, so you kind of can't bench Daniels. You kind of can't bench Daniels. He's QB2 only after Lamar. It's his toughest matchup of the season, so that's going to be interesting. But I do think, by the way, that the Colts win this game versus the Jags. But this should be a bounce back game for the Jags offense against the Colts. This should be a high scoring game in general. But no JT. I think Flacco's going to throw a ton in this one. Let's go to this Giants game because a lot of Giants questions here. This might be one of the storylines I'm watching closely this week for sure. Do the Giants have the least talented offensive roster of all time this week? I mean, it's pretty crazy. We talked about all offseason why Malik Nabers was a good draft pick because the gap between Nabers and the next best player on this offense was just so massive. Arguably the biggest gap in the entire NFL between best player and next best player is on the Giants. And there's no Malik Nabers this week. They're also without Devin Singletary. So Wan'Dale Robinson is about to get a 50% target share for like 40 yards in this game. Wan'Dale is a decent start this week. He had 18 points last week. He had 11 catches. He now has 18 catches in his last 2 games. Granted, he's not getting that many yards. 18 catches, but not even 100, like barely over 150 total yards. And he has not scored a touchdown. He has 1 touchdown, actually, in week 2 against the Commanders, a game where he only had 2 catches. I still think Wan'Dale is like pretty overrated for fantasy because he's getting so many underneath targets, but the target share is there. Guys, he's over 30% target share in 2 games this season. He's only fallen under a 20% target share once. And with no Nabers, I mean, he's got a good shot at over 30% target share again. Not the best matchup for him, but in PPR, you could do much worse. I'd still much prefer Wicks and Downs to Wan'Dale. I think both those guys have a much higher ceiling. This offense might just struggle mightily in general. Not only does this offense lack playmakers, they also have a bottom 5 offensive line and arguably a bottom 5 quarterback too. He hasn't played bottom 5 this season, but with the weapons around him right now, I mean, man, look at this offense. We got Wan'Dale. We got Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt. I mean, Slayton off the radar. Tracy is startable. Tracy is a good receiving back. He profiles as a very good receiver. They threw him actually a deep target that he caught on a penalty, though, that called it back last week. I don't hate his receiving line this week in terms of props. Tracy's startable. I like him a little bit more than Sermon and PPR just because that receiving profile. But I think Sermon has a better touchdown ceiling than Tracy. So I think Tracy's more of the floor play. And Sermon's more of the ceiling play because of the touchdowns. But yeah, Wan'Dale's really the only guy you could consider starting in this offense. I don't even feel great starting Tracy, but he's startable for sure. This game's not going to be close, though, which is going to be really good for Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's going to smash this week versus the Giants. I mean, this game's not going to be close. Kenneth looked amazing last week in a pretty difficult matchup 2. Kenneth Walker last week against the Lions, who ranked top 5 defensive line-wise against running backs. He was running back 2, 33 fantasy points last week for Kenneth. 3 touchdowns. And now he gets the Giants, who were crushed by Aaron Jones in week 1. We saw Eckler and B-Rob combined over 25 against them. We saw Rico Dowdle had 13 points. Ford had 10. The floor for Kenneth is 10. Feel very good about Kenneth in your lineups this week for sure. Let me go to the running backs here on the TikTok live. I'll pull up the running back ranks on the YouTube live as well. Shout out to everybody in this live stream. If you're tuning in, wow, we got a London time game on. I mean, shout out to you. We'll be live, by the way, throughout this entire Sunday morning game and after. Leading up to the games, we'll be live right up till like 30 minutes before kickoff on the live stream today. Wow, insane catch there from Aaron Jones on 3rd down. But yeah, Kenneth is the top 5 running back. He could easily finish the running back 1 this week. DK Metcalf also a smash start this week. He's probably going to torch this Giants secondary. DK Metcalf is having one of the best wide receiver seasons of the year so far. He's number 9 in fantasy points per game. He's averaging 92 yards per game. That ranks 4th best among receivers. He's got back-to-back games over 100 yards. I will not be surprised if this is the 4th straight game for DK Metcalf over 100 yards. The only chance really that he doesn't go over 100 yards is that the game is such a big blowout that they just aren't throwing that much, which is possible. But the Seahawks guys, they've ranked top 3 in pass rate over expectation this season. They've been extremely pass heavy. So I think like the game's got to be a really big blowout for that to change anytime super soon. I think like in the first half, at least, we'll see some pretty decent passing volume from the Seahawks. JSN, he's startable, not a must start, I wouldn't say. I prefer Downs and Wicks over JSN also this week. Also just same concern as Metcalf, but even more so with a guy like JSN. I'm just like, will the pass volume be there this week versus the past weeks? He's run over 40 routes in two games, over 35 routes in back-to-back games. Does he get to 35 routes this week against the Giants? They're really run heavy. I'm not so sure. But he's definitely startable for sure in PPR. And then Lockett is really off the starting radar. I don't love Lockett this week versus the Giants. JSN or Keon Coleman? Yeah, so that one's pretty close. I think it's JSN though over Coleman. Coleman's a good sleeper this week. Should benefit from Shakir being out, but yeah, it's JSN over Coleman. All right, we talked through the Giants game. What games do we have left here? We talked through the Browns, Commanders, Bills, Texans, Panthers, Bears, Colts, Jaguars. Oh, let's get to the Dolphins, Patriots game. I've seen a decent amount of Dolphins start sit questions. This is actually probably a good game to jump to. Let's go to the wide receiver ranks again here on the TikTok live. Tyreek Hill ranks down at wide receiver 32 this week. I still think Tyreek Hill's a decent start. I still think he's a really high ceiling and a sneaky floor. He's been over 6 points still in every single game. I know 6 points isn't a ton, 6.5 points at least in the last 3. I know it's not a ton, especially for Tyreek, but there is a real floor still for Tyreek. They're manufacturing him touches. And you look at the defenses that the Dolphins have played. They played 3 top 7 defenses versus receivers. They played the top 2 defenses versus receivers in the last 3 games. Titans and Bills have allowed the first and second fewest points per game to receivers this season. That's 2 of their last 3 matchups. And obviously playing Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson are factoring into some of these numbers a little bit. But Tyreek, I do think, still has a really high ceiling. I'm not that scared to start Tyreek Hill this week. I think Waddle's a little bit sketchier of a start. I still think there's a real ceiling there too. He's had a similar floor, honestly, to Tyreek as well. Both these guys, I think, are startable. Obviously, the floor is much lower than usual. I still think that these guys have a high ceiling, though. And this game should be pretty ugly, though. One of the lowest over-unders of the week. I think Achane is still in the must-start territory. I am still starting Achane. Mostert should be back this week, which is a little scary. Mostert's going to be back this week, which is a little scary. But Mostert was bad in week 1. I'm not that scared of Mostert until we see him do something this season. In the game he played in, he played 3/4 of that game. In week 1, he was awful. He's under 2 yards of carry in that game against the Jaguars defense, who was also really bad. Drop Johnson for Keenan Allen. Yes, definitely do that. All right, on the other side of this game, so Tyler Huntley not startable. Achane is a must start. He's really in must start territory still. Tyreek Hill is a good start. Waddle's an okay start. All these guys are okay, I still think, to start. The pass defense is good on paper across the roster, but they've actually been a good matchup for most teams still. And then on the Patriots side of the ball, I mean, there's really no must-start players for the Patriots. This is arguably the worst offense in the NFL, even in a week with no Malik Nabers and Devin Singletary. Like the answer to this thing I'm following closely for the Giants of, do they have the worst roster ever? I mean, the answer is no, because of Pats. The Pats have the least talented offensive roster in the NFL, and they are also not starting their most talented player this week with Mondre Stevenson. We still have Mondre Stevenson ahead of Antonio Gibson. I'm still okay starting Mondre over Gibson, but it's really, I'm speculating here. I think Gibson's going to start the game. That seems pretty clear. I still think it's most likely Stevenson out touches Gibson, depending on how Gibson plays, though. This is a good matchup for the running backs, which makes these guys like startable in league still, Mondre and Gibson. I think I'd still go Mondre over Gibson, but it's a tough call. I mean, they've allowed a lot of touchdowns, guys. They've allowed 3, 5, 7 total touchdowns to running backs this season. The Miami Dolphins. It's got to be the most in the NFL. We saw top 15 games out of Pollard, Sharp, and James Cook. ETN also, I think, had his best game of the season versus this team. So Mondre and Gibson, they're startable, not must starts, though, with just the uncertainty in this backfield. And then none of these receivers can be started. Kendrick Bourne is back. Kendrick Bourne is back this week, making this receiver room even more murky. He could easily be the wide receiver 1 on this team, potentially. None of these Patriots receivers should be started. Polk is the only one still that could even be rostered in leagues. No one else should be taking up a roster spot. All right, that's the Dolphins-Pats game, probably the ugliest game of the week, but I do think we see some offensive production from the Dolphins. On to the Cardinals 49ers game. Okay, we're going to get back to the start sits here momentarily, almost through all the games. We're on London time this morning. Man, a lot of turnovers in this London game so far. I think that about to be pick 6? Yep, pick 6 for the Vikings. That's probably good for our Garrett Wilson bags. So we're cool with that. And the Jets are trailing. More passing coming for Rodgers. Don't hate that either. I think that's 3 or 4 turnovers already in this game in the first quarter. Man. All right, let's get to this 49ers-Cardinals game. Shout out to everyone that's live, by the way, during the London game. Shout out to you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. I do appreciate that. It helps me out way more than you realize. I'll be live for the next several hours, talking through every single game. We'll talk about every single relevant player in every single game. And then I'm going to go to hundreds of start sits after we get through every single game. All right, Jordan Mason. Arguably, Jordan Mason should be the running back 1 this week. There's not a running back that I think has a higher floor than Jordan Mason this week. He gets the Cardinals. His rushing prop is like around 90 rushing yards. Jordan Mason is number 2 in the NFL in rushing yards, only after Derrick Henry. I actually think he might lead the NFL in carries. Yeah, he has the most rushing attempts. He's the second most rushing yards. Now he gets the Cardinals, the best matchup of his season. The Cardinals have been torched. The Cardinals defense is one of the worst in the NFL, and their run defense has a lot to do with it. Look at all this green against the Arizona Cardinals. We're watching live on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience. We're looking at the matchup game logs against the Cardinals this season, and it is pretty. We got Brian Robinson over 20 points, Jeremy McNichols, both of these guys over 20 points last week, combined 40 points against the Cardinals defense. The week before that, we had another game where the running backs combined for almost over 40 points. Guys, the Cardinals defense has allowed almost 80 points to running backs in the last 2 games, and Jordan Mason is locked and loaded for 20-plus carries against them this week. So yeah, Mason is arguably running back 1. He ranks as running back 4 in the WalterPicks app. I don't think there's a higher floor play than Mason this week. Brock Purdy's a decent start too in this matchup, assuming this game ends up being kind of close, which the odds are projecting it to be not that close. The 49ers are 7.5-point favorites. Not much respect going to the Arizona Cardinals, but I think there's a decent chance this game ends up being closer than that. But yeah, Brock Purdy's a pretty good start. He ranks as a top 8 quarterback. Let me go to the quarterback ranks here on the TikTok live. I'm playing Purdy over Stroud. Man, that one's close. I don't know about that. I think the floor probably for Purdy is a little bit better. I know the Bills defense has been good, but they're also pretty banged up. Purdy versus Stroud's a tough call. Yeah, Purdy's safer, but lower ceiling. I think I'd go Stroud for the ceiling, but Purdy does have a little bit of a safer floor, just given the matchup, which makes sense. I'm playing Purdy over Dak. I'm playing Purdy over Geno. I'm playing Purdy over Flacco, over Mahomes, over Lawrence, over Caleb Williams, over Sean. I'm playing Purdy over Flacco. Flacco's like the guy for me this week. If I have Mahomes or Lawrence or Caleb, I'm just going to play Flacco. But I would play Stroud and Purdy over Flacco. And then for the receivers, Debo ranks as a top 10 receiver this week. I think Debo's really underrated going into this game. He must start. Debo Samuel's a must start this week for sure. Not only is Debo Samuel likely to succeed as a receiver this week against a bad Cardinals secondary, but I think underratedly, Debo has a good rushing role with Christian McCaffrey out. He's got at least 2 carries in every single game. He had 8 carries in that week 1 game. At least 2 carries against that. We just looked at how the Cardinals have done against running backs. That kind of applies somewhat to Debo this week too. So he's got a rushing ceiling and a receiving ceiling in this game. Sign me up all day for Deebo Samuel. He leads all wide receivers in rushing attempts. He's averaging 4 rushing attempts per game. See, I like Deebo a lot this week. I like Jordan Mason a lot this week. I think Purdy's a solid start. Aiyuk, I do think, is due for a pretty big game. He hasn't cracked 10 points in a single game this season, but he's been out there around 80% of the snaps. He's only had one game over 20% target share. Didn't even get over 10 points in that one. That was the big Juwan Jennings game. I would expect Aiyuk to go over 10 points in this one. I do prefer Aiyuk over Jennings for sure. Let's go to the wide receiver ranks. I'll go to the wide receiver ranks here on the YouTube live as well. But Aiyuk is an okay start for sure in this matchup. And then Juwan Jennings, he's a flex. He's like a back-end flex play. I don't love starting Juwan Jennings, but he's about as hot as receivers get right now. Coming off an insane week 3. He still had a couple big catches in week 4. He did play less than Aiyuk and Deebo, so he's clearly the third receiver. And Kittle's going to be active in this game as well. And you also have Jordan Mason, obviously. So he's like the 5th option in this offense. I don't want to start Jennings, but I don't think he's a bad flex option either. Kittle is not a tight end I'm super excited to start. Coming off the injury, let's pull up the tight end ranks here. So yeah, I'm going to start Kittle over Muth over Njoku. Kittle's like the the top end of tier 4. I would play McBride over Kittle. I'm playing Parkinson and Kraft over Kittle this week too. But I'm going to start Kittle over like all these waiver wire-esque tight ends. Pat Freiermuth. I'm playing Kittle over Njoku, who's going to be limited this week. I'm playing Kittle over Komet. I'm playing Kittle over Ertz, over Likely, over Schultz, over Andrews, over Strange. I'm playing Kittle over all those guys. I think I would start Kyler over Dak. Let's move over to the Cardinals game. Seeing that comment in the TikTok live. We're about to go rapid fire in the comments. By the way, we only got a few games left to break down. Then we're going to go rapid fire in the comment section for the next several hours. We're going to get to hundreds of comments. I'm going to get so many start-sit comments. Even if I don't get to yours, I'm probably going to answer one about the same players you're asking about. And if I don't get to your start-sit comment, by the way, you got to download the WalterPicks app. I've spent the last 4 years of my life helping build this app that can answer all of your start-sit questions custom to your league settings for free. Link is in the YouTube description, in the TikTok bio. Wide receiver rankings, I got you. I'll go wide receiver, then running back. All right, so on the Cardinals side of the ball, Marvin Harrison Jr. still a must start, ranks the top 10 wide receiver still. Coming off a somewhat disappointing game against the Commanders. He did score a touchdown in that game, but only had 45 yards. He's now over 15 points in 3 straight after the abysmal week 1, where he only had 1 catch for 4 yards. He's in must-start territory. Kyler Murray still projects as a top 5 quarterback. I think it's pretty close between him and Fields. This week, I honestly think I'd play Fields over Kyler if I had to choose. Oh, man, another pick for Rodgers. He looks terrible. I think I would play Fields over Murray. I think Kyler versus Burrow and Purdy and Stroud is like really close. I wouldn't knock you for going Purdy, Stroud, or Burrow over Kyler, but I think he's right in that tier. And I think Kyler is still a good start at quarterback. I do. I would start him over Dak. I would. Against the Steelers. Steelers is a tough matchup. That game's going to have some rain in it as well. I'm not super concerned about that rain. But yeah, I prefer Kyler. Kyler's a 7.5-point underdog. He's going to have to keep pace with this 49ers offense that's going to put up points against his defense for sure. Part of the reason I still like Kyler too, I think the floor is there rushing-wise. And also, you just know Kyler's going to be in these game environments where his defense is getting crushed and just steamrolled game after game, bottom 5 defense. It's a similar thing with Jaden Daniels and the Commanders defense too. James Conner, still a good start. He's had 3 good games out of his 4. He's had a touchdown in all 3 of those good games. 49ers, not the best matchup, not the worst either. I mean, the role is really strong still for James Conner, getting over half the carries. He's going to get some targets too. He only has 1 target in each of his last 3 games. But I think the route participation has actually been pretty strong, for James Conner. So it's still a decent start for Conner. I would start Conner. Let me go to the running back ranks now. Let's switch over to the running back ranks as we talk through James Conner here. I would start James Conner over Brian Robinson. I would start James Conner over DeAndre Swift, who's in a good matchup against the Panthers, coming off a good game. I'd start James Conner over Madison, over Hunt, over Akers, over Tracy, over Ramondre, over Trey Sermon. These are the guys I would start James Conner over. Trey McBride is startable this week too. Coming off the injury, a little bit more risk here. Not the best matchup for him against the 49ers, but if you look at who the 49ers have played, they play no real tight ends, guys. The 49ers, listen to the tight ends. They play Tyler Conklin, Johnny Munt, Colby Parkinson, and Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry. Austin Hooper did have 9 points last week, but none of these guys compare to Trey McBride. I think McBride's a decent start this week. I'm starting McBride over Colby Parkinson. I'm starting Kraft over McBride, though. So the guys I'm starting over Trey McBride this week, Colby Parkinson, not one of them. The guys I'm starting over Trey McBride, Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, Brock Bowers, Jake Ferguson, Travis Kelce. That's it. End of list. Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, really not on the fantasy radar in this game. I still think Michael Wilson is better than Dortch because of the role that he has, a little bit of a deeper passing game role, but neither guy are on the fantasy radar. Marvin Harrison Jr. must start. Connor, decent start. McBride, decent start. Kyler, also a decent start. None of those other guys are must starts, though, really, other than Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, 7.5 point underdogs. It really says everything you need to know about the Cardinals defense and also how bad the Cardinals offense looked against the Commanders. I do think they'll play a little bit better this week, though. All right, we got just a few games left. We already talked about Packers, Rams. We already talked about Giants, Seahawks. We got to get to the Raiders, Broncos, Cowboys, Steelers, and then Saints, Chiefs. Only 3 games left. Then we're going to go rapid fire in the comment section. It seems like Rodgers has been a turnover machine in this game. Someone give me an update on the game in the YouTube chat. A quick synopsis on what we've seen in the first quarter here from the Jets Vikings as I've been grinding through the live. Haven't been able to watch much of the game yet. All right, let's get to the Raiders Broncos game. I do rewatch every single game at least once, so I'll watch every single play later on this week. But let's get to the Raiders game here versus the Denver Broncos. Brock Bowers is a must-start tight end, guys. No way around it. You got to start Brock Bowers. Unless you have Kelce or you have Ferguson, you have to start Brock Bowers. There's no Adams in this game, which is massive for the receivers. I think underratedly massive. People are not really, I like the Seahawks today a lot. I do not think there's any chance the Giants can beat the Seahawks today. I didn't mention that when we talked through that game, but yeah, the Giants are going to get crushed. The Giants have just no roster offensively. I think underrated for fantasy is the impact of Devontae Adams leaving right now. Like in terms of the perception of the value of some of these guys and the Raiders without Adams, I don't think it's being fully baked into people's minds. Like Brock Bowers is a clear top 5 tight end in fantasy. Easily, he could be tight end 1. Adams leaves behind around 40% of the air yards and around 30% of the targets. That's going to flow through to some of these guys, mainly Brock Bowers, Jacoby, and Trey Tucker. All are startable guys. Really tough matchup, though, this week against the Broncos. They have Pat Surtain, who's locked down basically every single. Okay, here's the Jets update. 10-0. Rodgers has thrown the ball right to the defense twice. Rodgers looks like Bryce. Yikes. Okay, there's the synopsis of the Jets game. Appreciate that from the chat for those of you guys following along with the game. But yeah, Madison, he's startable this week for sure. The Broncos have been really good against receivers. They've just been okay against running backs, just been okay against tight ends. That does open up the door for Madison and Bowers in this game. And there's no Zamir White in this one. Even before the Zamir White was ruled out, they said they wanted to get Madison more work. I think we're going to see the Zamir White role for Madison. And that role hasn't boded very, very great. Oh, and Darnold is out. Yikes. Who's in for the Vikings if Darnold is out? Let's see if our I did see Darnold get hurt. I thought that was him back in there. It must be, oh no, it's Nick Mullins. Oh, he's back in. No, it's Darnold's back in. Yeah, number 14. What number is Nick Mullins? Number 12. Yeah, I saw number 14 out there. But yeah, I saw Darnold get banged up. Let me go back to this game here between the Raiders and the Broncos. Yeah, I don't think you can start really any of these receivers with a ton of confidence. I'm benching Jacoby Myers. I'm benching Trey Tucker if I can. I honestly think Trey Tucker might be the guy that ends up leading this team, these receivers, with Surtain more likely to match up with Myers. But yeah, Bowers is really the only must start in this team, and Madison's a decent start. I'm starting Madison over Sermon. I'm starting Madison over Akers. I'm starting Madison over Tyrone Tracy. Some of these other running backs, I'm sure some people out there are considering. Minshew's well off the radar. And on the Broncos side of the ball, Javonte Williams is the best start on this team. Sutton is startable this week. By the way, actually, I think this is a decent game for Sutton here. His usage has been strong. And also, you look at the matchup Sutton has had. He's played 4 top 10 defenses versus receivers. Seahawks, Steelers, Bucks, Jets. And the Bucks looked bad on this Thursday. But the Jets, Steelers are definitely real teams. And the Seahawks were fully healthy in that week 1 matchup. Best match for the season for Sutton here. He's had at least 9 targets in 3 of his 4 games. He's seeing massive air yard numbers. He's the only guy on this team receiver-wise that you can play. And he's actually a pretty good start, Sutton, this week. Let me go to the receiver ranks again here on the TikTok live. And then Javonte, he's a pretty good start in this game too. I mean, Bade is out this week. He's on IR now. I mean, the depth chart at running back McLaughlin is going to play, but he's played really bad. Blake Watson is likely going to get his first run of his career in this game. But Javonte is going to lead this backfield in touches almost definitely. It's 16 carries and 3 targets last week, 19 total opportunities, 18 touches for Javonte last week. And now he gets the best matchup of his season too versus the Raiders. So yeah, Javonte's a good start. Sutton's a good start. Neither of them are must starts. And then no one else in this team can be started. Absolutely nobody can be started in this game. This game does somehow have a higher over-under than the Dolphins. Actually, the same over-under as the Dolphins-Pats game. Both those games expect to be gross. I think the Dolphins, though, will still put up points of all 4 of those offenses. The Raiders, Broncos, Pats, Dolphins. I have most faith in Tyreek, Waddle, Achane. Hunter, Najee. It's got to be Najee, man. Let's go to this Cowboys-Steelers game because I've seen way too many Najee questions. Way too many Najee. Guys, you have to start Najee Harris this week. Let me go to the running back ranks again here. Najee Harris ranks as a top 10 running back option this week. Yeah, I got you, Ryan, with the DFS lineup coming up here in a second. Only got 2 more games to break down here, then we'll get to it. Najee Harris is a top 10 running back option this week. Love it or hate it, he has to be started. I know he's been inefficient. I know he's tough to root for. Last week in a really, really good matchup, he goes for 1.5 yards per carry against the Colts. He's been not over 4.2 yards per carry in a single game. But the Cowboys have been crushed, guys, and I mean crushed by running backs this season. They ranked bottom 3 versus running backs. We saw Kamara and Henry pop off. Jerome Ford popped off. They stopped the Giants running backs last week, but that was the Giants offensive line. The Steelers are also without Cordell Patterson and Jaylen Warren this week. So yeah, Najee's got to be started. Has to be started. I also think Pickens is a really good start this week. Borderline must-start territory for George Pickens. Ranks as a top 12 wide receiver in projections this week. I think Pickens he leads the NFL. He leads all receivers. He doesn't actually lead the NFL. Dallas Goedert leads the NFL, but George Pickens leads all receivers in receiving yards without a touchdown. He should have around 2 touchdowns expected based on the yards he has this season. He has none. I think that likely changes on primetime tonight against the Cowboys. The Cowboys, Diggs, their top corner, he was questionable this week. He is going to play, but I think Pickens is in a good enough role. Like, he's really the only receiving weapon on this team. He had 7 catches, 113 last week. Fields finally looked good throwing the ball, like really best throwing game of the season for Fields last week. 11 targets. We've seen over 20% target share now for Pickens in every single game. And over a 30% target share in 2 of the 4. I like Pickens a lot this week. I think the floor and ceiling is arguably there. In a game where the Cowboys versus the Steelers are 3-point favorites at home. This game should be close. So yeah, we're starting Fields too, by the way. Fields is a really good start. The only quarterbacks I'm starting over Fields, is jump over to the QB ranks here. The only quarterbacks I'm starting over Fields. Go to the QB ranks here on the YouTube Live as well. I'm starting Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Jordan Love. That's it. I would start Fields over Kyler. We have Kyler ranked projected ahead of Fields. I personally like Fields more. And it's the rushing, guys. He's a really good rushing floor in this game. He's coming off a game where he had 55 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Again, we know the Cowboys have struggled against the run. He's seeing a game, 3 of his 4 games, Fields has at least 3 carries inside the red zone. He had 8 pass attempts inside the red zone last week too. It was his best passing game of the season. 9.2 yards per attempt, 65% completion percentage. I know that the Colts secondary is not good. That's part of the reason I think Lawrence will probably bounce back today, but he's got at least 6 carries in every single game. Really good rushing floor for Fields in this one. He was QB1 last week, guys. So yeah, Justin Fields a really good start. Really good start. There's only 4 quarterbacks I'm starting over Fields. Lamar, Daniels, Allen, and Love. That's it. Then it's Fields. I'm starting Fields over Burrow, Fields over Purdy, Fields over Stroud. Again, it's the floor for me. I think some of those guys have a larger ceiling. The rushing production increases your floor in fantasy football. You still need the passing to hit the ceiling, but we saw the passing hit last week for Fields. He was QB1. So I think we could see that again this week. All right. That's the Steelers-Cowboys game. I think the Steelers have a pretty good chance to win that one. They are 3-point favorites in that game. All right, last game of the week, and before we get back to some of the start-sit questions in the comments, no halftimes creeping up here in this London game. We're on London time this morning, everyone. Shout out to everyone in this live. We're almost 2 hours in to the live already. We're just getting started. Seeing someone ask for tight ends. I'll pull up the tight ends here on the TikTok live. Pull them up on the YouTube live as well as we talk through this one. And what better time to pull up the tight ends than when we're talking about the Chiefs and Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce is the clear tight end 1 rest of season with Rice out. I think he's the clear tight end 1 this week too. Like, clear. Honestly, if we were tiering the tight ends, which I did on the TikTok live, I had Ferg and Kelce in tier 1. Like, arguably, Kelce's just in tier 1 by himself. Not a horrible matchup versus the Saints. We saw 2 different tight ends go over 10 points. We saw Goddard crush the Saints. He had 10 catches, 170 yards versus the Saints. And then we also saw Shoemaker. I mean, the only real tight end we've seen, I guess Pitts had 0 last week, but the only real tight end we've seen play the Saints had 170 yards, 10 catches. So Kelce's going to have a huge role in this game. He locks into a 25% plus target share projection, which is really not the case for any other tight ends, maybe other than Brock Bowers with Adams out. Ferguson also projects for pretty good volume. Yeah, Kelce's locked and loaded as a must start. I've seen a lot of Kareem Hunt questions. I don't feel great about starting Kareem Hunt. He had 10 points last week, 2 catches, 16 yards. He had 69 rushing yards, didn't score the touchdown. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not going to be active in this game. Steele is sort of a non-factor now. P. Ryan is still going to mix in, though, so it's not like he's in this workhorse role, Kareem Hunt. He's startable, though, for sure. I think him versus Sermon versus Tracy, like these guys all project really close. Let's see, actually, Tracy and Sermon. Yeah, I think it is Hunt over these guys. Yeah, it's Kareem Hunt. I'd play over both those guys, but it's definitely close. So it's Kelce. He's the only guy that you absolutely need to start. Mahomes is not startable. Like, bench Mahomes if you can. I'm playing Joe Flacco over Mahomes this week. I feel honestly pretty good about that. Kareem Hunt is startable. He's a decent start. Wouldn't say he's a must start. And then Xavier Worthy is also a good flex option. We talked about it last week before the Rice injury. I said, Worthy's a pretty good flex option this week. He's got the same ceiling he had in week 1. I know he missed in week 2 and week 3, but this is what Worthy is. He's a good high upside flex option. And he's got a little bit of a higher floor now with Rice out. So yeah, Worthy's definitely flex play worthy this week for sure. Flex play worthy for Xavier Worthy this week. Don't hate that at all. I would still definitely prefer Wicks and Downs, though, over a guy like Worthy. I like Pittman more than Downs. On the other side of this game, the Saints. Taysom Hill is out. Kamara played through broken ribs last week. He's going to play through whatever he's dealing with again this week. He still ranks as running back 3 this week, despite playing the number 1 defense versus running backs. We have not seen very much good offense against the Chiefs defense. It feels like another one of these years, guys. I hate to say it. The Chiefs have the best defense in the NFL. They have a top 3 defense in the NFL. Like we are in another season where Mahomes is going to get carried to the Super Bowl by an elite defense. Really scary stuff. They're probably going to trade for a receiver. Marquise Brown's probably going to come back in the playoffs too. I mean, crazy stuff there for the Chiefs defense. But yeah, we've not seen very many good fantasy games against the Chiefs. Almost none. Derrick Henry only had 11 points in week 1, and he scored a touchdown in that one. Justice Hill had a bunch of catches, though. Not crazy to think this will be the best running back game versus the Chiefs, considering Alvin Kamara ranks as running back 1 in fantasy points per game, especially in PPR leagues. He's at 26.6 points per game. He leads the NFL again in target share at the running back position. And he's seen some massive carry games, too. He's been a top 15 running back every single week. He's been a top 7 running back 3 of the 4 games, over 20 points in 3 of the 4 games, no games under 15. This is the toughest test yet, though, for Kamara for sure. Still must start, obviously. And then Olave is a good start, too. Again, there's not been very many good receiver games versus the Chiefs. I think there's been 1. There's been a few. McConkey, Mooney, London, and Yoshavas all went over 14.5 PPR points. Gives me some confidence in Olave. No receivers have been over 20 points versus the Chiefs yet, though, this whole season. They haven't played the best receivers, to be fair. I mean, Jamar Chase only had 7.5 points. That's the best receiver they played. That's a little bit scary. But yeah, Olave still ranks the top 12 wide receiver. Still has to be started in most spots. And then Rashid Shaheed, he's startable as a flex option. You know, I probably would play him over Worthy, for example. But again, tough matchup for Shaheed. His target shares have been really underrated, though. He's over 20% target share in every single game this season, coming off a season high 30% target share, 11 targets for Shaheed last week. He's now been over 15 points in 3 of his 4 games. Had a donut in week 3, but still had a chance for a couple big plays in that game. Shaheed is startable for sure. Where would Rice be if he wasn't injured? Yeah, Rice has been projected as a top 3 receiver every week for us, really since week 1. All right, that's every single game. All right, we're going to go back to the rapid fire portion of the live in the chat as the Jets offense continues to struggle here about halfway through the second quarter. Who should I drop on my It's Meatballs officer? Team on Sleeper is at Ben Sloniker. All right, let's pull this up, Ben. We'll sync the Sleeper League here. if you have questions on sleeper, definitely is good to send the sleeper ID. I can pull it up on screen here on the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, come to the YouTube live. You think CD will get over 80 yards? Yes, I do. I see Garrett Wilson or Brian Thomas questions. Guys, we're on London time this morning. We're on London time. So you missed the boat if you still got start sit questions for this game. I would definitely have told you to start Garrett Wilson, though. Man, the Jets offense looks like it can't do anything right now. Hurts on a bye. Between Likely, Andrews, Jennings, Lockett to grab a QB. Likely. Who's your tight ends, though? You have Likely and Andrews. Yikes. Jennings, Lockett. Yeah, in terms of quarterbacks, it's Flacco. Add Flacco. I'd probably drop Lockett or Jennings. I don't think you can drop either of those tight ends. I do kind of like keeping both. Also, you probably can just drop Rashee Rice unless he's in your IR slot. I don't think Rice plays again this season. You only have 4 receivers? Oh, man, yikes. You honestly might want to drop Rice for one of these receivers, too. Atwell or Tolbert. Cooks is out for the next 4 weeks. Tolbert's just going to take that role, I think, right from him. I have Akers and Chase Brown. Who do I start? Yeah, I'd go Akers. Thanks for sending the sleeper name here, though. But yeah, I think you drop Lockett or Jennings, and I would not drop. I don't think I'd drop Likely or Andrew. I do kind of like keeping both of them. Morning, Sam. Screwed with mixing out. Start Eckler, Sermon, or Madison. Yeah, it's Madison, then Sermon, then Eckler. Madison's a pretty decent start. There's no Zamir White this week. I think I would start Brian Thomas over T. Higgins. That one's pretty close, though. Wicks or Deontay. Yeah, so this is a floor-ceiling decision here. It's a floor-ceiling decision. Do you want the ceiling of Dontavian Wicks of 30-plus points, or do you want the floor of Deontay of at least 10? It's heating up here in the Sunday morning live. The Wicks versus Deontay decision. This is not an easy decision. This is not an easy decision for Wicks versus Deontay. I would play Love over Fields, by the way. I think Love is going to have a big game. All right, we already looked up Wicks. Yeah, Deontay is going to have a better floor here. I would argue that the ceiling for Wicks is higher. You kind of have to go Deontay unless you're going for the ceiling. If you want to play it safe, and it's not like Deontay doesn't also have a ceiling with the target shares he's seeing, it's Deontay. If you want to really shoot for the ceiling, though, it's Wicks. There was a question earlier, actually the same question of Wicks versus Deontay, but they had Jordan Love also. Like in that case, I'm okay going for the stack, even though Deontay projects a little bit better. I'm going Pickens over Deontay, I think. Close one. I'm a little scared about Deontay also because of the weather. Weatherman Sam's here for you all season, guys. We're really like my main goal as Weatherman Sam is to make sure you guys aren't overreacting to weather that's actually not that bad. And I think there's a decent amount of that going on this week. So Weatherman Sam's here for you. The Vikings-Jets game has some rain. There's no evidence suggesting that that's the reason offenses are going to struggle. Rodgers looks like Bryce Young. That doesn't have to do with the rain. Cowboys-Steelers is going to have some rain. Colts-Jaguars game is going to have some rain. Not scared, though. There's not wind of concern in this game. Do not panic about the Vikings-Jets, Cowboys-Steelers, Colts-Jaguars games. But I do have some moderate concern for the Bears-Panthers game. There's going to be 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds in that game with wind gusts up to 28 miles an hour. So, yeah, that is a little bit scary. And that is a good enough tiebreaker for me when deciding between Deontay and some of these other receivers, like going back to this Deontay Wicks conversation. You also look at the matchups here. And like, I think I personally, because, oh no, Aaron Jones banged up on the sideline. Hate to see that. He's dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career. Someone in the chat, let me know what they say about the status there. It doesn't look like he's got his helmet to me. Obviously don't have the sound on for that game. The matchup's way better for Wicks. The weather is way better for Wicks. And honestly, the projections are like pretty close. And the ceiling is, I think, honestly, a little higher for Wicks. So like the more we talk through this one, actually, I think I'd lean Wicks over Deontay. The more we talk through it, I'm okay benching Deontay for George Pickens too. Like I think lean away from Deontay in these start sits with the matchup and the weather concerns in that game. Again, that's the only game with any weather concerns really today. There's a bunch of games with rain though. All right, we're going rapid fire in the comment section now, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience. The link is right in the TikTok bio. You're 2 presses of your finger away from going to the YouTube live where you see my screen being shared. You see comments being pulled up on the screen. I will answer start sits from both. I like Metcalf over 70 yards for sure. Yeah. He's probably going to have his 4th straight game over 100 yards today. I'm playing Ford over B-Rob. All right, start 2 flex. Full PPR. Hill, Hubbard, Ford, Downs, Higgins, Wandale, Robinson. Yeah, so this one's definitely pretty close. I think I lean towards Downs, like needing to be Downs and Hubbard, I think are the two. I think both these guys are really good plays. Yeah, Hubbard's a top 10 running back. And then you only are starting two here. Yeah, I would start Hubbard over Ford. I'd start Hubbard over Higgins. I'd start Hubbard over Wandale. I'm starting Downs over Wandale too. Downs is like just a more exciting version of Wandale. Wandale is like a less exciting version of Downs on a less exciting offense, less exciting game environment, less exciting matchup too for Wandale. So yeah, I think like I still like Tyreek Hill, but I'm not starting Tyreek over Hubbard. I'm not starting Tyreek over Downs either. I'm playing Downs over Tyreek. Yeah, I have that same comment in the. But let's pull this up. If you're watching live on TikTok, again, I can share my screen on the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio to come to YouTube live. We're about to compare Tyreek and Downs to Hubbard as well. And yeah, Downs is just a safer play. Arguably has a similar ceiling too. I still like Tyreek's ceiling in this game, but yeah, it's Downs over Tyreek this week, man. Trey Tucker or Worthy? Yeah, this one's pretty close. I think I lean towards Worthy over Trey if I had to decide. Just the matchup's a little scary for Trey Tucker versus the Broncos. Saints aren't the best matchup either. But with Rice out, there's a bit of a higher floor. I'm playing Wicks over Hill too. Yeah, I'm playing Wicks and Downs over Tyreek Hill. Playing Downs over McLaurin as well. I'm playing Worthy over Trey Tucker for sure. Yeah, Walter agrees with me on this one. By the way, if you haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, I do not know what you're waiting for. Download the WalterPicks app. It's in the YouTube description. It's in the TikTok bio. It's called WalterPicks because Walter is the AI model that powers the WalterPicks app. We are grinding at WalterPicks to have the best possible projections you could possibly find for free in the WalterPicks app. And there's some premium subscriptions in the app too, where you can sync your leagues for personalized insights all season. You can get player prop insights. This app is well worth the subscriptions. Best way you could possibly support me, support the entire WalterPicks brand is checking out the app. Again, the link is in the YouTube description. The link is in the TikTok bio. Do appreciate everyone checking that out. That's what, if you're watching live on YouTube, you're seeing the app on the screen here throughout the whole live. Downs or Pickens. Yeah, I like both these guys a lot this week. I really don't think you can bench Pickens against the Cowboys. The target share has been there. I like Downs a lot too. I would argue Downs, like the floor is maybe, yeah, I mean, they're pretty close here. The ceiling, though, for Pickens is a decent bit higher than Downs. Downs has the better matchup. I'd argue like a little bit of a safer PPR role operating underneath. Downs is over a 30% target share this season in his two games. Not in each game, but combined over the two games. Sam, my team's getting cooked with injuries. Alex, you are not alone. You are not alone. This is my favorite time of the fantasy season because this is really when I think that the best fantasy managers win out. The bye weeks are hitting, the injuries are hitting, and the best managers, they're dealing with the injuries too, but they're finding a way out of the bottomless pit of injuries. And yeah, you got a bunch of these guys here to consider for sure. This is a good start-sit decision to be thinking about. Madison, Akers, Sermon, and we got Trey Tucker and Whittington. So I would not start Trey Tucker here. I would start Madison, Akers, and Sermon over Trey Tucker this week. We're benching Njoku, by the way, on the TikTok live because he's going to be limited today. They said he's not going to play his full amount of reps. So yeah, no thanks to that. I'd rather start Kraft or Parkinson. So yeah, we're gonna ignore Trey Tucker in this one. I would start Whittington over Trey Tucker as well. You're only starting two here. So Madison, I think, should be started over Akers and Sermon. Let's just do that one really quick. Madison, Akers, and Sermon. I think Madison's locked in for the biggest workload of these three guys. Like Madison's going to see at least 15 touches in this game. There's no Zamir White. They already said they preferred Madison over White after last week. Madison actually has had some decent games, some decent performances too. We've seen him go over 13 points twice already this season. Not, the best matchup here, but the Broncos secondary is better than their run defense for sure. Like they're a little bit of a run funnel team. And they also funnel targets to the tight ends a little bit because of how good they are against receivers. Part of the reason I like Brock Bowers a lot this week. But yeah, I'm starting Madison, and let's take Madison out of this one, and let's add in Whittington, because I think Whittington could be a better PPR option. Yeah, he is. So yeah, the answer here is Madison and Whittington. Bench Trey Sermon, bench Cam Akers. Both these guys are pretty risky options. Someone let me know in the chat in the YouTube live, what are they reporting with Aaron Jones? Seems like he's probably out for the game. Yeah, I do have player prop lineup for us. We already are deep into the game where I had two of the player props. I don't know what the stat line is. Let's actually see here really quick. What's the stat line for Garrett Wilson so far? He has 3 catches, 16 yards, and I think they missed him on 2 targets already. But yeah, that was 2 of the free player props to start in the London time live stream. We're on London time today, guys. We're over 2 hours into this live stream. We got another couple hours to go. We're going to try to hit 4 hours on this live stream. We'll see if we can do it. But Garrett Wilson over 4.5 receptions. They already got 3. The odds on that one weren't great, but that was pretty much locked territory. And those are both looking pretty good with this game environment here in the Vikings game. I also really like Najee Harris rushing yards tonight versus the Cowboys. Really like that one. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, let me know which rankings you want to see. I got positional rankings for every single position. I don't want to start Zach Moss because he's splitting a role with Chase Brown and has a tough matchup this week. But yeah, Najee Harris is the free player prop. I do have a DraftKings lineup. Let me get to that. Then we'll go back to some of these rapid fire starts questions. I got a fun one for us. By the way, I've given a free DraftKings lineups every single week on these live streams. We're 2 for 4 in terms of cashing. But again, my mindset with these lineups, these are tournament lineups. I want first place potential. I want a lineup that almost nobody else, I want a lineup nobody else is playing. Very differentiated with maximum upside and a lot of correlation too. And I think we're achieving that one here. I think this is going to be an extremely unique lineup. So we're playing Flacco. First of all, Flacco has been priced, minimum price against the worst defense in the NFL versus quarterbacks. Flacco looked pretty good last week against a good defense coming just right off the bench. Flacco didn't expect to play last week. He gets thrown in. Got to be pretty impressed with what we saw from Flacco. He still had 15 points against a good top 5 Steelers defense. Now he gets the worst defense versus quarterbacks in the NFL. So I'm riding with the Flacco, Downs, Pittman stack. This is a pretty cheap stack in the world of stacks on DraftKings this week. I like the stack on FanDuel too. Flacco is just way too underpriced. He's almost 40 years old, but he is still balling. We get the former last year's comeback player of the year against the worst secondary in the NFL right now. The worst defense in the NFL versus quarterbacks this season is the Jaguars. We've seen other quarterbacks already be the number 1 quarterback. We saw Josh Allen do it. We saw Stroud last week be a top 8 quarterback. We saw Tua be a top 8 quarterback. We even saw the best game of the season from Deshaun Watson versus this defense. So yeah, I like Flacco, stacked with Downs and Pittman. And this frees up a lot of salary to go get Jordan Mason and Kenneth Walker. Both of these guys could be the running back 1 this week. I think these guys have massive floors, but also huge ceilings in their respective games. Mason gets the Cardinals defense that's been torched on the ground. Mason's blocked in for 15 plus carries in this game. Mason leads the NFL in rushing attempts. And now he gets the bottom 5 Cardinals defense that was just destroyed. The Cardinals have allowed almost 80 points to running backs in their last 2 games. And then Kenneth Walker against the Giants. Kenneth Walker looked great after the injury last week. And now he gets the Giants in a game that they're going to get absolutely smoked. They have no offense. And this is an even better matchup for Kenneth than what he had last week, where he scored 33 fantasy points. I like Brian Thomas, the bring back for Brian Thomas versus the Colts. I think Christian Kirk can be considered here too. And then Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed. I'm playing both these guys specifically because I think this is where a lot of the differentiation in this lineup comes in. I don't think many people are going to play Kraft and Reed without stacking them with Jordan Love. And both these guys are priced a little too low with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs out. Jaden Reed could be wide receiver 1 this week. He projects as wide receiver 3 in our projections. And then Tucker Kraft's a top 5 tight end play this week against a bad Rams team. We just need the Rams game to stay close, and both Kraft and Reed can smash their respective costs. And then I'm going with the Dolphins defense against the worst quarterback in the NFL in Jacoby Brissett. If I were to tweak this lineup at all, I would probably pay down a little bit more at defense and then play around with the Kraft Reed and maybe swap one of those guys out. But I really like this lineup a lot. I'd also consider Brian Thomas versus Christian Kirk. That's the DraftKings lineup of the week. If you are playing on DraftKings or FanDuel, by the way, the WalterPicks app can help you with that too. Download it in the YouTube description, in the TikTok bio. We got a DraftKings and FanDuel optimizer in the app for all premium subscribers. It comes with a 7-day free trial too if you've never tried it out. Justice Hill or Flowers in the flex over Tyreek. Yeah, I think Flowers over Tyreek makes sense. I think Flowers and Tyreek are pretty comparable, honestly, but it's close. Running backs, I got you. Why are we benching Komet? That game's going to be ugly. Going to be a very ugly game between the Bears and the Panthers. Komet did fall back down to earth a little bit last week. He projects as tight end 11. I would prefer, the reason I've Komet as a bench is I would prefer Kraft and Parkinson over Komet this week. He had 3 catches, 34 yards last week. Komet, he's now been under 10 points in 3 of his 4 games. The usage is up. He's playing almost every snap now. He's running around almost every drop back. I think the Bears could skew really run heavy in this game, though. Tucker Kraft or Trey McBride? Yeah, it's Kraft. It's Kraft over McBride for sure. It's got to be Kraft over McBride. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. Eli, hit the like button. I'm going to get you hundreds more comments. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, smash the follow button and then go to the TikTok bio, tap on YouTube, come to the YouTube live. Yeah, I promise you it's a better viewing experience. It's all the same rankings. So let me switch up the rankings here. I'll show the running back ranks on the YouTube live as well. Let's get to some running back start sits here. Murray or Darnold. Again, we're on London time. I told you guys, those of you that have been here on London time with me, we're a couple hours into the live stream already since we started an hour early this week. We're on London time. And there's going to be a lot of people asking start sit questions about the Vikings, about the Jets that aren't on London time. They don't realize that they had to be on London time. So yeah, if you started Darnold, it's too late. He's already playing. And if you started Rodgers, it's too late. The Jets Vikings game is almost at halftime. We were on London time this morning. We're on London time next week and the week after that too. So you got to hop in the live stream a little early for the London time games. We're going to be on London time on this live the next few weeks. Enjoy the games and your Sunday as well. Kylo, appreciate you always tuning in. All right, Worthy Downs or Brian Thomas. Yeah, it's Downs. It's Downs and Thomas over Worthy for sure. For sure. All right, we got a good one here. Half PPR. We got Terry, Hunt, Swift, Brian Thomas, Javonte, Tracy. Half PPR. I think it's Swift, Brian Thomas, and Javonte. Over Hunt, over Terry. I think Brian Thomas over Terry. Let's actually do this one. Especially in half PPR, I think even more so. Where Terry's probably a little bit more likely to get more catches. Yeah, it's in PPR and half PPR. Downs or Kirk? It's Downs over Kirk. Both good options. I think it's Downs over Kirk. Obviously, same game there. Really good game environment there. Yeah, it's Downs over Kirk. Downs is a higher target share than Kirk this season, guys. He's only played 2 games, but he's been smashing. Judy or Akers? Yeah, this one's Judy. Start Judy over Akers. I don't know if the projections are going to agree with me here. Judy's a good sleeper this week versus the Commanders. He's underratedly outperforming expectations this season on a team that's really underperforming expectations. He could smash this week in a good matchup versus the Commanders. Yeah, it's Judy over Akers for sure. Sermon or Worthy? Yeah, that one's close too. I think the ceiling's there for Worthy. I'd probably just go Worthy. JSN or Javonte? Let's go to the wide receiver ranks here again on the TikTok live. Let's go Jackson Smith and Jigba versus Javonte here. I think it's going to be JSN, but it's probably pretty close. Wow, Javonte outprojects JSN. Javonte does have a good matchup. I am a little bit scared for the Seahawks game environment for the pass catchers too. They've been really pass heavy this season. They actually are top in the league in pass rate over expectations this season. But they get the Giants with no offense today. I think it could be a huge Kenneth Walker game. I think Javonte over JSN's fine. Javonte is in a good matchup. Should get at least 15 touches in this game. I think he had 16 carries we were just looking at last week. Yeah, he had 16 carries, 3 targets. He had 18 touches last week. Gets a better matchup. Love me some London time. Yeah, I love the London time as well. Happy PR. Makes this live stream, the London time live streams, they always fly by. Like I'm going to be live for an extra hour today, but it's going to feel so fast because we've got football going on. Just a lot going on during London time streams. All right, happy PR. Aiyuk, Sermon, or Wandale. Yeah, so this one I think, like I generally like the lean. Let me switch to happy PR. By the way, thanks for letting me know the settings. Knowing your scoring settings is massive. It's massive. I'm not panicking on Brees. I haven't seen much of this game, but I'm not going to panic on Brees unless Braelon Allen, gets more and more work. Like even if Brees was at 50% of the touches, I think that I'd probably not panic on him because of the receiving role for Brees. All right, let's go. Let's look at this one. Aiyuk, thanks for telling me the scoring settings. Scoring settings are massive. That's part of the reason you need to use the WalterPicks app. Part of the reason the WalterPicks app is so valuable for fantasy is it adjusts for all your scoring settings. All right, we got Aiyuk. We got Sermon. I think my gut, by the way, is Aiyuk here. But I also am a Wandale hater, and I know he projects well this week. Let's see here. Yeah, Wandale projects a little bit better here. Man, this is a tough start sit. I think the answer is Wandale. I do think we're due for a breakout Aiyuk game. And in half PPR, Wandale's definitely a lot less valuable, but still over 30% target share is going to be some value in half PPR. The answer here is Wandale. I would rank these Wandale, Aiyuk, then Sermon. I think Aiyuk over Wandale deserves some serious consideration. Let's see here. Aiyuk's does have the highest ceiling. Oh, gosh, yeah. Aiyuk's ceiling is way better than Wandale's in this game. Part of me thinks I trust my gut and go with Aiyuk. I think it's between Aiyuk and Wandale, though. I'd start both these guys over Sermon in half PPR as well. Trey Tucker or Eckler, I think I'd lean Trey. I think you got to bench Eckler this week. I think if I had to choose, I'd go Aiyuk over Wandale. Again, I'm sort of a certified Wandale hater, though. Higgins or Wandale Robinson, yeah, that's T. Higgins over Wandale. Judy or Zay Flowers. Oh, man. Rodgers is getting crushed. Higgins or Wandale Robinson is Higgins. Wandale or Sutton. I think that one's Sutton too. Let's actually see this. Does Walter agree with me on that one? Higgins versus Wandale. I think so. Oh, we're in half PPR. Let's switch that. Wow, these guys project really close. Yeah, I'm going Higgins. PPR projects, Wandale projects better. I'm going to Higgins over Wandale. Sam, help. Been here over an hour and a half. Shout out to you, Flicky, for being on London time. I'm struggling at running back this week. Akers, Madison, Justice Hill, or Gibson, PPR. Pick 2. Thank you, Mandy. I got you. A lot of people struggling with running backs this week. Let's go to the running back ranks on the TikTok live. Sorry about that. TikTok live. Let's go to the running back ranks here. I'll pull up the running back ranks. I already have the running back ranks up on the YouTube live. So we'll see where I have these guys ranked. I know a lot of people considering Akers and Madison this week. I think Madison's a decent bit better than Akers because Zamir's out. Better matchup for Akers, but better role for Madison. I think a significantly better role. Like Madison, I feel pretty confident to say will get at least 15 touches in this game. He's a little bit, not game script dependent too. He'll catch passes. He'll get a lot of carries. He's likely to get the goal line work. Whereas Akers, I can't confidently say he's going to get over 15 touches in this game. I don't think he's gotten over 15 touches in a game yet. He had 13 carries last week, 9 carries the week before that. He had no games over 15 touches yet in this exact role he's in again. Agumba Wale is stealing a lot of the receiving work. JJ Taylor is also mixing in. So he's in a 3-way committee, whereas Madison is really more in a workhorse role. All right, so we're going to start Madison here. So then let's compare for the other slot. Let me clear this. And we're going to start Madison over Akers. We're going to start Madison over Justice Hill. We're going to start Madison over Antonio Gibson. Gibson projects still worse than Mondre. Really murky situation here for the Pats, where they're saying Antonio Gibson's going to, he gets the starting role now because Mondre's fumbled too much. You got to love the least talented offensive roster in the NFL, not starting their most talented offensive player. I mean, pretty crazy stuff there for the Pats. True Bill Belichick, mentality there. I don't think that it's very likely Antonio Gibson out-touches Mondre unless he starts the game really well, which he has outplayed Mondre in a couple games too, regardless of the fumbling issues. I also think it's very ironic that Antonio Gibson has one of the worst fumbling histories in the NFL. Like, he's a horrible fumbling history. So you're benching Mondre for fumbling, and you're starting instead a guy with a long history of fumbling. Very curious, coaching there, I think. But anyways, Justice Hill and Akers, we already did. Yeah, so let's compare these guys. And yeah, Akers projects the best here. Justice Hill is an interesting one. Justice Hill has had a couple of huge target games, last week being one of them, 21 points. He had, 33% target share. The only 2 running backs over a 30% target share in a game this season are Justice Hill and DeAndre Swift. They both did it last week. I still think I'd prefer Akers over Justice Hill, though. What was the snap percentage for Hill? 35%, season low 35% for Hill last week. I think I'd lean Akers here. I don't love Gibson against the Dolphins. One of Gibson or Mondre probably will have a good game. The Dolphins have not been good against running backs. We've seen a lot of good running back games. We saw ETN's best game of the season really came against them in week 1. He didn't even play that great in that one. James Cook, Sharp, and Pollard, and Spears all had decent games. So Gibson's definitely startable, but yeah, I think Akers in that high-scoring game environment is probably the best option. I'd rank them Akers, then Gibson, then Hill, I think, this week. But in PPR, Hill's definitely worth considering. Tough one there, but definitely start Madison. Najee or DeAndre Swift. Start Najee Harris this week. Najee Harris is a top 10 running back option this week against a bad Cowboys run defense. There's no Jalen Warren, and there's no Cordell Patterson, Bryce. You got to start him. Have to start him. I know it's not the most exciting start, especially when Swift popped off last week. And Swift has a good matchup against the Panthers, too. But Roschon might be the goal line back for the Bears. Najee Harris is the goal line back for the Steelers. Granted, he might lose some work to Fields potentially, but yeah, you got to start Najee Harris. Good morning to everybody in this live stream. We were on London time this morning, so it's not morning. It's actually nighttime. It's nighttime. We're on London time. But good morning to all of you guys not on London time that are just joining us. We are almost at halftime in the London time game. Jets getting absolutely blown out by the Minnesota Vikings. The AFC East looking pretty weak this season. Looks like the Bills have that pretty locked and loaded at this point already. The Jets are going to be, 3-2? I can't see it behind my screen here, but I think they're going to be 3-2 now after this game, or 2-3. Charbonnet, Akers, Justice Hill, or Leggett. Yeah, so this one, you can't start Charbonnet with Kenneth Walker back. I think this one's Leggett. Let's do Leggett versus Akers here. Probably a relatively close projection. If this is PPR, which I assume it is since you didn't say, I think I lean Leggett. Akers projects a little bit better. I think I'd go Leggett. Akers, just what's the real ceiling for Akers, man? I mean, the floor is there. He should score a touchdown for the first time this season against the Bills in this high-scoring game. But, yeah, I think I lean Leggett over Akers in PPR. Wanda, Robinson, Downs, Wicks start one full PPR. Yeah, so I'm starting Wicks and Downs over Wanda like very easily this week. I think Downs versus Wicks is honestly the question of the week. Like both these guys are really good starts suddenly in fantasy. You've got Joe Flacco starting, no Jonathan Taylor. Downs has over a 30% target share combined in his 2 games this season. He gets a Jaguars defense that ranks bottom 5 in the NFL in the secondary so far this season. But then you got Dontavian Wicks with no Christian Watson, no Romeo Doubs. Wicks also, we've seen over a 30% target share this season. Actually, last week, guys, we saw him with a 24% target share. There was 13 targets. He was wide receiver 3 last week, 25 points. So both these guys locked into massive target shares. I lean towards Wicks over Downs. I think the ceiling is a little bit higher for Wicks, assuming that the Rams can keep pace with the Packers offense and the Packers throw enough. I think the floor for Downs is actually a little bit better, though, in that game environment and matchup. And the role, Downs is a little bit more of an underneath guy. Wicks is a little bit more of a deep threat. But yeah, I lean Wicks over Downs just slightly. But I think that's one of the questions of the week for sure. And both are really good starts. Both must starts, in my opinion. I'm starting Tracy over Sermon. Let's go to the must starts, must benches here. I think Sermon is a big risk this week. I think his touchdown ceiling is there. Like, I think he should score a touchdown and should have the goal line roll. I think that the touchdown upside is higher for Sermon than it is for Tracy. But I think Tracy's the guy that is more likely to have better receiving numbers this week, which is part of the reason I think in PPR I would go Tracy over Sermon. I think Tracy has a better floor than Sermon. Sermon has a better ceiling than Tracy because of the touchdowns. But Sermon's not going to be in this workhorse role. I don't think either of these guys really are going to be in workhorse roles, but Sermon is definitely not going to be in a workhorse role. I think Goodson's going to mix in. I think they're going to throw a lot in this game too. So you're really just banking on a touchdown for Sermon. It's possible we see Evan Hull get some run in this game too. Are you concerned about the weather in Jacksonville? Yeah, so Weatherman Sam is here for you. I got the Weatherman Sam hat on for the stream today because there's a decent amount of weather being discussed this week. And it's important that we don't overreact to weather. It's important that we don't overreact to the weather. There's actually only one game I'm concerned about this week, and it's not the Jaguars-Colts game. The Vikings-Jets game has some rain. The Cowboys-Steelers game is going to have some rain tonight. And yeah, the Colts-Jaguars game, there's going to be some rain. There's absolutely going to be some rain. But I'm not that scared about rain. This game, all right, I like their chance of seeing rain. Widely scattered showers and storms we've seen throughout the area. Moderate rain is highly likely, with occasional downpours possible. There's no evidence out there that rain significantly impacts offenses in the NFL. These are professional football players. They're capable of playing in the rain. So I'm not panicking about the Jags-Colts game. I'm not panicking about the Cowboys-Steelers game, which will have some rain as well. The Panthers-Bears game, to me, is the biggest concern. Only moderate concern in that one, but enough moderate concern that I'm willing to bench Deontay in some spots in this game because there's going to be sustained 20-mile-an-hour winds in this game. Wind gusts up to 28 miles an hour. See, I'm kind of concerned about the weather in the Panthers-Bears game the most. I'm not panicked about that game. It's right on the threshold of some concerning wind. It's not the most concerning. Sam, how are we doing, Yardsman? We are doing great, man. It is week 5. We're over a month into the season, and we are on London time for the first time this season. We're over 2.5 hours into this live, man. I'm pumped for this week. So many good games to talk through. We got a fun one already going on our TV screens with the Jets just getting pummeled in London. So that's been fun. Hopefully Garrett Wilson hits his overs in the second half, but I'm doing great, man. All right, let's get to this one. Trey Tucker, Keon Coleman, Tank, Justice Hill. Yes, you're not starting. Oh, is that Tank Dell? Must be Tank Dell. Pick 2 here. Yeah, so this one's actually pretty close. Let's do the receivers first because this is PPR. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, guys, come to the YouTube Live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. I can share screen to what we're talking about on the live, the comments I can pull up, and I can also share screen to the game logs and the player comparisons that we're talking through on the live stream. So come to the YouTube Live. Just a better viewing experience. Shout out to everyone in the YouTube Live right now. Smash the like button if you're watching live on YouTube. All right, we got Keon Coleman, Trey Tucker, and then it was Tank Dell. Tank Dell is just so scary to start. The ceiling is, I still think, there for Tank, but I definitely would prefer to bench him if I could. So yeah, it's Keon Coleman out of these 3 receivers. Without Khalil Shakir, good game environment here. Should be the highest scoring game of the week, I think. between the Bills and the Texans. Bills defense is all sorts of banged up as well, and the Texans have been beatable defensively. And then let's look at Justice Hill compared to these other two receivers here. I think these receivers will probably project a little bit better. Yeah, it's Trey Tucker. Not the most exciting matchup for Trey Tucker against the Broncos, but I do think we see Surtain on Jacoby Myers more so than Trey Tucker, which honestly could open up some things potentially for Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker is kind of like a mini version of Rashid Shaheed. I feel like he's a slightly worse version of Rashid Shaheed. I could see Trey Tucker becoming Rashid Shaheed-esque, especially with Adams out. All right, Purdy or Fields? Yeah, this one's pretty close. I do like Fields this week, and Garrett Wilson's already hit his receptions prop. We love to see that. Let me go to the QB ranks here on the TikTok live. I'll pull up let me know in the comments too, guys. What ranks do you want to see next? If you're watching live on TikTok, if you're watching live on YouTube too, let me know which ranks you want to see next. I'll pull up the QB, or we got the QB ranks up already. Yeah, so I got Justin Fields a couple spots ahead of Brock Bowers. I would start Fields over Bowers. Sorry, not over Bowers, over Purdy. Brock Bowers, Brock Purdy. Got two Brocks that I like this week. Anyways, Fields versus Purdy, I think is close. I personally like Fields because the rushing floor. My fear for Brock Purdy in this one is that Jordan Mason just goes bananas against a horrible run defense for the Arizona Cardinals. Jordan Mason leads the NFL in rushing attempts. The Arizona Cardinals have been one of the worst run defenses in the league. They've allowed almost 80 fantasy points to running backs in the last two games. Almost 80 points to running backs in the last two games. That's a lot of fantasy points. But Brock Purdy's been pretty good in his last two. This is also a bad secondary, like not a bad matchup for Purdy either, assuming the game stays close. The 49ers are 7.5-point favorites in this one. I do think it'll be closer than that, though. So Purdy's absolutely a decent start this week, but Fields against the Cowboys run defense that's really struggled. Fields coming off his best passing game of the season. I think the floor-ceiling combo for Fields is just a little bit better. I think the floor is a bit better and the ceiling is pretty comparable. We have seen two good games versus the Cardinals this season for Jaden Daniels and Josh Allen. Goff only had 15 points. So yeah, I think I'd lean towards Fields over Purdy, but it's definitely a close one. And I don't think you can go wrong, honestly, either way. I think all top 9 quarterbacks are pretty solid this week. But Stroud, Purdy, Burrow, Fields, Kyler, Jordan Love, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, all pretty good starts this week. Start Fields or Love. Yeah, that one's Love. The only quarterbacks I'm confidently starting over Fields are Jordan Love, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, and Lamar. That's it. Where's Kirk? Yeah, these are just rankings and projections for the rest of the week. I'm locked in for start sits today and in the game tomorrow. So you won't see anyone that's already played in the rankings here. Hi from TikTok. Hunter, how we doing, man? Thanks for joining the YouTube live. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you're joining on YouTube. Downs or Kirk, and Chase Brown or Stevenson. Yeah, so it's Downs over Kirk for me. It's close. It's absolutely close. Both guys in the same game there. I think both guys in a good matchup too. Both these defenses have struggled. I think this game's going to be really fun, a really high-scoring game. Not that concerned about the rain in that game. I would lean Downs over Kirk. I like both them, but I lean Downs over Kirk. And then Chase Brown versus Stevenson. I think this one's Stevenson. It is a good matchup for Stevenson. I know he's not starting. I do still think he's pretty involved, though. Chase Brown has somewhat of a ceiling, but much tougher matchup. I think that was a Lazard touchdown I just saw. All of a sudden, we got a game here in London. Yeah, it's Mondre versus Chase Brown. Not even that close. Hey, Sam, PPR. Pick one for flex. Wicks, Aiyuk, Brian Thomas. Yeah, it's Wicks. Start Wicks over Brian Thomas. Start Wicks over Aiyuk. Already have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Reed. Yeah, Reed and Wicks. Pittman and Downs. Starting both these receivers on the same team is actually like a really high floor, high ceiling play this week, I think. Let's go to the running backs here on the TikTok live. We'll pull up the running back ranks here on the YouTube live as well. But yeah, start Wicks and Downs. I think Wicks projects better than Brian Thomas Jr. And I like Brian Thomas Jr. too. Wow, we got Thomas Jr. just slightly ahead of Wicks. I mean, both in really good matchups. I think I lean Wicks over Brian Thomas Jr., but it's definitely really close. For sure, a really close one. I think both these guys will have pretty good games this week, though. I think Kareem Hunt over Waddle. It's definitely a close one, too. I'm playing Wicks over Wandale easily. Tracy over Mondre, I think, is fair. I think that's fine. One of those running backs is starting and the other one isn't. Gibson, Zay, or Downs. Pick two. It's Downs for sure. And then it's Zay over Gibson, too, yeah. I'd go Downs and Zay over Gibson in PPR for sure. All right, we're about to be at halftime here. Daniels or Lamar? Yeah, it's Lamar. Lamar's QB1, Daniels QB2. McLaurin or Thomas Jr.? That's is Brian Thomas Jr. over McLaurin. Etienne or Robinson? it's ETN. You kind of have to start ETN. I know B-Rob's been better. I think it's got to be ETN over B-Rob, though, coming off the knee injury for B-Rob. I'm playing Ferguson over Bowers. I don't feel super strong about that one. I'm playing Wicks over Wan'Dale easily. I'm playing Chuba Hubbard over ETN. That's definitely one of the running backs I'm starting over ETN is Chuba Hubbard. Same thing with Jerome Ford. Those are like the two running backs I would start over ETN. Josh Jacobs, James Cook too. I would start over ETN, but I'm starting ETN over Javonte, Connor, Brian Robinson. Stroud or Gino. I'm going Stroud. I think we already got to this one, Yarshma. What's up, Weatherman Sam? Leighton, how we doing? I got a full PPR. Start sit Madison, Wan'Dale, or Judy. Yeah, this one's probably Wan'Dale. I like Judy as a sleeper this week. I don't think he needs to be started over Madison or Wan'Dale. Let's do this comparison. This one's pretty close. Again, guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, you're 2 presses of your finger away. It's a better viewing experience. I'm answering start sits rapidly on both. But I can pull up comments on screen on YouTube, and I can share screen to the players we're talking about on YouTube too. All right, let's look at Judy and Madison. Did we already? Oh, let's get Wan'Dale in here. I think the answer here is Wan'Dale. This is a PPR league. Yeah, you got to go Wan'Dale. Wan'Dale has a decent chance at over 30% target share in this game. I like Madison over Judy. I think all three of these guys are pretty decent starts, though. Wan'Dale, Madison, and Judy. Madison's probably locked in for 15-plus touches with no Zamir White. Not the best matchup, but the run game is definitely a worse part of the Broncos defense than the pass game defense. Cam Akers or Kareem Hunt? Yeah, I think I lean Hunt there. Let's see here. Akers versus Hunt. Yeah, I'm playing Hunt over Tracy, Mondre, Sermon, and Akers. All these guys are pretty risky starts. I have them ranked in this order. I agree with the WalterPicks App rankings here. Hunt, then Tracy, then Mondre, then Sermon, then Akers, then Moss. I'm starting all those guys over Zach Moss. Pick 2, Jacoby Myers or Trey Tucker or Zay Flowers. Yeah, I'd go Zay and Jacoby. I have Jacoby ahead of Trey. I think both those guys are pretty risky, though, against the Broncos. Dontavian Wicks or Achane, week 5. Oh, man, here we are, week 5. Let me go to the high-level takeaways here for everyone on the TikTok live. I think it's Achane. Let's see. Between him and Wicks, I like both these guys this week. I definitely really like Wicks. Yeah, you can't bench Achane in most spots, guys. All right, we're at halftime of the London game. Shout out to everyone on London time with me this morning. It's been a pretty exciting game, it seems like, so far. Garrett Wilson already cashed his receptions line. Hopefully we'll hit that receiving line in the second half. We're going rapid fire in the comment section, guys. We got a great day of games ahead of us. TV screens with football over 7 hours today with the London time game. We're going to have probably a little bit of a break too between when the London game ends and when the early window of games in the U.S. starts. Jerome Ford versus Christian Kirk. That's a pretty good one. Let's check out that one. I do like Ford a lot this week. I think he's one of the more underrated running backs right now. He's seeing 2/3 of the backfield opportunities for the Browns. He's a good matchup this week. Yeah, it's Jerome Ford over Christian Kirk. This one's pretty close. I mean, really good matchup for Kirk. I do want to start Kirk, but I think Ford is a really good start also. Pittman or Pickens, I'm not benching Pittman. I refuse to bench Pittman. I refuse to bench Jaden Reed. Both these guys need to be started this week. I'm playing Kmet over Andrews. I'm playing Bowers over Kittle. I think Flacco is a start. Yeah, I'm not scared about the rain. It's just rain. You are able to pass in the rain. Even the downpouring rain, you can pass. Wicks or Wan'Dale? Yeah, I'm going Wicks over Wan'Dale. Achane or Ford? It's Achane over Ford. I think. We have Ford projected ahead of Achane. I don't think I would start Ford over Achane personally. Oh gosh, I mean, look at the differences in these curves. I mean, the floor for Ford is a little bit safer. But look, the ceiling is still massive for Achane. I still think Achane has a massive ceiling. I personally would go Achane over Ford for the ceiling, but Ford is a bit safer. And Mostert is going to play this week. Shout out to everybody in this live stream right now. We are just getting started. We're 2.5 hours in. We got another 2 hours to go. Let's go, man. It's a great week 5. Sending good vibes everyone's way. We still got tons and tons of start-sit comments to get to. Let me just make sure we're updated on all of the latest news. Doesn't seem like much has come out. I think we'll get, what's the report here? Aaron Jones is questionable to return with a hip injury. Yikes, man. Ty Chandler, definitely the biggest benefactor of that. I missed that. Sorry. I'll pull that one back up. Downs or Zay. Yeah, I think I lean Downs over Zay this week. Murray or Fields, and then PPR pick 2, Wanda, Wicks, Downs, Judy. Yeah, so it's Wicks and Downs. Start Wicks and Downs this week for sure. Both very, very good starts. Let me go to the wide receiver ranks again here on the TikTok Live. I will pull up the wide receiver ranks again on the YouTube Live. Guys, you're watching live on TikTok, by the way. Better viewing experience on the YouTube Live. I'm telling you, you get all the same ranks, all the same information, but I can share a screen on the YouTube Live. I can pull up comments on the YouTube Live. So come to the YouTube Live. It's right in the TikTok bio. If you're watching live on TikTok, just go to the TikTok bio, tap on YouTube, you go right there. Shout out to everyone in both live streams, though. And then Murray versus Fields. Yeah, so we got Murray projected ahead of Fields. I'm personally playing Fields over Murray. I'm playing Fields over Murray. I have a great rushing floor for Fields. We just saw a big passing game from Fields. I think this is going to be a really fun game tonight between them and the Cowboys. I'm playing Komet over Andrews, yeah. Sermon or Moss. I like Sermon more than Moss. I don't feel good about Moss at all this week. I think Moss is a bench this week. Dell or Leggett? Oh, man. I'm down bad, Logan, too, with Tank Dell. I'm deciding between Tank Dell and Trey Tucker in one of my leagues. Like, this is where we're at with Tank Dell right now. Good game environment, so I think I'm leaning Dell in that decision over Trey Tucker. First, Leggett, similar thing. I think, I kind of lean towards Dell in the game versus the Bills, but Leggett projects a little bit better. Tank has a slightly higher ceiling, but Leggett has a better floor. Man, close call. I personally lean Tank Dell, though, over Leggett. They're in a really a comparable tier for sure. Keon Coleman versus Tank Dell, too. That's a tough call. I think I lean Coleman in that one. Same game there, that decision. Swift or Chuba Hubbard? Yes, Chuba Hubbard pretty easily, I think. These two guys are in the same game too. And Swift has a better even matchup than Chuba Hubbard has. The Bears defense is definitely better than the Panthers defense. The problem for Swift is I'm not convinced he's the goal line running back. He's probably not the goal line running back. I think it's Roshan Johnson. He's obviously coming off a massive game and now he gets the Panthers, but I think Chuba Hubbard's likely to get more touches than Swift by maybe a decent margin. So yeah, I lean Chuba Hubbard over Swift. Mahomes or Flacco? Yeah, this is a great question. It's Flacco. It's Flacco over Mahomes. Let's do this comparison quick. Would you start Tyreek Hill or Christian Kirk? Yeah, I'm going Kirk over Tyreek, and then McBride or Kraft. I got Kraft over McBride, I think, this week. Let me pull up the tight end ranks here again. Yeah, I got Kraft one spot ahead of McBride. I'll go to the tight end ranks here on the TikTok Live too. Colby Parkinson and Kraft are the two waiver tight ends to start for sure this week. Oh, we're going to do Mahomes versus Flacco. And in our app, we got Mahomes projected in the WalterPicks app. By the way, if you haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, guys, I do not know what you are waiting for. You got to check out the WalterPicks app. Let me show you on the TikTok Live what you're missing out on. You can do comparisons like this for free on the TikTok Live. Got a comparison here between Sermon, Akers, and Tracy. I'll talk through that one in a second. But Flacco versus Mahomes. We got Mahomes projected a little bit better than Flacco. Personally, I'm starting Flacco over Mahomes pretty easily. These guys project pretty close, but a really good matchup for Flacco. No Jonathan Taylor, I think, has to skew the Colts a little bit more pass heavy too. I'm playing Najee Harris over Wanda really easily. All right, let me pull up the same start sit comparison here that I'm showing on the TikTok Live, on the YouTube Live, because I've seen a lot of start sit questions like this. Again, this is from the WalterPicks app on the TikTok Live. The link to this is in the TikTok bio. I've spent the last 4 years of my life helping build this app. It's free. There's some subscriptions that are well worth it too if you really want to make sure you're getting the most out of the app. But it's a free app. You can do start sit comparisons like this for free. Link is in the TikTok bio, in the YouTube description. But yeah, this is some tough start sits here at the running back position this week. Akers, Trey Sermon, Tyron Tracy. All these guys are startable this week. But I personally lean towards Tyron Tracy of all these guys because I think Tracy has the best receiving role of these three. Tracy is a good receiving prospect. They all project really close. This is not an easy start sit decision. But I would lean Sermon over Akers too. I would rank these guys Tracy, then Sermon, then Akers. Because Sermon, I think, has the most touchdown ceiling. I think Tracy has the best receiving role. And then Akers is in the best game environment. Arguably, is the best matchup. But we haven't seen it from Akers twice already without Joe Mixon in the lineup. He's in a three-way backfield. And that's my concern for Sermon too. I don't think this is going to be a workhorse role for Sermon. I don't think it's going to be a workhorse role for Tracy either. I don't think any three of these guys are going to see 20-plus touches. I think they're all going to split the backfield 2 or 3 ways. Eric Gray, and I think they called up, the Giants also called up, don't have him on the depth chart here, but one of their other rookie running backs who also probably be somewhat involved. So yeah, I'd lean Tracy over Sermon and then Sermon over Akers in that start sit decision. Now let's go to the QB ranks. seeing someone ask about Kyler or Fields. I personally like Fields more than Kyler. I got Kyler one spot ahead in the ranks. WalterPicks App has Kyler one spot ahead in the ranks. I think I would start Fields over Kyler, though. Justin Fields was QB1 last week, and now he plays a Cowboys defense that has been really, really bad against the run. Tyreek or Javonte Williams, PPR. Yeah, I'd lean Tyreek, I think, in this one. Javonte might project better. I think I'd lean Tyreek over Javonte. I'd lean Tyreek over all those running backs we were just talking about. Sermon, Javonte, or Wandale. Yeah, that one's Wandale if it's PPR. Jordan Love's a very good option this week, guys. Very, very good option this week. Akers or Gibson. I lean Akers over Gibson. Josh Downs has to be started over Tracer. Guys, Josh Downs, start Josh Downs. Start Dontavian Wicks. One of the storylines I'm for sure watching closely is, let's run through the storylines really quick. I'm excited about this week, watching closely this week. This is the storyline I've been watching, every single week. Is Sean struggles going to continue, gets a great matchup versus the Commanders. I like Amari Judy this week. Njoku's back, but don't start him. He's apparently going to be somewhat on a limited basis. Also, are Pittman and Downs, like for sure, top 20 receivers with Flacco? Because last week it definitely looked like it. And I think this week's going to confirm it. In the rain, no Jonathan Taylor. Good matchup for Downs and Pittman. I like Flacco a lot this week. More than Mahomes, more than Lawrence, more than Caleb Williams. Can you go to the running back rankings? Yeah, I got you. Oh, wrong one. Let's go to the running back ranks here. And I'll go to the running back ranks on the YouTube Live also. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube, guys. I'm telling you, on the TikTok Live, the YouTube Live is a better viewing experience. You got all the same info, but better viewing experience. I can share screen and pull up comments on screen. Come to the YouTube Live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. Pittman and Downs need to be started. Pittman is a better start than Downs. Pittman over Downs for sure. I think Pittman's a top 10 play, just like Reed over Wicks. But I think Reed, Wicks, Pittman, Downs, all four of these guys should be started in as many spots as possible. I'm playing Pittman over Wicks, though. Yeah, for sure. All right. And then another storyline I'm watching closely here. We haven't seen it yet, I don't think, in this game, but is Braelon Allen the goal line back for the Jets now? I know the Jets are off to a pretty rough start here. I don't think they've had a goal line carry yet, but definitely following that closely. Are T. Higgins and Brandon Aiyuk still wide receiver 2s for fantasy? I think they are, but that's another thing I'm looking. I don't think Brees is cooked, by the way. I don't. I'm not panicking on Brees. I haven't seen every single play from this game because I've been live throughout the whole thing. But almost regardless of what happens in the game, I don't think Brees is cooked. I'm going to go to wide receivers next. Yep. I'm starting Wicks over Tyreek pretty easily. I think I'd start DJ Moore over Tyreek too. Let's go to the wide receiver ranks here. As I continue through some of the storylines I'm most excited about and following closely this week. Another storyline I'm definitely super intrigued about, Jane Daniels. He projects right now, rest of season, as a top 2 quarterback in fantasy football. He is the QB1, the QB2. I think after Lamar? No, Lamar's QB3. Jaden Daniels is a top 2 quarterback in points per game. He's been a top 5 quarterback in 3 of his 4 games. But this is his toughest test yet. The Browns have been pretty good against quarterbacks. They ranked 5th best against quarterbacks this season. Dak went under 12 points. Trevor Lawrence didn't even get to 14 points. Daniel Jones, he got almost 20 points. Gardner Minshew only 5 points last week versus the Browns. They haven't played the best quarterbacks. They haven't played the worst quarterbacks either. Is Jaden Daniels going to keep it going in his toughest defensive opponent yet? Guys, Jaden Daniels, he's already broken some NFL records in the first month of his career. He already broke a record for the best completion percentage through the first 4 games of any season. Not a rookie record, an all-time record. Jaden Daniels is falling, man. Definitely very curious to see if he keeps it going versus this tough Browns defense. Olave versus Pittman, it's definitely Pittman over Olave, like pretty easily. Another storyline I'm following closely, do the Cardinals have a top 10 offense or not? Because they're 7.5-point underdogs. They only scored, 7 points versus the Washington Commanders. Kyler's really been struggling in back-to-back weeks. Big-time disappointment. And back-to-back, supposedly good game environments for him. He played the Lions and only had 16 points, only 207 passing yards. Then he played the Commanders, only 142 passing yards. He barely threw the ball. He only has 1 game over 31 pass attempts this season for Kyler. I mean, the last week made no sense for the Cardinals. Only 22 pass attempts in the game they got crushed for Kyler Murray. I mean, that made no sense. I think that they should be a top 10 offense in the NFL, but this is their week to prove it for sure against a pretty good 49ers defense. Another storyline to watch really closely this week for sure is Najee Harris. Does he have a real ceiling? I mean, this week will confirm or deny it for sure. There's no Jalen Warren. There's no Cordero Patterson. He gets a top 3 matchup versus the Cowboys. Prime time. We're all going to see it in the limelight. Does Najee Harris have a real ceiling or not? I think he does. I think he's a must start this week. I'm starting Najee Harris over basically everybody. But I think this will be a storyline to follow for sure. and we'll pretty much know or not know. And Najee Harris still has not scored a touchdown this season. I mean, you got to score touchdowns to hit a ceiling. So we need to see some TDs out of Najee Harris against a bad Cowboys run defense. Another storyline was Dontavian Wicks the waiver wire ad of the season. There's definitely going to be a good chance he was. Like, it's very rare to find receivers on the waiver wire with a ceiling like Dontavian Wicks has. We've already seen a game where Dontavian Wicks had over a 30% target share. We've already seen a game where Dontavian Wicks finished as a top 5 wide receiver. I think there's a chance Dontavian Wicks was the wide receiver waiver wire ad of the season. I think people that were aggressive adding him are going to benefit massively, especially if this Romeo Doubs stuff doesn't just boil over. Doesn't just roll over. Like, maybe this Romeo Doubs stuff is bigger than we think. Christian Watson's out for the next month, likely the next few games at least. Dontavian Wicks in a good matchup today against the Rams. I think that's another storyline to watch really closely. And then last two here. Travis Kelce, is he going to separate himself as the clear tight end 1? I'm playing Debo over Wicks, by the way. Do not bench Debo. Let me go to the must starts, must benches here on the TikTok live real quick. I think Travis Kelce is the clear tight end 1 rest of season with Rice out. But I do kind of want to see him do it with Rice out, in a game where the team the defense can game plan for that. 35-year-old Travis Kelce, is he going to separate himself as the clear tight end 1? I think he will. I think we'll see right away on Monday night how much work he's getting. He's also in a matchup against the Saints. The Saints allowed 10 catches and 170 receiving yards to Dallas Goedert. So pretty good matchup here for Kelce. I think he is the clear tight end 1 this week and likely the clear tight end 1 rest of the season now. Last but certainly not least, do the New York Football Giants have the least talented offensive roster of all time this week? I think the answer is no, just because the Patriots also exist. And the Patriots, I think without, with Nabers and Singletary in the lineup, I do think the Pats have the least talented offensive roster in the NFL. The Patriots, who have the least talented offensive roster in the NFL, are also benching their most talented offensive player this week. So, bold strategy, Con. We'll see if that one pays off. But, I mean, the Giants are even worse this week. Without Nabers, without Singletary, I mean, this offense is a complete joke. And I think the Seahawks are going to crush them. I think the Seahawks, if you're going to take any team in any game, take the Seahawks. I know the spread, money line aren't great, but take the Seahawks. I mean, there's almost no chance the Giants can compete in that game. All right, PPR. Let's go back to some of these start sits. We got the London time game kicking off in the second half here. Was that Aaron Jones out there, or was that not Aaron Jones? I didn't see. I know they ran the ball. Does not look like Aaron Jones. All right, who should I start? Brian Thomas, Wan'Dale, Downs. Yeah, so it's Downs, Thomas, Wan'Dale. I think it's Downs, Thomas, Wan'Dale. All three of these guys are decent starts, by the way. Thomas, I think, projects maybe a little bit better than Downs. Yeah, he does. I personally would go Downs, Thomas, Wan'Dale. And I like Thomas a lot. I'm playing Thomas over Wan'Dale. I'm playing Downs over Thomas, though, I think, especially in PPR. Both these guys in the same game, really good game environment here. I do like Thomas a lot, but Downs' target share has been really, really good. Najee versus Olave, I'd go Najee over Olave. Do not bench Najee. Kyler Murray or Stroud, I think I lean towards Stroud there, actually. I know Kyler projects a little bit better, but with what we've seen from Kyler in the last couple of games and the Bills defense a little banged up, I think I'd lean Stroud. Wicks or Leggett? Yeah, it's Wicks over Leggett. Easily. Got to make your layups. Wicks over Leggett is an absolute layup. Myers versus Keenan. Yikes, man. This is a yikes start sit question here. Myers against Pat Surtain in the Broncos. Or Keenan versus the Panthers. Keenan's been impossible to start. Yeah, it's Myers. Yikes, man. Yeah, big time yikes for Keenan. Deontay or Downs? It's Deontay over Downs. And Wicks versus Deontay is also close. Honestly, I think I'd lean towards Wicks. I lean towards Wicks over Downs. Who else drafted Wicks? Yeah, I drafted Wicks in a bunch of my best ball leagues. So they are definitely rooting. My best ball teams are rooting very heavily for Wicks today. Walter says Robinson over Downs. I'm leaning toward Downs. I have Flacco full PPR. Yeah, I'm definitely going Downs over Wan'Dale. I don't think it's that close, honestly. Again, I'm kind of a known Wan'Dale hater, so it maybe is kind of close, especially if we're projecting Wan'Dale ahead. We're projecting Wan'Dale for like a 32% target share in this game, so he's going to project well. But I think Downs is a pretty good chance to hit a target share like that too. It's not going to be his projection, but he's been over 30% target share in his 2 games. So yeah, I'm going Downs over Wan'Dale personally. Pittman or Ford? Yeah, it's Pittman. Do not bench Pittman. Do not bench Pittman. Do not bench Shane Reed. These guys are going to be massive this week with the injuries to their respective teams. And the quarterback situation for the Colts is very good, I think, for Downs and for Pittman. Kraft or McBride? Yeah, I got Kraft. I think I got Kraft over McBride. Go to the tight ends here. Let me know in the chat, by the way, which rankings you want to see next, guys. I'll do my best to keep switching it up. Go to the tight end ranks here. Yeah, I'm going Kraft over McBride. I actually switch up the ranks a little bit. I update the ranks as we go here on the YouTube Live as we see new information. Let's compare these guys, Kraft versus McBride on the YouTube Live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube Live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience. I can share screen on the YouTube Live. I can't do that on the TikTok Live. Link to the YouTube Live is right in the TikTok bio. Kraft's got a great matchup this week. Better matchup for Kraft. Honestly, similar roles here too. Kraft's going to play at least 80% of the snaps. He's been at around 80% of the snaps. Yeah, 85%, 95% in week 1, 85% last week. Musgrave's questionable. He sounds like he's going to play, but it doesn't really matter. A healthy Musgrave's barely playing. So a limited Musgrave's, also going to barely play. Good matchup against the Rams. They've really struggled versus basically every position. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. Kraft had 9 targets last week. No Watson and no Dobbs helps Kraft too. And then McBride's coming off an injury. He gets a little bit of a tougher matchup. I think in most weeks it'd be McBride over Kraft, but this week specifically, I think it's okay to go Kraft over McBride. Let me go to the QB ranks here on the TikTok Live. Pull up the QB ranks again on the YouTube Live. Sermon or Tutu Atwell at flex? Oh gosh, yeah, in a PPR league, it might be Tutu. I do think Sermon is in trap territory for sure. Because he's going to be in a 3-way committee, a 2 or 3-way committee for Trey Sermon, most likely. I don't think he's going to get like 20 plus touches. There's obviously some uncertainty there because we haven't seen a full game without JT yet. But yeah, it's Tutu Atwell over Sermon. You're just praying for a touchdown with Sermon. He said, pull up my question, but you didn't answer. I got you, Alvin. Morning. Pickens or Kirk? I'm leaning Kirk. McBride ribs or pick up Kraft? Yeah, I'm going Kraft over McBride. I just talked to you that one, Alvin. And then Pickens versus Kirk. I'm leaning Pickens, I think, but it's definitely really close. And I would argue Kirk has a better floor than Pickens. It's close. I don't think there's a bad decision to make here between Pickens and Kirk. I personally have Pickens ahead of Kirk. Pickens is going to see a pretty big role, I think, in the game tonight. Both these games have comparable weather too. Both these games are going to have some rain. I think McBride will play. I think you don't need to fear McBride not playing. It doesn't sound like he's going to play. Najee or Tyreek Hill? Definitely Najee. Definitely Najee. I think Tutu over Whittington, but it's close. I'm playing Whittington over Dunze for sure. I think Kyler over Purdy. That one's pretty close too, but I would go Kyler there. I think there's a much better chance of the 49ers leaning very run heavy than the Cardinals. Even the Cardinals somehow they were run heavy last week against the Commanders when they were getting crushed. It didn't really make that much sense to me. So yeah, I think Pickens is better than Kirk. I do. I think it's close. I think there's a good argument that Kirk has a better floor than Pickens. Pickens has a higher ceiling. I usually lean towards the higher ceilings. But, I mean, Pickens has been really good. And Pickens has the most yards without a touchdown this season. He's due for a touchdown. Him and Najee due for touchdowns. And this game should be relatively close versus the Cowboys. We've seen 2 games over 30% target share. Coming off his best game of the season. Coming off Justin Fields' best passing game of the season. This is a really good matchup for Christian Kirk, too, who's also seen a ton of targets. Christian Kirk averaging 11 targets per game over his last 2 games. Part of the reason I think the floor is so high, man, Brees is getting stumped in this game. People are going to be fully panicked on Brees, man. I'm going to be buying Brees most likely after this game, once I watch back everything that happened. I'm playing Wicks over Terry for sure. DJ Moore versus Zay, that one's close. I think I lean DJ Moore versus Zay. Yeah, so, I mean, Kirk gets the same matchup that Pickens had his best game of the season against last week. I don't think it's crazy to go Kirk, by the way. If you want to go Kirk, go Kirk. By all means, my goal in these live streams, guys, is to give you all the best possible information you could possibly need to make your own decision. And I'm going to, tell you what I think I would do. But ultimately, it's up to you, man. You got to ride with what you think is best ultimately for your fantasy team with all the information I'm going to give you. And yeah, I think Kirk's floor is a little bit safer. Pickens' ceiling is a little bit higher. So you got to make that floor ceiling decision for yourself. But I personally would go Pickens. Show tight ends. Yeah, I got you on the TikTok Live. All right, let's get to, is Jennings startable as a flex? He's startable. I prefer not to start Juwan Jennings. Like I said last week, he ended up getting 88 yards, but only 3 catches. He played much less. He played much less than both Aiyuk and Debo. Kittle's back this week. And you got Jordan Mason. I mean, he's the 5th option in the offense behind Debo, Aiyuk, Kittle, Jordan Mason. Antonio Gibson or Tolbert in a PPR league. Yeah, Tolbert is a good ad. With Cooks out, he's going to have a very real role. Kind of a tough matchup for him tonight, though, versus the Steelers. I think Antonio Gibson's probably the play with this one. I saw someone ask for the DraftKings lineup. Let's run through the DraftKings lineup again one more time, and then also talk through the free player props. I got 3 free player props. 2 of them already started, though, and one of them already hit. All right, let's go to the DraftKings lineup, though. I really like the Flacco, Pittman, Downs stack. I think hopefully the weather scares people off of this one a little bit because people are scared of the rain. This is a really good game environment for both the Colts and the Jags. Both these defenses suck. And there's no Jonathan Taylor, which has almost got to push the Colts to throw the ball more. I think the Jags offense probably is one of the best games of the season. I think the Colts passing attack is in a really good spot. Consolidated target share, probably over 60% of the targets going to be funneled to Pittman and Downs against a bad Jags secondary. The Jags ranked dead last versus quarterbacks this season. They are arguably the worst secondary in football. And then you pay down because Joe Flacco's min price to get Jordan Mason, Kenneth Walker, both have running back 1 overall upside this week. And I also, to get a differentiated lineup here, I'm stacking Kraft and Reed together without Jordan Love. I don't think many people are going to do that. And I'm running it back with Brian Thomas. I also think Christian Kirk, you can run it back with him too. I'm playing the Dolphins defense versus Jacoby Brissett. That's the DraftKings lineup this week. We are 2 for 4 cashing. No first place finishes yet, though. That's what we're gunning for. Or WalterPicks subscriber here. Start 1, Waddle, Jennings, or do you recommend a waiver pickup? Yes, if you can go get Wicks or Downs, I prefer both these guys over Waddle and Jennings. They're probably not available anymore. So I think the answer here is Waddle. Let's see here though. Waddle versus Jennings. I do still think Waddle has a real ceiling. And like both, oh wow, Jennings projects a little bit better. That's a little surprising to me. I know Jennings has been better. It's a good matchup for both these guys on paper. Better matchup, I think, even for Jennings. Yeah, go Jennings. Go Jennings. I think this has convinced me enough to go Jennings. Obviously, Jennings is as hot as it gets in terms of recent performances. He did play less last week, but yeah, I think Waddle's a bench-worthy player in the current Dolphins environment. You really think Bowers over Kraft this week? Yeah, Bowers is a really good start. I like Kraft a lot too. I mean, I think they're like close tiers. They're only projected. They're projected really close, less than a point difference in the Kraft and Bowers projections. But with no Adams, I mean, Bowers could easily lead all tight ends in targets this week. Absolutely in the cards for Brock Bowers. I'm playing Pickens over Brian Thomas Jr. Excuse me. Bless you. Thank you. All right. Olave or Diggs. Yeah, I think it's Olave over Diggs. I do like the Diggs revenge game narrative this week. I'm playing Madison over Mondre. I'm playing Madison over Roschon Johnson too. Madison's in line for like one of the few workhorse roles this week at running back. Wandale, Madison, Deontay, Downs, JSN, PPR, pick 2. Yeah, so you can't start Madison in this one. Let's go back to the receiver rankings here. I think it's between the 3 receivers in the middle. It's between Deontay, Downs, and Wandale. I know I've talked about Wandale and Downs at length. WalterPicks App has Wandale projected a little bit ahead of Downs. I personally like Downs a little bit more than Wandale. It's close enough that I'm willing to side with my gut a little bit on this one. I think Downs has a similar floor, but a better ceiling in the matchup. Much better matchup for Downs than Wandale. And then also Wandale, like he's going to get a 40% target share in this game, but just has no real ceiling, I don't think. We haven't seen any big performances really from Wandale, despite the massive target shares that he's gotten. So he's startable in PPR, but I think Deontay, similar, like all 3 of these guys kind of similar. Massive target shares coming for these guys. Yeah, I think it's down. I'd go Downs and Deontay over Wandale personally. I play Wandale over Brian Robinson, though, in PPR. Running backs, yeah, I got you with the running backs. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I'm telling you, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. Better viewing experience. I can pull up comments on screen. I can share screen to what we're talking about. I'm playing McBride over Freiermuth easily. I'm playing Daniels over Love. Lamar, Daniels, Allen. Those are the only 3 guys I'm playing over Love. They all at least have the rushing floor that Jordan Love does not have. Pickens or Wandale. Yeah, I'm leaning Pickens over Wandale. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jason, Aiyuk, or Brian Thomas. Yeah, play Marvin Harrison Jr. here for sure. And I think this one's Brian Thomas Jr. I'm playing Brian Thomas over Jason. I'm playing Brian Thomas Jr. over Aiyuk too. Yeah, This one's Marv and Brian Thomas, the two rookies. The rookies have looked great, by the way. This is a really, really talented rookie receiver class. I mean, obviously we have Nabers and Harrison, but there's been some other rookie receivers showing up too. Brian Robinson being one of them. Between Achane, Najee, Downs, again, McBride, one running back, one flex. Yeah, so it's Achane and it's Najee. Play Achane and Najee. I think Downs is in consideration here. McBride and Leggett should not be considered here. Let's do Achane, Najee, Downs. Let's compare these guys. Maybe Downs projects a little bit better than Achane. Let's see. In PPR, but I really don't want to bench Achane. I still think his ceiling's massive, and I don't think this is necessarily a bad matchup for him. All right, let's look up Najee here. I definitely think you need to start Najee. Yeah, it's Najee and Achane over Downs. And Njoku, Komet, or Ertz? Oh, man. I really don't want to start Njoku. I think it's Komet there. I think it's Komet. I got Njoku one spot ahead of Komet, but Njoku's, they said he's not going to play his full role. So he's playing, but he's limited. So it's close. And the Commanders have weirdly been good against tight ends too, as bad as their secondary has been against receivers. So definitely close. Yeah, I'm going Pickens over BTJ. I'm playing BTJ over Higgins, T. Higgins as well. Higgins versus Aiyuk. Yeah, so one of the storylines I'm watching super closely here, Dennis, this week is about both these guys. I think these guys are in really comparable situations right now. Are these guys both still wide receiver twos? Because I kind of think they are. I think we got to see it this week, though, from both these guys, both Aiyuk and T. Higgins. I think we got Higgins projects a little bit of Aiyuk over Aiyuk. I would go Higgins over Aiyuk. Definitely just more mouths to feed for the 49ers with Debo, Kittle, Jordan Mason. Juwan Jennings is still mixing in, too. I think both these guys probably have good weeks this week, though, and do restore confidence in fantasy back to that wide receiver 2 confidence we've had in the past and where we drafted them at. Yeah, I go Higgins in this exciting game versus the Ravens. This game should be really high scoring. I think the 49ers-Cardinals game has potential to be a shootout too. I like both these guys, honestly, this week. I think both bounce back. I think the answer to this question is yes. But definitely something I'm following really closely this week. And yeah, I'd lean Higgins over Aiyuk. I was hoping someone would ask this start-sit question because this is a really tough one, I think. Both Higgins and Aiyuk really tough right now for fantasy. Waddle or Coleman? Yeah, this one's Coleman over Waddle. There's no Khalil Shakir this week. That's the number 1 receiver for the Bills. That's big for Kincaid. It's big for Keon Coleman, too. It's pretty big for Curtis Samuel, who's a little bit of a sleeper this week, too, but don't really love Curtis Samuel. Wicks is a start. Yeah, Wicks is a must start. You must start Dontavian Wicks. For sure. I'm playing Downs over T. Higgins, too. Both Downs and Wicks must starts. I have Hunt starting with Achane. Full PPR. Recommend picking up Sermon, Akers, Madison over Hunt. Yeah, I think I have Hunt over all of these guys, maybe other than Madison. Yeah, Madison and Hunt is super close. Really close one. I mean, I don't think you need to drop Hunt for Madison. I do think I would start Madison over Hunt this week if I had them both on my team, but it's really, really close. And the matchup is a little bit better for Hunt. Madison should see at least 15 touches. Like I'm a little bit more confident in the volume for Madison than I am for Hunt. But Steele is basically benched at this point, Carson Steele, with his fumbling issues. And then it's just Samaje Perine, Clyde Edwards-Helaire not going to be active this week. And then no Zamir White this week. Dylan Lobb, please activate Dylan Lobb. I mean, please activate Dylan Lobb. Let's see if we got Colts out Sunday versus Jaguars. We got Anthony Richardson out. Jonathan Taylor out. We got a bunch of defenders out versus the Jaguars. Damian Pierce is out. Evan Ingram is officially out. David Njoku is officially in. Brian Robinson is officially in. Getting some of these early window actives and inactives. Aaron Jones officially ruled out. So yeah, I personally will Madison over Hunt this week, but it's super close. It's super close to the point where I don't feel strongly either way. If I had to choose personally in one of my leagues, though, I'm going Madison over Hunt. Keenan or Xavier Worthy? Yeah, I'm going Worthy over Keenan. Kraft or McBride? I got Kraft ahead of McBride this week. Gibson or Tracy? I think it's Gibson over Tracy. Actually, I think it's Tracy over Gibson. Let's see. Gibson has the better matchup. Gibson's starting. Tracy's also starting. I'm a little skeptical about what starting means for Antonio Gibson this week. Like, I still think there's a good chance Mondre gets more points and more volume than Gibson. So that gives him a lot of risk. Good matchup against the Dolphins, though. They haven't been great this season. I lean Tracy, though, over Gibson. Super close one. Super, super close one. I do like Tracy the most out of Tracy, Akers, Sermon. I lean Tracy out of those guys for the receiving role that I think he's going to have. PPR, Aiyuk, Amari Cooper, Antonio Gibson. Yeah, this one's got to be Amari Cooper. I haven't seen very many start sits for Amari. I think maybe most people are just starting him this week, but really good matchup for Amari. I'm definitely starting him in this one. I don't think this one's that close. Amari should really have a much bigger fantasy season than he's had. He got an 80-yard touchdown called back. He's had a lot of air yards, really consistent volume. He's got at least 8 targets in every single game this season. Now he gets the Commander secondary. Sign me up for Amari Cooper this week. I'm playing Wicks versus Amari. I think that one's pretty close. Let's do this one. Amari, Wicks, and Downs, because I think that's a much closer start sit. I think the answer here is going to be Amari, but I think it's pretty close. Yeah, I'd start Amari over Downs and Wicks too, but it's a close one. It's definitely a really close one. Start DK or Pittman. Start Pittman and DK. You got to start both these guys. I mean, both these guys are top receivers this week. Metcalf ranks as wide receiver 7. Pittman ranks as wide receiver 9. So, I mean, start both of them. But yeah, if I had to choose, I think I would go with Pittman. Start Josh Downs. Start Dontavian Wicks. Start Kittle or Kraft. Yeah, I lean Kraft over Kittle. Let me go to the tight end ranks here. I know a lot of tight end start sits today. I'll go switch to the tight end ranks on the YouTube live too. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, guys, we are also live on YouTube. The YouTube live is a better viewing experience. It's all the same info, but I can share my screen. I can pull up comments on screen. Link to the YouTube live is right in the TikTok bio. 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube live, slightly better live streaming viewing experience. Shout out to everyone in both live streams during the London time game. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. We got a lot of start sits still to get to on this live stream. We're over 3 hours in. Man, time's flying. It's already week 5. I say this at the end of my lives every week, but time is the most valuable thing we have, guys. I really do appreciate all the time you guys are spending with me on the Sunday mornings. All right, Wandale, JSN, or Wicks. Yeah, this one's Wicks. Wicks over Wandale, Wicks over JSN. Explain Parkinson. Yeah, so Colby Parkinson's in a really good matchup in a really good role. I actually adjusted the tight end ranks on the YouTube live. It's part of the reason the YouTube live is slightly better live stream experience too. I can adjust the rankings on the YouTube live as we look through more information where like I can't adjust the screenshots on the TikTok live. So I actually moved Colby Parkinson down below McBride, below Kraft after looking a little bit more into that one, and below Kincaid too. So I would play Kincaid, McBride, and Kraft all over Parkinson. But that is Parkinson, man. I'm playing Parkinson still over a lot of guys, over Freiermuth, over Kittle, over Njoku, over Komet. And it's because the role for Parkinson is really strong. He's out there almost every single snap. He's seen pretty consistent volume in the last 2 weeks, at least 5 targets in both the last 2 games. Now he gets his best match of the season. The Packers have not been great against tight ends this season. 4 different tight ends over 7 points in 4 games. Like I think the floor for Parkinson this week is 7 points, which is pretty good for tight ends. And McBride is coming off the injury. Kittle's coming off the injury. I think both those guys have a little bit of risk. Both those guys don't have the best matchups this week, where Parkinson has the matchup and the role and none of the injury risks. Yeah, I do like Parkinson a decent bit off the waivers this week. I like Kraft more, though, off the waivers. All right, let's go to the quarterback ranks, see some quarterback questions here. Pull up the QB ranks again on the YouTube live as well. All right, start 2, half PPR. Aiyuk, Cooper, or Antonio? Yeah, this one's got to be Cooper and Aiyuk over Antonio Gibson. I personally am pretty over Stroud. That one's super close. Now, honestly, to me, that's like a floor ceiling thing. I think Stroud's ceiling is QB1 this week. I think Purdy's got a little bit lower of a ceiling because I think if the 49ers really get ahead in this game, which they're projected to, they're 7.5-point favorites. They're just going to lean really heavily on the run, where I don't think the Texans can really have a path to just leaning super heavily on the run in this game without Joe Mixon in the lineup. So I think Stroud has a massive ceiling in this game. So I personally actually lean Stroud over Purdy. Even though Purdy projects a little bit better in my rankings, I think the ceiling's enough to start Stroud over Purdy. Man, Aaron Rodgers is getting crunched. He's down. Yikes. Hopefully he's okay. Oh, man. Stroud over Fields. That one's really close, too. And again, I think that's a floor ceiling thing, too. I personally would start Fields over Stroud. I'm personally starting Kyler over Burrow, but that one's really close. I think all those guys are in the same tier, all tier 2 guys. So I wouldn't knock you either way. Like the tier 1 guys that you need to start, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen. And then in tier 2, all of these guys are really close. Jordan Love, not Josh Allen. Josh Allen's tier 1. Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud. All these guys are good starts. All project super close together. I like Fields the most, honestly, for the floor ceiling combo of all those guys. I like Love a little bit more than Fields, though, actually. I would go Love, then Fields, then Murray, then Stroud, then Burrow, then Purdy. I mean, they're all really close, though. All actually are pretty good starts, and I think you can go either way with a bunch of those. I like Josh Downs and Wicks this week. I like Wicks more than Downs. Flowers versus Aiyuk, happy PR. Yeah, this one's probably close. I think it's Flowers. I know Flowers is really disappointed, and Aiyuk's in a pretty interesting game this week. Let's switch this to happy PR in case that changes anything. Happy PR mostly when you adjust this, just adjust the running backs up like slightly. Yeah, it's Flowers over Aiyuk. If you had to pick DJ Moore or Wicks, yeah, I'm going Wicks over DJ Moore. I'm going Geno over Daniels. I don't know how you could possibly start Daniel Jones. Oh, if you were talking about Jaden Daniels, then it's Jaden Daniels over Geno. But if it's Daniel Jones, then it's definitely not Daniel Jones without Malik Nabers and without Devin Singletary. The Giants might have the worst offensive roster of the season today. We got a couple free player props for you. Yep. We already have 2 that are live. If you were not on London time with me this morning, no worries. I got a third one for us. Yikes. Brees Hall has 6 carries for 7 yards. I see why people are panicking. Garrett Wilson's up to 6 catches, 40 yards. So he's right there. He should be able to hit this one. Rodgers seems fine too, which is good. The receptions one was definitely a smash. But we got Najee Harris over 68.5 rushing yards. I like this one a lot. Let me go to the running back ranks again here. I'll go to the running back ranks on the YouTube live too. You can see Najee Harris is a top 10 running back option this week. Let me talk you through this Najee Harris one. And the Jets got the ball back. Looks like there's a penalty on the punt. Good to see Aaron Rodgers back out there. But Najee Harris has not scored a touchdown yet. He has some of the most yards in the NFL running back without a touchdown. He now gets a matchup against the Cowboys with no Jalen Warren, no Cordell Patterson. The Cowboys have been crushed on the ground this season. They ranked dead last against running backs this season. Granted, they played Henry and Kamara, 2 of the better running backs in the NFL. They also let up a decent amount of yards to Justice Hill and Jerome Ford and Javonte Williams. Devin Singletary didn't do great last week. But yeah, I really like this matchup for Najee against the Cowboys with no Warren and with no Patterson. At least 15 carries coming for Najee Harris. He could hit 25 carries. Wouldn't be that crazy in this game. And there's almost no way he misses this prop if he hits 25 carries. As inefficient as Najee can be, 25 carries, he only needs 3 yards a carry to get there. Again, that's a ceiling outcome for Najee in this game. It's going to be rainy in this game, too. I do think that skews even more work towards Najee. My God, I think Brees Hall is at 1 yard a carry right now. Maybe it is time to panic on Brees. Again, I'm reserving any Brees Hall panic time judgments till I'm able to watch the full game. I'm just going to call it Madison not top 20. Yeah, I mean, workload-wise, he definitely is, though. Like, in terms of workload, he is top 20 this week. Alexander Madison's almost definitely going to get more work than Kareem Hunt, than Trey Sermon, than Cam Akers, than Tyrone Tracy, than Zach Moss, than Rico Dowdle. And therefore, he is top 20. Last week, we have not seen a game where Madison has more than 10 touches. And we have seen games already with Madison that goes over 11 PPR points. And I think Garrett Wilson just came really close to hitting his prop line, so that's good to see. You guys were on London time with me this morning. You were riding that one with me this morning. They set his line at 4.5 receptions. He's at 7 or 8 catches now, over 50 yards. I think he needs one more catch to get there. The other prop I like this week is Najee's rushing line. Shaheed or Dell? Yeah, I think I lean Shaheed over Tank Dell. Samson Kirk, Madison, Swift, or Wandale? Yeah, it's Kirk. Kirk versus Wandale's close. I'm playing Kirk and Wandale over Madison and Swift. Swift has a good matchup this week, so let's include him in the start-sit comparison here quick. I might be underrating him just a little bit. Yeah, I guess this is half PPR. Let's switch this back to PPR. I think that will definitely help Christian Kirk here. Yeah, it's Kirk. It's Kirk, then Swift, then Madison. Like pretty clearly in my mind too. I'm playing Jacoby over Akers, even in a tough matchup versus the Broncos. Wando Robinson or Jackson Smith and Jigba, or Tyrone Tracy and Flex. 3 wide receiver league with Flex. Yeah, it's Wandale here. It's Wandale, JSN, Tracy. I'm playing Wandale over Tracy like pretty easily. Let's see here. Jackson Smith and Jigba might project, I think, a little worse. Yeah, it's Wandale over JSN. JSN or Wicks. Yeah, it's Wicks. Guys, start Wicks, start Josh Downs. Start Wicks, start Josh Downs. I'm playing Najee over Brian Robinson very easily. I think this one's a layup. Guys, if you're still tuned into this live during the London time game, I appreciate everyone in here right now. We're going to be live right up till kickoff today. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button, and then come over to the YouTube live, man. I'm telling you, it is a better viewing experience on the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. You're 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube live for all the same info, but a better viewing experience where you can share screen and pull up comments on screen. Najee or DJ Moore? It's Najee. It's Najee Harris week, guys. He gets the Cowboys. There's no Jalen Warren. There's no Cordell Patterson. I'm playing Najee Harris in almost all situations. This is a close one. Najee versus Christian Kirk. In a PPR league, I do think that one's probably pretty close. I imagine it's going to be Najee here, but let's check it out. Christian Kirk is definitely a decent start against the Colts. I'm not panicking about the rain in that game. Yeah, it's Najee Harris over Kirk. Fields or Burrow? I'm personally going Fields over Burrow. Yep. Ford or ETN? Oh, man, I think I have Ford over ETN. And I actually think ETN's like a must start in most situations. But yeah, I'm playing Ford over ETN. And that one's pretty close. But Ford has a better matchup. He's got a better matchup than ETN, and he's honestly been getting more work than ETN. He's been playing better than ETN, and he's got a better matchup. Half PPR flex, ETN, Kirk, or Flowers? Yeah, it's ETN versus Kirk. Let's see. Half PPR too. I think it's ETN though. Half PPR almost always leans towards the running backs because it skews more towards touchdowns mattering. Man, Braelon Allen's looking better than Brees this week again. A lot of people are going to be panicking on Brees. I probably will be capitalizing on that. We'll see. All right, we got ETN here versus Christian Kirk. Yeah, it's ETN. In PPR, I think I'd go Kirk over ETN. In half PPR, I'd go ETN over Kirk. This is why scoring settings really do matter a ton, and why the WalterPicks app is one of the best places to go for fantasy analysis, custom to your league settings. Najee over Chuba Hubbard for sure. Ferguson or Hunt? I think that one's Ferguson. Pittman or Wicks? Yeah, it's Pittman. You got to start Pittman. You got to start Reed, and then it's Wicks, and then it's Josh Downs. I think in that order. I like Love more than Fields. Let's go to the positional rankings here. Let's go back to the QB ranks here on the YouTube live. Let's talk through the rankings here, position by position. Then we'll go back to some of the start sits in the final stretch of the live stream. Happy week 5 to everyone. By the way, Weatherman Sam's here. Before I actually dive into each of the rankings here, we'll go quarterbacks, then we'll go running backs, then we'll go receivers, then we'll go tight ends. We'll touch on every single positional ranking in the next 15 minutes. But before I do, quick weather update. There's going to be rain. There was some rain in this Vikings-Jets game. There's going to be some rain in the Colts-Jaguars game. Probably the worst rain of the day is going to be this Colts-Jaguars game. Then also tonight, Cowboys-Steelers rain. There's no wind of concern on these games. Guys, do not panic. Do not panic about the weather in these games. Moderate concern for the Bears-Panthers, though. 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds, 28-mile-an-hour wind gusts in a game that was already probably going to be pretty ugly. That's the game I'm actually moderately concerned about. I'm not concerned about rain in any of these games. This could be downpouring rain at times in this Colts-Jags game, but I don't think it's going to be the whole game downpouring rain, and I do believe they're going to be able to throw in the rain. There's no evidence suggesting the rain's going to be super bad to the point where you can't even throw the ball. Swift, Jacobs, Tyreek, or Eckler? Yeah, it's Jacobs. Got to be Jacobs, and then I think it's Swift. Jacobs and Swift over Tyreek and Eckler. All right, let's go back to the positional rankings here. In both live streams. Guys, again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. On the YouTube live, you get to see my screen and I can pull up comments. It's a better viewing experience than TikTok. Shout out to everyone in both lives. But if you're watching live on TikTok, you're like 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube live. All right, what's logic behind benching Kmet? Yeah, just not a super high ceiling for Kmet. I prefer both Kraft and Colby Parkinson over Kmet, and they were available in a lot of leagues. That's part of the reason I have them as a must bench. All right, let's take away this Weatherman Sam thing. All right, let's go to the quarterback ranks here. So let me talk through the QB tiers here. So tier 1, pretty clearly, Lamar, Daniels, Josh Allen. Very curious to see how Daniels does against the toughest matchup of the season against the Browns. I think he'll probably continue to do pretty well, but definitely a difficult matchup for him. Lamar and Allen are going to smash this week. Allen especially, I think, in this game where they're slight underdogs versus the Texans in Houston. I think the Texans offense will be able to put up points versus the Bills defense. Part of the reason Stroud is firmly in tier 2. The tier 2 quarterbacks are really some tough start sits here. I like Love the most out of tier 2. Then Kyler, Fields, Burrow, Purdy, Stroud. I actually would start Fields over Murray. I actually think Stroud, I would start over Burrow, Purdy, and Murray too. I think the ceiling for Stroud is really high. But Kyler, don't sleep on Kyler either. He still has a good rushing floor, still has a really good surrounding supporting cast. All these tier 2 guys I think are really good options though. Purdy, Stroud, Burrow, Fields, Kyler. I feel pretty bad about everyone else. And honestly, after that, like Geno, then Dak, then it's Flacco, man. I'm playing Flacco over basically everybody. Mahomes, Lawrence, Caleb Williams. I think Lawrence is an interesting sleeper this week too. Flacco and Lawrence, honestly, I think I'd start over Mahomes. Mahomes can't really start it right now. All right, let's move on to the tight ends. We'll start with the onesie positions. Then we'll hop over to the running backs and receiver rankings and talking through some of those. So at the tight end position, Kelce's in a clear tier of his own. And really, Ferguson might be in that tier with him. Well, let me switch on the YouTube live, to the tight ends. Kelce's in a tier of his own. I think Ferguson's right up there, close with him. He's been really consistent target share-wise. I think Brock Bowers is a top 3 option this week, too. I'd start them in that order, Kelce, Ferguson, Bowers. I've seen some questions about starting Ferguson in the flex. I don't hate that. I don't love starting 2 tight ends, but I don't hate that. I think you could start Ferguson over a bunch of different guys this week with how consistent his volume's been. I like Kraft actually more than Parkinson, and I actually like McBride more than Parkinson too. We adjusted that on the YouTube live, but I like Parkinson more than Kittle. I play McBride over Kittle too. The Cardinals haven't been horrible against tight ends, and Kittle's also coming off the injury. This could be a game like I really don't think there's going to be this massive workload for Kittle in this game with Aiyuk and Debo and Jennings playing well. And I think the 49ers are going to skew very run heavy against a bad run defense, and Jordan Mason leading the NFL right now in carries. I would play Kincaid over all those guys too. I actually like Kincaid more than Colby Parkinson. I would play Kmet over Ertz. I don't really like anyone from Kmet down though. I mean, all of those guys are going to be really close to 0 points floors, like 0 point floors. I would start Njoku. Njoku versus Kmet is close. Let's actually do this comparison. Njoku's playing this week for the first time since week 1. Week 1, he had 4 catches, 44 yards. He was tight end 9 on that week. No touchdown. But they're saying he's not going to see his full workload. He's expected to play, but he's going to be on a pitch count. And so, yeah, him versus Kmet, I think, is super close. The Commanders have also been weirdly good against tight ends. Panthers, not so much. Yeah, I think I'd lean Kmet over Njoku, actually, if I had to decide between that one. Don't start Andrews, guys. I think he could bounce back, but similar to Pitts, like you just can't start him right now. All right, moving on to the running backs and receivers. I know that's where a lot of the start-sit questions lie. So let's jump to the receivers first. I think the receivers first. Then we'll go to the running backs next. So if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. I'm sharing screen to all the wide receivers right now on the YouTube live, but I also can tap into the game logs and share screen to the game logs. Yeah, I'm playing McBride over Pat Freiermuth pretty easily. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 1 still, even in a game that projects to be pretty rainy against a good Steelers secondary, he's still wide receiver 1. Nico's top 2. Jaden Reed is wide receiver 3 this week, guys. Needs to be started. Need to start Jaden Reed. These are the tier 1 guys this week. It is Lamb, Nico, Reed, Chase, Jefferson. Jefferson's obviously already playing. Then it's Debo. Debo needs to be started. Debo has a really big receiving ceiling in this game, but also he's leading all receivers in carries per game. Again, he's averaging 4 carries per game, and the Cardinals' run defense ranks bottom 5. So he also has a massive rushing ceiling and receiving ceiling. This is part of the reason Debo's ceiling is near the highest among all receivers in the NFL every week, because he can score rushing touchdowns, get rushing yards, and he can score receiving touchdowns, get a bunch of receiving yards. So yeah, I like Debo a lot in this game versus the Cardinals. And then DK Metcalf, Marvin Harrison Jr., Olave, Deontay Johnson wrap up the top 10. Deontay versus Dontavian Wicks, I think it's pretty close. I think Deontay Johnson has a safer floor than Wicks, but I actually like the ceiling for Wicks, maybe even a bit more than Deontay's ceiling against the Bears. Same thing with Olave. I mean, both these guys, though, are good starts in really good roles. Then it's Michael Pittman Jr. Honestly, I think I would start Pittman over Deontay and Olave. Pittman needs to be started with Joe Flacco starting in a good matchup versus the Jags. Then it's George Pickens, who had his best game of the season last week in a good matchup, albeit in a good matchup against the Colts. But Pickens has the most receiving yards among receivers without a touchdown. They're going to be in probably a pretty close game versus the Cowboys. I like Pickens a lot, his ceiling a lot this week. Amari Cooper's in a good matchup. Then it's Dontavian Wicks, man. Then it's Wicks. And again, I think Wicks over Deontay is not that crazy. If you're going for ceiling, Wicks over Pickens, not that crazy. I'm not playing Wicks over Pittman, though. Pittman's definitely got to be started there. Wicks over Olave, really not that crazy. Again, I would start all these guys, I think, over Wicks if you're going for the safer option. But Wicks does have a really high 30-plus point ceiling in this game today. Then it's Steph Diggs. Revenge game for Steph Diggs against the Bills. Bills defense banged up a decent bit. Prayers didn't help. Darnold struggling. Yeah. Sorry about that. I did tell you to bench Darnold if you were in the live during London time, start-sit decision mode earlier this morning. Brian Thomas Jr., great start. I think Brian Thomas Jr. versus Josh Downs is pretty close. I personally actually like Downs a little bit more than Brian Thomas Jr., but Brian Thomas Jr. has been great and projects a bit better than Downs. DJ Moore, revenge game for him against the Panthers. He's not a bad option this week at all. The volume's been pretty consistent for Moore. We haven't really seen a ceiling from this passing attack at all. And I am a little bit worried about the wind in this game. 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds, 28-mile-an-hour wind gusts, which is why I think I would go Downs over DJ Moore. I think Christian Kirk over DJ Moore is fine too. I like Christian Kirk more than Higgins, more than Sutton, more than Flowers, more than Wan'Dale. Wan'Dale obviously projects really well today without Nabers, over 30% target share, but I like Kirk a lot. I like Pickens more than Brian Thomas Jr., but it's close. But yeah, that wraps up the top 24. You got to start Downs. You should feel good starting Kirk. You got to start Wicks and Reed and Pittman too. I like Brian Thomas Jr. as well. Jalen Tolbert, a sneaky play this week against the Steelers tonight with Cooks out. He's going to be in a near every down role, wide receiver 2, really wide receiver 3 behind Ferguson and Lamb, but he should get some deep targets moving forward for the Cowboys. All right, let's move on to the running backs. Downs or Trey Sermon? Got to be Downs. Got to be Downs. Jacoby Myers, you should see a big role in this offense now without Adams, but tough match for him against the Broncos. I prefer Xavier Worthy and Rashid Shaheed over Myers and McLaurin. I play both those guys over Myers and McLaurin. Very intrigued about McLaurin if he can keep it going versus the Browns. I think we might be underrating him a little bit. Keon Coleman, a sleeper this week. Judy, a sleeper this week, too, in both good matchups. There's no Khalil Shakir this week. That should help Coleman. Tyreek Hill, I think, still has a really high ceiling. I'm still not terrified to start Tyreek Hill. All right, let's get to the running backs now. Let's switch to the running back ranks. I think the running backs like pretty clear tiers here this week for the running backs. Guys, again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience. Link to the YouTube is right on the TikTok bio. Just tap on the YouTube button. You're 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube live in a better viewing experience. All the same info, obviously. Running back 1 is Derrick Henry. Tier 1 is pretty clear. Honestly, I think it's Derrick Henry through Kenneth Walker. The top 5 running backs: Henry, Jordan Mason, Kyron, Kamara, Kenneth. Good luck if you're playing against these guys this week, guys. It's going to be tough. These guys are all going to smash. And I think actually Jordan Mason has the safest floor of all of these 5 running backs. Against the Cardinals, the Cardinals have allowed almost 80 points to running backs in the last 2 weeks. I mean, there's defenses that haven't even come close to 80 points allowed this season. Almost 80 total points to running backs, 4 total touchdowns, almost 350 total yards allowed to running backs. This is Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery, Brian Robinson, and Jeremy McNichols, combining for almost 80 points versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now we get Jordan Mason, who leads the NFL in rushing attempts against this Cardinals defense. A massive floor, massive ceiling for Mason. I think he's got a good shot to be RB1. He's in my DraftKings lineup this week. I also have Kenneth Walker in my DraftKings lineup against the Giants offense. He's playing the Giants defense, but he's playing a Giants team with no offense this week. No Malik Nabers, no Devin Singletary. They're going to get absolutely crushed in this game. That's going to benefit Kenneth Walker a lot, who looked great last week against a good Lions defense. Yeah, Aaron Jones went down. He was in the top of tier 2 for me. He got hurt in this game. But tier 2, I think, is pretty clear too. And Breece Hall was in tier 2 also for me this week. He's been struggling in this game also. I think he's at 1 yard per carry right now in this game. But yeah, Najee Harris is a smash play. I like Najee's prop. He's the free player prop of the live. Actually, Garrett Wilson, his receptions and receiving yards was the first 2 free player props in the live. If you're with me on London time this morning, those both already cashed. Shout out to Garrett Wilson. That breakout game, was not surprising in this matchup. Best matchup of the season for Garrett Wilson. Showed right out of the gates. Massive target total for Garrett Wilson this game. But Najee Harris, great start. Chuba Hubbard is the top of tier 3. He's been seeing massive workloads. Not the best matchup against the Bears, but the Bears' run defense has been worse than the Bears' secondary. And then Josh Jacobs in a really good spot. Honestly, I probably would start Josh Jacobs over Chuba Hubbard. James Cook, I think, is a decent spot too against the Texans. Texans' run defense has been good, but James Cook is really a really high floor guy because he's one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. And then also, if they get a lead, he's going to get some carries. The problem for James Cook is really the touchdowns, but this game should be really high scoring. He definitely has a chance at a touchdown today. That wraps out tier 3 with Jerome Ford. Chuba Hubbard, James Cook, Josh Jacobs. That's tier 3 right there. I like all those guys a lot more than the next tier. James Conner's the top of the next tier. I do not dislike him. Kind of a tough matchup versus the 49ers, but the role is there for James Conner. Brian Robinson, Travis Etienne, Achane. All these guys I think are decent starts. Javonte Williams as well. I think like in most of these start-sit decisions, I'm telling you to start these guys. I don't feel as great about them as the tier 2, tier 1 guys, but Etienne, Achane, Javonte, Brian Robinson, James Conner, they all project for pretty good roles today in both the run and pass game. Then it's Swift versus the Panthers. I actually have him in tier 5, actually with Brian Robinson. I like Brian Robinson a little bit less than some of these other guys. Oh, I'm in half PPR mode right now. Let's switch this to PPR on a YouTube live. We're into the fourth quarter in London, by the way. An hour till the kickoff of the early window games. Let's go. Wicks or Flowers? Got to be Wicks. So yeah, Swift should project well against the Panthers, and he does. He projects as a top, 20 running back. He was running back 3 last week, best game of the season by far. Had a rushing touchdown. Also had 7 catches for 72 yards, an insane 32% target share for Swift. He still only had 16 carries. 7 targets is a lot. He was out there for 63% of the snaps. My biggest skepticism, though, of DeAndre Swift is if he's actually the goal line back. He had 1 red zone carry last week, didn't get any goal line carries. I think Roschon Johnson is probably still the goal line back here. Swift is definitely a decent start this week. I just think last week's ceiling might be a little bit misleading. We'll see if that target total sticks up too with 3 really good receivers on the team. Alexander Madison's a volume-based back-end running back 2 this week. He's probably going to get 15-plus touches with Zamir White out. I do like Madison more than Hunt, more than Tracy, more than Mondre, more than Sermon, more than Akers, more than Moss. These are some of the sketchy running back start-sit decisions here now in these lower tiers. With Kareem Hunt, who I like more than Tyron Tracy, who I like more than Ramondre Stevenson, who I like more than Trey Sermon, who I like more than Cam Akers. I do agree with these rankings here. Why so low on James Conner? I'm not that low on James Conner. He's the top 16 running back. He ranks running back 16. I maybe should be a little bit higher on him in these ranks. He only played 58% of snaps. They got blown out last week. He's been a top 15 running back in 3 out of 4 games. So yeah, he maybe should be started over Javonte, over Achane, over Etienne. He should probably be closer to like running back 13, running back 12. I do think I would play Ford over Conner still with the matchups. And part of the fear with Conner too is they're 7.5-point underdogs in this game. Last week they got crushed. They still leaned on the run pretty heavily. I'm just not convinced the Cardinals can keep doing that. I don't know how they can keep doing that. All right, let's go to the high-level takeaways here. Let's go back to some of the start-sits. We are 3.5 in now. Let's make sure we got all the news, and then we'll go back to rapid-fire start-sits before we wrap up the live. Sauce Gardner got hurt. Aaron Jones got hurt. Rodgers got banged up a little bit in this game too. That's pretty much all the news I'm seeing on my Twitter feed here. All right, let's go rapid fire here. Brian Thomas Jr. versus James Cook. Oh, this one's pretty close. What's the score in this game right now? 17-10. Wow, 1-score game. Crazy. Feels like the Jets should be getting crushed. James Cook over Brian Thomas Jr. Don't hate it. Don't love it either. I think it's a close one. Both guys pretty good starts. Hey, Sam, need help for my flex this week. Full PPR. Wicks, Shaheed, Aiyuk, Higgins. Yeah, it's Aiyuk. Sorry, it's not Aiyuk. It is Wicks. I'm playing Wicks over Aiyuk. I think Higgins and Aiyuk, like both should be good wide receiver 2s. Both have a really high ceiling. I like Wicks more than both them. I like Higgins more than Aiyuk too in his game. But yeah, I'm going Wicks over both Aiyuk and Higgins. I'm going Downs over both them too. 2-2 or Downs. It's got to be Downs. Guys, Downs is a really, really good option this week. Really good. Same thing with Wicks. Mondre, Sermon, or Judy at flex. Oh, man. Yeah, this is PPR. I think it's between Mondre and And Judy. I really think Judy's a decent sleeper this week in PPR leagues against the Commanders secondary. He's been pretty underrated this season. I don't think he has a touchdown yet this year either. Actually, he might have scored week 1. Mondre. Yeah, it's Judy. Go Judy over Mondre. Go Judy over Sermon too in PPR. Brian Robinson Jr. or Jerome Ford. Yeah, that one's pretty close too. I do like the ceiling for B-Rob. I'm honestly, Brian Thomas. If it's Brian Robinson, it's Ford. Ford over Brian Robinson. Ford over Brian Thomas, I think, is actually tougher call. I feel like I'm telling too many people to bench Brian Thomas this week. Like, I don't really want to bench Brian Thomas this week against the Colts. But yeah, Ford is, I think, really good. Ford versus Wicks. I think it's Ford too. I think Ford has a really good floor and ceiling. Don't bench Jerome Ford, guys. Don't bench Jerome Ford. He's been really consistent all but week 2, which was like, he weirdly just didn't play that much. The floor is there for Jerome Ford for sure. ETN or Downs. Yeah, I lean Downs, I think, over ETN. I'm going Tyrone Tracy in full PPR over Moss. I'm going Mondre over Tyrone Tracy. I know that Mondre's not starting this week. I still think there's a decent chance Mondre gets the most touches in the backfield, though. Pick 2, Amari, Deontay, Johnson, B-Rob, Chuba, Ford. Also, do we have DFS? Yeah, Zach, I got you. Happy London time week, by the way. We're on London time this week. We're on London time next week and the following week. We got 3 straight London weeks coming up. Make sure you're tuning into the live early next week because you missed the Garrett Wilson props this morning. If you weren't on the live, I will get to the DFS lineup here in a second. Happy week 5, Zachary. Amari, Deontay, B-Rob, Chuba, Jerome Ford, all really good options, honestly. All of these guys are good options. Deontay, I want to start. I think Brian Robinson could probably be benched in this one. Amari, I want to start. Let's check this one out here. I think it's probably, I'm assuming this is PPR. So we're going to start Deontay. So let's compare Hubbard and Amari and Ford. I think that those are the guys this is between. I think Hubbard over Ford, though. So it's really Amari versus, it's Hubbard. Hubbard's seen a great role. I don't really love starting Deontay and Hubbard, though. Like, honestly, I might just go Deontay and Ford or Deontay and Amari if this is PPR. Go with the receivers over the running backs. With the weather in that game, by the way, the Panthers, Bears game, 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds, 28-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Let me just refresh the weather report here as well. I don't think much has changed. Oh, the looks like the winds actually died down a little bit in that game. Doesn't seem like the Jags Colts rain is going to be that bad. Seems like all the weather honestly is subsiding a bit. But yeah, this is a super, super close one. I definitely think you should start Deontay, though. And that kind of makes me want to start Chuba Hubbard like a little bit less, even though he projects the best out of these other guys. Don't really love starting running back receivers from the same team. Kraft over Frymuth for sure. Go back to the tight end ranks here. Hunter Downs, got to be Downs. Got to be Downs over Hunt. Guys, start Josh Downs, start Dontavian Wicks. Both these guys are the starts of the week for wide receiver. Tyreek Hill or Wan'Dale or Hunt. Yeah, so it's Wan'Dale and Tyreek here over Hunt. Start Wan'Dale and Tyreek. Achane over Tracy. Pittman over Downs. We start Purdy or Stroud today. Yeah, I lean Stroud for the ceiling, Purdy for the floor. I think Stroud's better. Purdy projects a tiny bit better. They actually, I think, have like very similar projections. I like Stroud in that game against the Bills, though, being really high scoring. It's Downs over Hunt, guys, easily. Can you pick 2? Flowers, Higgins, Wicks, Downs. Yeah, so it's the last 2 here. Play Wicks, play Downs over Higgins and Flowers. Bowers over Frymuth easily. Guys, there's no Adams, and the Broncos are really good against receivers. All right, we're going to get a few more here in the YouTube. Ford, Thomas Jr., Wicks, Downs, PPR. Yeah, I think it's the last 2 here again. Ford is worth considering here, but I think just go Wicks and Downs. And I don't like benching Brian Thomas Jr., Brady. Like Brian Thomas Jr. projects better than both these guys. I mean, it's a really tough decision here. I actually think Wicks maybe, these guys are really close in projection. I mean, really close. Brian Thomas has the highest ceiling with Wicks. Maybe just go BTJ and Wicks, honestly, over Downs. If you want the ceiling, go Brian Thomas Jr. over Downs. Downs is the floor. Brian Thomas Jr. is the ceiling. And Wicks is honestly like a good combination of both. So I would go Wicks, Thomas, then Downs in terms of ceiling. I would go Downs, Wicks, then Thomas in terms of floor. So you got to make the floor just ceiling decision yourself. I like Jerome Ford this week too, by the way, but I don't think more than these receivers in PPR. Deontay or Pittman. Yeah, I'm going Pittman over Deontay. Ferguson or Bowers. Let me go to the DraftKings lineup here, Joe. I know someone was asking for that before we wrap up. I would go Ferguson over Bowers, Matt. There were 2 and 3 tight end ranks respectively. We'll go to the tight end ranks here again. Terry or Pickens. Yeah, it's Pickens over Terry. Like not even that close. I know Terry's been playing well, but Pickens has the most yards at receiver without a touchdown, coming off his best game of the season. And the game tonight's going to be close. I really do think Pickens is a really good start. Hunt or Ford. I go Ford over Hunt easily. I'm playing Amari over Sutton, and then I'm playing Fields over Kyler and Downs over DJ Moore. Yeah, a lot of start sits here. Matt, I just ripped through all of them, though. All right, let's go to the DraftKings lineup here one more time. I like the Joe Flacco, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs double stack, running it back with Brian Thomas Jr., who's a really high ceiling. And then I'm also double stacking Kraft and Reed together. I think this is going to be a really differentiated, unique lineup because I'm doing this. Because I'm paying down from min price Joe Flacco against the Jags, who ranked dead last against quarterbacks this season. I get Jordan Mason, Kenneth Walker, both have running back 1 overall upside. And then I'm flexing Jaden Reed as well with the Dolphins defense versus Jacoby Brissett. Don't bench Josh Allen, playing over Fields. I think Allen versus Daniels. Honestly, I think I lean Allen over Daniels if I had to choose. I think the floor and ceiling is just a bit better for Josh Allen, even though Daniels projects a bit better. Leggett or Jordan Whittington at flex. Yeah, I think that one's Whittington over Leggett, just given the matchups there. Billy, how we doing? Juwan Jennings, Whittington, Tolbert. TT Jr. or Atwell at flex? Who's TT Jr.? BT Jr.? Brian Thomas Jr.? That's Brian Thomas. Is Brian Thomas here? Easily Brian Thomas. Otherwise, I think it's probably Juwan Jennings, then Tutu, then Whittington. Oh, Tyrone Tracy Jr. That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I would go Tracy here. I think I would probably go Jennings, then Atwell. Let's actually do this really quick. This is a good start sit. Tutu, Jennings. Oh, Tolbert's in here too. Tolbert projects really well. Also, all right, let's do Tolbert versus Tyrone Tracy. Yeah, it's Tolbert. Go with Tolbert over Tracy. Tolbert over Whittington, over Juwan Jennings. Tolbert over Atwell. Tolbert's going to be in a near every down role in this game tonight. Not the best matchup, but I don't hate it. I think I'd go Tolbert. If you have Kyler, would you go Marv? Yeah, I'm fine still going Fields over Kyler. Honestly, Christian, it's all about how much risk you're willing to take on for how much upside, right? Like the stack gives you correlated upside and correlated downside, right? So if Kyler plays really well, probably Marvin Harrison Jr. plays really well too. Kyler plays really bad, Marvin Harrison Jr. more likely to play bad also. So there's a correlation there. If you're projected to lose like by a lot this week, then I'd go with the stack. If you're not, I think going Fields and Marv is the safe play. All right, on the YouTube live, guys, that's my time. We almost hit 4 hours on this live stream today. I'm going to get to the TikTok live subscriber comments, and I'll also be in the Discord over the next 45 minutes for all the WalterPicks app subscribers. The link to the Discord is in the YouTube description. If I didn't get to your start sit, go to the Discord, link up your WalterPicks subscription. I got you over the next 45 minutes with start sits. Also, of course, just use the WalterPicks app. It's got you with the start sits too. Even better than I possibly can. Knows all your custom league settings. You can research all of the data just like I'm doing on these live streams. So check out the WalterPicks app too if I didn't get your start sit. Again, link is in the YouTube description. Guys, time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me today on London time. Good luck this week, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back live Tuesday night.